What are you? Stop.
Keep it up.
What are you doing?
Don't stop.
Keep it doing.
There you go.
Slower.
Yeah, all right.
You can't do that here.
Do it at about this pace.
We're all.
Okay.
There's a video camera. People are watching.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
We're not live yet.
I'm waiting for the dings. Ding.
I was going to come in
Ding,
with
ding.
a stock standard intro and be all, hey, it's week 2 of having the New York guys out here. What a great time to have a full house.
You can still do it.
No, I think that ship sailed already.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Stop it. Can't take you guys anywhere.
That's true.
It's the Giant Bombcast. Everyone is here still.
Still anything could happen.
We haven't left.
Can't get rid of us.
Part of me wishes I dragged Matt Rory in here just to fill that last seat.
Oh, yeah.
I think you said that last week.
I did say that last week.
He said he was
I
very
still
busy.
feel that way.
Matt Roy's
He's-
running around looking at
He's got merchandise
going on.
He's screaming at T-shirts.
He's got new samples in.
Yeah, he does have samples of product.
You know he smuggles his own cream cheese in here? He
I
told
wouldn't
us that
call
this
it
morning.
Smuggled.
I guess it's not like against the law or anything, but
So
he has
his-
his own like personal bag, like Ziploc bag of cream cheese.
His feelings,
he brings his own stuff.
his feelings on reduced fat cream cheese are well documented.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
this
yeah,
has been-
it's full fat is better, but yeah, I think reduced fat will
tastes
work.
better.
It was weird that
perhaps,
he had them taped to himself.
Yeah,
Like,
yes.
like
up and down his torso.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like
Well, I don't know.
bricks of.
I don't think you have this in New York, but they actually have a detector that you go through at the front, a cream cheese detector.
Yeah.
That's just scan
Oh.
your badge. So don't try and bring that shit.
How do
in
I get
here.
that job?
It's all.
It's not a
you
job;
bring.
it's a robot that does it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
damn it!
Yeah.
There's the DeepMind AI
Yep.
has been deployed to detect cream cheese coming through the door.
Alarms
how it
will
starts.
go off and the proper food, and the employees come running out. Yeah.
So what do you do?
I watched the guy get his throat cut.
Jeez, that's
Yeah.
pretty rough.
Yeah.
I'd
What
say-
you do is you ride a bike in because the people on bikes go in through the underground and then they can.
Oh, the
come up
cream
in
cheese
elevator.
underground.
Yeah, the cream cheese underground.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
The whole triangle trade thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Cream cheese for molasses.
Farm to table.
The guy down there is willing to look the other way if you
Jeez.
slip him the right
San
stuff.
Francisco is a tough place to live.
Yes.
Yes.
The
Go on.
the cream cheese flows in New York, man. Come, man. Come, baby. Come there. Cream cheese
Rivers-
is right on the streets. It's right out there.
Rivers of cream cheese.
Just
Yeah.
walking down the street
Just
on a
walk-
Friday,
yeah.
they're just throwing locks at you.
where the streets are paved with cream.
I saw a guy just cream cheese a bagel right on the fucking corner.
No.
No,
Just
they have
right
the
in the
weird
open.
Right out in the
patties.
open.
They have the squares of cream cheese because they have the street carts there. And I remember in August, I went by one. I was like, "Oh, bagel and cream cheese
Yeah.
for $1.50." And I thought they were going to spread it, and they just handed me the thing. And I was like,
big
"What
old
are these
bucket?
pre-spread?" But no, it's like little squares
Yep.
of cream cheese that they just
Yep,
give
they
to you.
they bake them right in.
They don't have time to fucking spread the cream cheese for you. Do you know how many people live in New York? Do you know how many bagels they got to sell in a day?
It seemed like a lot. Yeah.
I went to a wrestling thing and they were just vaping cream cheese right in the open.
Vinny,
That
that,
wasn't
was,
cream cheese,
that was not
no.
cream cheese.
And they
Inhaling
said,
particulate.
They said when the thing started, they said, do what you want with your drinking and your cream cheese, but if you hear me say the code word, put your fucking cheese away.
No, it's cream cheese is one of the most popular vape flavors out here. We sell a lot of it.
Cream cheese
Oh, by
flavored
the way,
vape
we
cream
started a vape flavor cave over downstairs. That
Okay.
we're
Cave.
selling e-juices out of.
I saw that proper
Vapes.
Yeah, I
It's
saw that.
if you want to rip fat clouds.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
Artisanal clouds.
Yeah, I saw that. It's weird.
It's
convenient,
It's a
though.
living.
Yeah.
Just a fat cotton coming out of there day and night.
Yeah, the whitest cream cheese. Just
the whitest
Yeah.
plumes.
The whitest cream cheese you know.
You know,
it's
get
one
some
of
of
my
that
favorite TV shows.
Philadelphia
and we have a tie-in with them.
Pure.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Pure
cheese. I don't know
PP.
any other brand of cream cheese.
Blue Bonnet's butter, right?
yeah.
Philadelphia.
I've seen that.
I mean, what's the
Is anybody else worth talking about?
What's
but
the one they get here?
Philly?
Oh, it
Starts with an N.
Noah's is the
it
bagel
Noah's?
place.
Oh, I
Maybe
don't-
they make their own cream cheese.
I don't know where that cream cheese comes from.
I don't either.
I don't ask.
Nobody does.
It just
I
shows-
think cream cheese is disgusting.
it just
Really? It's
shows
so
up.
good.
It's yucky.
I
don't
will
like
eat
it.
cream cheese raw.
Raw?
From the teat.
Can't do
boy.
it.
Yeah.
Can't
Comes
do
out
it.
of a teat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
You got to massage.
I
it
guess
a
from the
little bit.
beginning, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that is the
It is,
entry
it is
point
dairy
to the
based.
world.
It is dairy
Genesis.
based.
That's what farm to table means.
Yeah. Just get an old cow and cream cheese is right out of that thing.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Got
Was
massage the prostate.
Was that your first hit slam?
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd it go?
It was good. It was fun and enjoyable. Everybody there seemed to be having fun.
You're first
yeah,
and Dan's last, I guess.
Yeah,
For the
last while I
foreseeable
live
future.
here.
Yeah.
yeah.
Everybody seemed to be having fun. You can get very, very close to the action.
Oh yeah.
Which seemed at times like a mistake.
We were very close to. I think Drugs Bunny jumped right over our heads and
A couple
landed on
of
the floor
people
next
decided
to us.
to leave the ring and join the audience.
We'll get wet, might get soaked kind of thing.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah, I
first
was
3 rows,
splashing.
splatter area.
Vinny got Drugs Bunny Coke on him. I think we all got some whiskey on us.
I did not. I backed away.
Oh, no whiskey? Okay,
No.
we didn't get any cheese this time. That was
So
good.
I saw somebody came out and said they were Zangief and started fighting a woman who was claimed to be a pizza cat.
Yes.
samurai pizza cat?
Shotzi,
No,
Shotzi
really?
Blackheart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, she's great.
And then there was 3 people came out. They were going to wrestle.
Yeah.
They were on the same team. Who were they called? There was a man. There was
The
a
Caution?
robot.
Caution, yeah.
Caution.
Dark Chic and yeah.
And then 2 other people came out, and they had belts that looked like monsters.
Right. They were the Galactic Tag Team Champions.
And then one was a Chupacabra, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's correct.
And then Ken and Ryu came out.
You
to
forgot
do-
when Zangief retired.
He
It
did
got like
retire
a
at the
heartfelt
end.
retirement
Street
speech and then a
Fighter
thank
V
you
has had
Zangief
problems,
chant.
yeah.
Huh.
Wow.
It seemed like a genuine. I don't know the real story there.
Did anyone tell Capcom about this? That Zangief's retiring? I feel like they should know.
I
Here's
feel
my
like
thi-
there were some former Capcom employees in the audience.
Oh, okay.
I think they
Capcom
know.
employees have been going for a long
Yeah,
time.
okay.
Yeah.
So probably
yeah.
the weirdest part to me is when Ken and Ryu came out, full dress.
Yeah. I mean, they dressed to fight. So
They
Yeah,
dressed
true.
to fight.
I mean, they're just wearing
I'll see
geese,
what
so...
but then kind of got up and just started flipping off the crowd, and yelling obscenities.
Like Ken.
That's not very honorable.
Ken, I could see that from.
Maybe.
Ken's
he's a
kind of a
hothead.
dirtbag.
He's a hothead.
And then they had just like 17 people fighting in a ring, and then one threw another one out of the ring into the crowd because they're right there.
Yeah.
So the crowd backs away.
Wait, is the crowd not there to cushion them?
No.
No.
No, the crowd moves out of the way.
They just hit the floor.
Cushioning is not really in the cards.
What do they
in
land
general.
on?
They warn you ahead of time, like, hey, they're going to be flying out of the ring.
Don't
and
touch them.
fuck
No,
the
I'm
fans,
more
you
worried
know.
about the wrestlers.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
what,
they-
what do they land on?
They land on wood.
Well, at some point it was themselves because everybody else then decided to jump out of the ring.
Onto the first. Yeah.
There was like 7 people, and then a really large guy, very large guy, who had been his tag team partner was a Bruce Lee standee.
The cardboard cutout of Juiced Lee, yeah.
Jumped, and he must have been like 250 pounds onto
Probably more.
everybody, and that was really scary.
Hey, some of those big boys are real athletic.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying physics.
Do you remember Vader from back in the day? Big Van Vader?
Sure.
Big burly dude. That
Yeah.
dude can do moonsaults
Yeah.
off the top rope.
I'm not saying he can't.
Yeah.
I'm saying that
Maybe he shouldn't.
when you're that close to it, and a man says, "Trust me, I'm a wrestler, man," and you're like, "I guess so because you're in the ring and I'm not," and then it's like, "I'm gonna jump from this 10-foot high post into you." You back away.
Yes.
And then I closed my eyes every time somebody jumped because I was just waiting for like.
You sound like the perfect mark, actually.
I saw a lot of
Yeah.
wincing coming from Vinny. Anytime somebody did like a superplex or something, I'd turn around and he would be mid-wince.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's what you're supposed to do, right?
I mean, yeah,
Are you
that stuff
supposed to
hurts.
enjoy
No,
that?
you're supposed to celebrate the violence. That's the whole point.
I mean,
Yeah,
they know
there's a
what they're
certain
in
amount
for.
of bloodlust, and I understand like the contact high may have like dulled everyone's senses to a point.
But like it looked very painful,
Yeah.
all of it, and like the parts not when they're like doing this, ow,
Yeah, no,
ow,
yeah,
like
yeah.
when they're literally somebody tries to suplex somebody and it's like, ooh, he's slipping out of your okay, all right,
I
sure.
took a few hip
You
toss-
kind of caught him, but like that's not how
Yeah.
it looks like on TV because he's just sliding down your hands.
I took a few hip tosses in that exact same ring
Yeah.
2 years ago for our Game of the Year stuff. And for weeks afterwards, whenever I like raised my arm to brush my teeth, I would have to like switch hands for the toothbrush. For hip tosses, those are tiny little
That's
buttons.
just a simple little flip over
Yeah.
for those
I've
at
seen
home.
people limp away from the fake PAX wrestling,
Right.
In
Oh,
ways
yeah.
that are like,
Yeah.
like that was like a thumb sprain or something, and like this, I don't know. Kudos to them. I don't know if I could go see that more than once.
It's a lot of
Oh,
training
really?
to learn how to take those bumps on
Yes.
those kinds of chintzy ass rings.
I mean, those guys look like a lot of them are in amazing shape. Like that. Who was that one guy who just looked like this?
Oh,
looks like-
Brian Cage.
he looked like an
oh yeah,
action
Brian Cage.
figure.
He's not a man. He's a machine.
Yes.
Looked like he was in amazing shape,
Yes.
and like the guy was just lifting people up and throwing them. Yeah,
As you do. Yeah, that's,
And
Adult
then,
men.
you
part
know,
of the job.
the ring looks
don't worry.
fashioned by Boy Scouts, right? Like on like a weekend project, but then it's moored to 4 cement posts that are cemented into the ground.
Okay.
So not more than a foot away from this really tissue Kleenex looking turnbuckle is a giant cement post, and people are getting thrown inches away from it.
Yeah.
But they all gave each other very limp handshakes before
That's
the
true.
night started, so they all trusted each other. Right.
Yeah, that seemed like there's a lot of trust. I mean, there are definitely people, if you don't have to squint to see it, they'd be like, and then get up, and then they'd be like kind of crawling back, and as soon as they'd reach their corner, redoing this, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, like definitely a lot of bloody lips. And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was your first Joey Ryan experience?
who was that?
He was the penis man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cock-based offense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, did he utilize?
Not in the first round when he fought Nurse Ratched. He did scream, "Nurse Ratched, grab my dick" at the beginning, but she did not grab his dick.
Really?
That's
He
probably
did.
to her
He had
credit.
some blow pops in there.
Intrigue.
So yeah, he took out.
Oh,
a
she put the blow
lollipop.
pop in his butt.
Yeah.
Right in there.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then fed it back to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Which,
naturally.
which
yeah.
is, I assume that happens every.
Yeah.
Yes.
Joey Ryan is going to be in that
Grand
Chuck
tradition.
Tingle game.
Right.
That got kickstarted.
So it was a lot of fun. Like the crowd, everybody's a heel, I guess.
I mean, no.
No,
Heels
there
are
are
more
some people you're
fun.
supposed to cheer
Yeah.
for.
Like Drugs Bunny is a babyface.
He's well liked.
Yeah.
He came up and everybody just screamed "F you" to everybody else.
That's kind of the Hood Slam
That's the
thing.
Hood Slam.
Yeah, it's like
okay.
that's like greeting at Hood Slam.
It's fuck the fans is the
Yeah.
Hood Slam motto. So
It was awesome. Like there was a lot of fun to be had. The technical, every time a mic went off, there was amazing feedback in a way that I have never heard before in 20 years of hearing feedback. Just like ear splitting. Drew, you can back
Speaking
this
of
up.
cringing,
Like
yeah,
that was
tough to
amazing.
watch.
But like kind of fit the aesthetic. I feel like of just like
Yeah, for that show, you need a sound guy who is completely disengaged.
no, I mean the technical producer seemed like he was running around.
Yes.
and
I
seemed
really
like
felt
the
for that
most
guy.
serious man I've ever seen
Yes.
before in my life. And then they said they were filming a National Geographic documentary.
yeah, Barry Blaustein, the director of Beyond the Mat, was there, and
Awesome.
Yeah, gave a little speech beforehand and told us not to look at the National Geographic camera.
Also said the
So-
fuck the fans, and then everybody said fuck you, and then he went back and cheered, and life went on.
Yep.
And then we left like about 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah.
And then because there was some kind of like ladder thing happening, and
It was
had
a
seen
tournament, the Hood
we
Fighter
had seen
tournament.
everybody wrestle, and then at some point
yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, okay, the balance of I'm not drinking that much, but everybody else has continued to.
Yep, yes.
It got out of whack, where people were just doing the like banging into everybody and trying to get through, and it just at some point was like, we need to leave.
Too sober for this.
Yes, I became too sober for this.
Yeah.
But yeah, they put on a show.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
they do.
And that it looks like a lot of hard work.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys take it seriously.
Yeah.
It's they're taking their bumps. They're putting a show together.
Yeah,
They're doing good stuff.
Yeah, and I hope everybody made it out okay.
Yeah.
Because
Seemed like it.
there were
No reports of injuries from that show that I'm aware of.
no.
I've never heard of a crowd injury or anything at Hood Slam. You know.
So yeah, people are nimble.
Just, people who are silly enough to get into the ring with actual Hood Slam competitors. Those are the only real injuries to speak of.
That's any wrestling show though.
Yeah.
so yeah, that was fun.
Sounds like a hell of an evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it super packed? Like every time I've gone there, it's
Yes.
just been shoulder to
was
shoulder,
very
and it's
crowded.
just so hot in there. Like
It
they've
wasn't-
got like 5 like industrial sized fans blowing through there, but it's still not enough.
I actually wasn't as hot as I
Good.
thought it was going to be. It was in a opera house.
Yeah, the Metro Oakland Metro Opera House.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was in like
not,
a warehouse.
but not
It's,
an opera
it
house.
is a warehouse. Yeah.
It's
For
where-
opera.
It felt
They
like
have a lot of bands play there.
Yeah, it felt like I was going to see like a local band done
Yeah.
that did well.
They do metal shows there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
That makes sense.
I mean, to be fair, you probably weren't as hot because you'd been icing your hand all day, so your core body temperature was like a degree or two lower than everyone
Yeah,
else's.
how's it doing over there?
It's doing fine.
Better?
Yeah.
Speaking of taking bumps,
Okay.
Yeah, doing okay.
A little bit.
The color is a thing,
Still
but-
looking a little
Seems like
mushy,
your
but-
hand mostly is back to the normal consistency.
Yeah, pre-VR. So, yeah, thanks
Great.
for everybody for asking. I'm doing all right.
Great.
Nothing's broken. That's the important part.
Yeah.
All right, Alex Navarro.
Hi.
I'm calling you out
Oh, no.
Oh no.
because you are the person in this room who has played a bunch of The Last Guardian.
I sure have.
That thing came out.
Oh, but is this the video game music?
That
No, okay.
thing
Yes.
exists
It sure did. It came out midnight
Shit.
last night.
to retail.
Yeah.
People are buying it as we speak.
It's a real ass video game.
Did you finish it yet?
No,
Are you
I
pretty
think
close?
I'm pretty close.
Okay.
I would say I'm probably about 10 hours into it.
Okay.
I think Peter Brown told me. So there's a trophy in there to finish it in 15. And I think there's another one to finish it in 5, which I guess you could do if you knew the solutions to all the puzzles and just kind of wanted to run through it.
Wait, but can you?
Speedrunning is like not the thing I want to do in that game.
Not necessarily.
It's a weird
So
trophy.
is there like a new game plus where you'll have the ability to manage the bird Trico in a more efficient way from the beginning of the game? Because
I don't think so.
Well, there's not like a skill tree, right?
No, there's no
Yeah.
skill tree at
But
all.
I thought he accepts more commands. As
He
you
does. So
move
there's
forward.
a point in the game, you get a few hours in where, so this is one of the few beefs I have with it, is that it's not the best about naturally sort of introducing new things. It kind of just tells you, oh, you can do this now through the narration. And it's not always the best about framing that in a way that makes a lot of sense. It's just sort of like, the bond I have with Trico now is good, so I can command it.
this is like a pop-up
It's
that
written a
shows-
little
oh, wow.
bit more with a little bit more
Yeah.
finesse than that. But yes, that's the idea.
And that means like you can issue commands all
yes.
of a sudden?
So
Okay.
when you first meet up with Trico in that game, the only way you can really command it to do anything is you have this shield that you're holding that you can like shoot beams of light at things with, and it will attack whatever you shoot
like
the light
like a
beam at.
laser pointer with a cat. At home.
Yes,
Gotcha.
exactly. It
Okay.
is totally a laser pointer. And then you lose that pretty early on. And then a little bit after that, you start being able to command Trico more regularly.
Can I ask a very reductive question?
By all means.
Is this game eco with a bird dragon instead of an ethereal princess type lady?
In some ways.
Is it that?
I feel like it is splitting the difference in a lot of ways between Eco and Shadow.
Okay.
But
very much that style of game.
it is totally a
Okay.
Ueda game. There is no getting around that.
Yeah.
So if you are not into that style of game, this will not do anything for you. That said, I am into that style of game. I like what they make, and I think for the most part, it splits that difference really nicely. The thing I'm most impressed about it with is the Trico stuff. Like, Trico is a fully fleshed out character despite being a wild animal that never talks. It has a little bit of a personality to it. Like, you can kind of, just in the way that it moves and the way that it kind of reacts to you, the way it kind of moans when you're too far away from it. Like, it just sort of whines in your direction. The way you have to climb up and sort of pet it on the head when it gets really agitated after a combat thing.
It doesn't like eyeballs, apparently.
It does not like eyeballs, which as someone mentioned to me on Twitter, I forget who it was, they said that eyeball things are basically used as scarecrows a lot in Japan, so that might be like why that iconography has that sort of connotation to it. But
Is that through one specific part of the game? Because we did the quick look that's on the site now,
Yes.
and that was very heavy on the eyeball stuff.
so the eyeball thing keeps recurring, but it's not constant. Like, there are long stretches where you don't see any of that, and it's different kinds of environmental puzzles. But like, that is sort of a recurring theme, is that whenever you see that icon, whether it's on a mirror or sometimes the bad guys will be holding up a shield that has that icon on it, and like, Trico will not attack that enemy until you just straight up fucking run up and knock that thing out of their hand.
So, like, that seems to be a pretty core thing, right? That's when you
Yes.
have to disengage from Trico. The little kid has to go solve this puzzle to get Trico to advance by getting rid of the eye iconography somewhere.
Yes.
And then Trico goes somewhere, and then you have to jump and then grab Trico's tail, and you move on to the next puzzle.
That's the recurring rhythm of the game, is doing things in the environment to make sure that the both of you can pass through to the next area. Sometimes it's involving those eye things. Sometimes it's just like, getting into narrow corners where there's like switches to open gates and stuff like that. It's all pretty simple environmental puzzle stuff. The challenge just comes from sussing out exactly where you need to go and what you need to do. It's just about exploring the environments a little bit.
So the thing for me, it seemed like this game was exactly what they sold.
Yes.
Yeah.
In
From
the
the
E3
beginning.
demo.
I mean, all the way back
Yeah, like, kind of. Like,
9 years ago.
I don't know. Al, you've played the most of it, obviously. Like, is there any surprise in there, or is it like go through these environmental puzzles with your dragon?
No,
tail?
I think the structure of that game is in no way a surprise to me. Like, it felt like what they kind of, like you said, is what they sold it as. It looked very much like what they showed in the demo I sat through 2 years ago at E3, where that Ueda was there, and like, that was when they let me put my hand on a controller for judging purposes to say this is a real game.
Right.
And it's like, that was that bridge section, and I did that, and it still feels pretty much like it did then. So I feel like, they definitely didn't sell a bill of goods here. This is what that game is. But again, the surprise for me was just how well the Trico stuff is done. I know some people are going to find some real frustration with that, because he is behaves like a wild animal. It's similar to the horse in Shadow.
Okay.
Where like sometimes you will tell it to do something and it doesn't want to.
Is Trico like a baby or?
No,
and
Trico's just an easily distracted animal.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you mentioned like climbing up on him to scratch his head when he gets agitated. What happens if you don't do that? Will he just refuse to budge and move forward? Like, do you have to do that, or is that just like a fun Nintendogs scratch his head type thing?
The only time you have to do that is when he's fully agitated, like after a combat thing, because he just gets real uppity and is like, you know, kind of looking around, like real defensive, doesn't really want to go anywhere. So just jump up. Give him a little pat on the head,
That's
you know, for another minute or two. He might thrash around a little more, and then he'll just calm down.
Is that stuff obvious? Like, can you tell, like, oh, he needs the pet thing to
It is very
alleviate-
obvious about what you need to do when Trico is not cooperating. So if it's the combat thing, you got to pet him. If he just lays down and doesn't move, that means he needs food, which just means you have to find a barrel that's nearby, which has his blue glowing food goo in it. And that's it.
That's pretty great that he can convey that. So there's no like meter, like agitation meter
No.
saying. Okay.
Every once in a while you'll get narration that kind of is like, hey, there's nothing to do now. You have to go find food because Trico doesn't want to do anything. But like, that's it. That's the most indication you get.
Is there any like persistent upgrade situation, like even in Shadow, you can find those lizards and increase your grip meter?
No.
Nothing.
None
at
of
all.
that.
Okay.
You're
not leveling up anything.
So
Collectibles, anything like that? It's just like
No.
So
It is-
So it's just go from A to B, solve puzzles
Just
along the
go
way.
from A to B, solve the puzzles, deal with occasional enemies that don't really fight you. They just try to grab you and drag you through some sort of weird spirit door.
That's kind of how
Eco.
the shadow things in Eco work.
Yeah. So it's that same sort of premise.
Can I
But
get-
that is a game over when that happens, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, it actually has one of the better checkpoint systems I've seen in a game, where it's like, even if it does start you back a little bit, it's a very little bit. And actually, the way the save system works, like it pretty much just boots you up to the exact spot where you were before.
Okay.
How much like leap of faith type stuff do you have to do? Because there were several points in that
Oh,
quick look
yeah,
where it's like, I hope something happens and he grabs me.
So that has happened like a grand total of 2 or 3 times since then. The rest of the time, it's really not that. There have actually been times when I've had to rescue Trico from combat situations. Like, you know, he's trapped on a pedestal, and I have to find a way to get a drawbridge down while these enemies are like chucking spears at him. So there's a little bit of back and forth with that. It's not just him constantly rescuing you from, you know, sheer drops or whatever.
I have a question.
Go for it.
I hope it doesn't come off as shitty. Let me put it this way. Does it feel old in any way? Because I've seen
In some ways.
some of the other reviews out there have kind of harped on like parts of this feel like a PS2 game. I was like, wait a minute, that seems like extra harsh.
Yeah,
I would have thought like PS3, sure, but
yeah, I think the PS2 is maybe going a little hard on it, but
Yeah.
there's definitely some PlayStation 3 legacy stuff you can see in there. Like there are definite parts of the environment where you can tell that was going to be a flat texture on the last system, and they just added a whole bunch of like, you know, kind of wavy like vine shit on this part. The thing that's most vexing is that, so I'm playing on a regular PS4, not a Pro. There are parts of that game that just run like absolute dog shit. There aren't a ton of them, but when it happens, it's pretty jarring. And it's shocking to me that like that happens, because there are open areas where that doesn't happen at all, like big giant set pieces around you, and it doesn't really do that. But sometimes you'll be like near one of those and walking through a narrow walkway, and suddenly the frames will just drop to like 10 for no reason. So that's really frustrating. I don't know why that still happens, but apparently on the Pro, at least from what I read on like Digital Foundry, it sounds like most of that is alleviated.
yeah, I saw their article this morning. Yeah,
Yeah.
On a Pro at 1080, it runs at like a good 30.
Yeah.
but at 4K, apparently, it also runs like shit.
Yeah, so I don't know about all of that. I will say that like just the general look of the game, I think they've done a fairly admirable job of like upscaling a lot of whatever, I guess, textures and art they had generated for the PS3 version to make it not look like just an HD update of a PS3 game. Like I think that there's some really cool visual effects stuff in there. I really like the way that the boy and that Trico look and the way they animate, and just, you know, little touches like the fact that, you know, whenever Trico takes an injury, like gets a spear or whatever, the bloodstain stays for the rest of the game. Like little things like that. It's like, okay, so this, you know, anything that happens to this character will be worn kind of on it over time.
That's a neat touch.
Wait, can Trico die?
As far as I know, no.
What
You
if
can
just-
die.
What
but,
if you just waited there while they threw spears at him?
that I don't know. I haven't.
You're the monster.
I haven't tried to wait around to see if that took place. I think in the end, Trico will eventually just kill everything, no matter what. It might take longer. I don't know.
Can you get different skins for Trico?
Not that I've seen.
Valcors.
Yeah, no, that's in the free to play model that's coming later.
Buffalo Wild Wings
Yeah, I've
skin
been trying
for
to
Trico.
been trying to get a hold of that Target skin, but it's really hard to get.
Hard to get.
Yeah.
Every time I go, God damn it! Yeah, I'm really mad about that. I keep
Wait,
going to
actually?
Target and I can't find the fucking.
Really?
Yeah, I can't find the. Anyway,
I gave
sorry.
up on that stuff.
Sorry.
All right, this sounds okay.
That's the thing.
It sounds like a known quantity.
There are things about it that I am frustrated by, the tech issues. There are some puzzles that are just real sloppy and just don't feel like they're like they rely too much on Trico being in the exact right position to do something for it to work. But the majority of what I've played, I've really enjoyed, and I think that if you were expecting the moon out of this thing, what you're actually going to get is another Team Eco game.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really good one of those, and I think there's some really admirable stuff in there.
It's been a long time since there was one of those.
It sure has.
So
A long time.
yes.
What do you think Ueda does after this? Do you think he
I don't know.
sticks-
So I was actually I'm a little confused to hear you say he was at an E3 meeting 2 years ago, because it's been forever since that news got out that he was no longer a Sony employee, and like they've had him on contract, and I guess he was around helping, but
But that's the thing.
he's
is that
not
I-
he's not a full-time Sony employee anymore.
I think his contract with the company came up, and I think they wanted him to finish the game,
Yeah.
so they kept him on under that contract role as director and supervisor. But
Right.
like he started, I think, a new team somewhere, and I'm just wondering, okay, is he going to continue to make games for PlayStation? Is he going to go multi-platform, or is he just going to make other weird art that isn't games? Who's to say?
What is Team Eco? Are they?
Well, it's not Team Eco anymore.
What is it?
I thought they changed the name to something else. It was an internal team.
So it is Sony first party.
I think it's Sony
it
first
is.
party.
Yeah, you should really pay attention to the credits in this game.
Yeah, I will.
Because like you were hearing for years as this game was not discussed publicly that like every Sony studio under the sun was taking a crack at it,
Oh,
or
really?
helping
Yeah.
out with parts of it, like Sony Santa Monica and stuff like that. Supposedly, who knows? If that's
It's fascinating though, because it doesn't feel like a Frankenstein work. It doesn't feel like a lot of disparate pieces like competing to try and find a way to work together. Like it feels like a coherent game for the most part. I feel like.
All right.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah,
Dead Rising 4 is also out this week.
boy, it is.
Yeah,
I've played some of that.
I played a little bit
You,
of that.
you played a little bit. I think I'm like 5 hours into it or something. Vinny, you watched.
I watched you.
Yeah, I watched a really quick look too.
I watched
I
you take some
probably played
selfies.
about like the first hour or so, maybe something like that. I played Case Zero.
Okay. So I mean, you basically got to the point where the open world starts opening up.
Yeah, and
So, well,
and
you're stuck
weirdly
in-
enough, that was the spot where I was like, yeah, okay.
You're stuck in the mall for that first real case, and then case 2 is
So you
when
go
they
outside the
open-
mall.
They open the rest of the city up.
Yeah,
So
for
you're
start 2.
you're Frank West back at Willamette.
Yeah, but
my man Hank East.
Hank East, yeah. Frank West has to go underground for a little bit. He's wanted by the feds.
So you were trying to explain this to me. He is a professor.
He's like a community college professor or something
of
now.
like journalism.
So
Yeah.
this game is fucking
But
weird
it is
because
like a community college, not like a prestigious.
I don't think they say, but they very much portray him as like down on his luck and just sort of like
Like
Okay.
when he's on the run later in the game as Hank East for like all of like 15 seconds, it's not that big a deal. But like he is like teaching night school.
right,
Awesome.
right.
Okay,
He's like
good.
because they talk about like oh you got the Congressional Medal of Honor for saving Willamette the first time, or like he's former glory but disgraced and sort of down on his luck.
Frank West.
and
Haven't
in-
heard that name in years.
Yeah.
in the canon of Dead Rising, this is the latest timeline.
It's a
like
sequel. It's like
after 3.
the first game happened.
Okay.
Presumably all the games happened, but they don't
Yeah.
really mention anything
So
about
there was
like
zombie outbreak.
They don't mention Zombrex, which I don't think came up in
that's
Dead
right.
Rising
That's
1.
right. There you
So-
do see
right.
like a stack of Zombrex
So-
at one point.
But also the state of the world at this point is like there is a vaccine for zombieism,
Right.
and no
Like-
one is a zombie anymore.
Or should be.
What are
the entire world was required to be inoculated against the zombie virus or whatever.
Okay,
So,
but
there are zombies, so they're all what the fuck? How
are
are there zombies?
Are they like Resident Evil 4, like not zombies?
No, they're
Like, they won't call them that?
they're just
It's the
straight up
same
zombies.
strain. It's a similar strain at least, but like there's
okay.
so the whole opening of that game is you like investigating some secret facility near Willamette,
Right.
and discovering like what the fuck they are doing experiments on zombies here.
because you mentioned like one of your students.
Yeah, like
tipped
you
off?
have a student who finds out about this stuff because she listens to podcasts and like
conspiracy
theory stuff.
And are you
she's like, we gotta-
reluctant to go?
Yeah,
or-
he's like, fuck that, I'm not going back to Willamette, and she kind of drags him into it.
okay. So
This
he
is like a
gets-
28 days later thing where like they go in trying to sort of break up and stop these evil experiments, and
He
then
just
they
want-
accidentally unleash it.
Frank West just wants to get paid. Like he just wants to get the photos and
Okay.
sell them to the Inquirer.
Yeah,
or
like at
whatever.
some
that
point he's
PT?
like, we're gonna get a bunch of money, and I'm a scumbag.
But
Is
so-
kind of
so
his,
that's-
his mo.
That's the thing is that like this thing, in terms of the way Frank West is cast and written, and also in terms of the mechanics, like it's like the least Dead Rising game that has come out under the name Dead Rising so far.
But does it still have the super goofy stuff? Because I remember, like in the trailer, he's driving crazy vehicles
There's
around.
there's
and all
plenty
that.
of goofy stuff, but it's
Okay.
like it's the stuff from 3 that was goofy extended out. Like the
Okay.
stuff from
The
1 and
vehicle
2
type
that was
stuff?
goofy is all but gone at this point. Like time mechanics totally gone.
I'm into that.
I'm not, man. Like, that's
I
part of
understand-
Dead Rising for
I
me.
understand
Like
it's part of Dead Rising, but that was always the one overarching thing that like I didn't like about Dead Rising.
Like
was the
being
time
able to
limit
miss
stuff.
I think there are so many other games of that nature that don't
I just
have
wanna
that
go
stuff.
I
Like
want to build weapons and vehicles and shoot the shit out of stuff, run over people, and have fun doing it. I don't want that constant ticker reminding me that I have a fucking deadline.
But I felt like they did a good job of splitting the difference, at least when you got to
It got better.
3.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
one I appreciate because of just how unforgiving that fucking thing was. It's still one of the most tense games I've tried to review in a weekend.
Sure.
But I also realized that most people didn't really like that much. The fact they removed it altogether is just like I feel like maybe a step too far.
I've seen people saying that it's coming in a DLC or something, but that's kind of irrelevant.
If the game's not built for it, like
Yeah.
slapping an arbitrary timer on it, like that seems like the worst way to go about
There was
it.
a puzzle element to 1 that was like, how can you possibly
Like the
plan a route?
the time management aspect of like, well, these guys, I've got 3 minutes left to save these survivors or they're going to die, but then I've got this other thing I need to do.
And I feel like
But
that,
I just want to take a bucket and put like power drills in it
Sure.
and put it on a zombie's head.
That's-
That's all I want
yeah.
to do.
I'm kind of with you, but there was something about 1 where it felt really designed, like because you're going to start over 5 times, right?
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
to kind of keep your
And
progress.
that,
keep
and that's
leveling
something
up
that
and-
like took forever to like get into my head. It's like why do I have to like end the game and start over?
So
again?
I feel like they've
Yeah.
gone too far in the other direction with this because it's an easy game. Like you level up like crazy. You're constantly getting skill points. Like I haven't died yet. Like it's not difficult at all.
Does it have the combo weapons still?
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah,
kind of
it
the
is.
thing they've doubled down on.
Okay.
There's well, I don't know about double down. It's just it's here again. Like
Can you do that
they-
anywhere, or is that like a
Yeah,
specific
there's no
benches?
workbench stuff.
Okay.
It's just you do it wherever you find the stuff.
And there was an upgrade that you had that was cool that let you combo. You only had to have 1 of the weapons in your
Yeah, you
inventory.
can get an upgrade where if it's just laying on the ground, you
Yeah.
can just use it on the ground.
That was cool.
because you have very limited
I
inventory.
think that's like yes, that's cool. It's also really lame that that's an upgrade. Like
And
the
not
idea
built
of
in.
like, oh, I have to like.
You need something, right?
Well, I guess, but like the alternative is like, okay, well, I have to drop one of these items on the ground and then pick this up to make the combo weapon, then pick this item back up.
I mean, that's what
like
was
that's
in-
just a clunky, dumb thing that they should have like solved
That was in 3, I think.
and not had like a skill upgrade to like get around their
And a fair
kind of
point.
shitty inventory system. You know?
Or right, it's like when you get an upgrade to run.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Right.
no, please. The other thing that I thought, or that you mentioned in the time you played, that I would be sad to not see is the absence of the psychopaths as like set piece.
I can't say for a fact they're not in there, but I'm on the 3rd case file right now. Like I'm at least like 5 hours into the game and I haven't seen a single one yet.
So no,
But
like,
I have seen
bosses to
I have
speak
seen
of,
what
or-
you would call a boss encounter
Okay.
because they're like unique enemies with a health bar over their head, but there's no cutscene, no
like build up.
no name or dialogue with them. They're not even that weirdly designed. They're just kind of like slightly beefier versions of existing enemies.
That was some of the most memorable stuff in the
Yeah,
previous
totally,
ones.
totally. So like there may be some stuff like that in there later, but it seems like no, because these and they're not even hard. They're like super. Most of the like bosses that I've seen so far took like maybe 30 seconds to kill.
Just
Like
bigger life bars for the
yeah,
most part.
yeah.
What was so fun in the previous ones is when you were walking into an area and it wasn't like this predetermined boss fight thing. It was like, oh, there's a crazy guy with a motorcycle with chainsaws on it
Yeah.
around here. Like, I don't think I'm ready for this area next.
Right.
Or now, but it sounds like now it's predetermined.
These are
like,
all
hey, here's the boss fight.
These are all in the critical path of the story. Like,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like, okay, I have to beat this guy to open this door and get to the next area. Yeah, like I loved that aspect of the old ones of just like stumbling into.
It's like, oh, shit.
Oh, I walk into this Italian restaurant and holy shit, there's a crazy chef in here who's cutting up people and eating them. Like, fuck.
I'll come back later for
yeah,
this guy.
yeah. So like I haven't seen much of that. Like the writing is definitely still irreverent. Like it's pretty funny, I think, for the most part.
Frank seems pretty funny.
Like
from
that's
what I've
the
seen.
weird thing. It's like so it's a different voice actor and like a very different voice actor. Like he sounds absolutely nothing like the old guy. And he's written a lot differently. Like he's a lot more of just kind of a bitter old asshole.
Like this is the way they kind of described it, was that it wasn't that they were ignoring the old Frank West, but they were kind of rebooting Frank West as a
Guess so,
different,
yeah.
slightly
Or-
different thing.
Or they said they wanted him to sound like older and edgier or something like that.
Is he less Dan Aykroyd now?
Yes. So
Okay,
that's the
damn
thing.
it.
That's the thing. Like old Frank West was like kind of hapless oaf, but like kind of lovable, right?
Yeah.
This guy, there's nothing lovable about this guy. Like he's just a dick.
Like, I don't
but
want-
he's a funny dick, but like.
But I don't want like the wacky version of Joel from The Last of Us, you know? Like
Yeah.
that's not what I'm after. What
Yeah.
I'm after is that sort of like lovable doofus.
Like as he's written, I think he works fine. It's
Okay.
just you know, if you have to separate him from what Frank West used to be,
Sure.
like, and he works on his own merits, but not necessarily as a continuation.
You still have a camera. You still get PP.
You can you still take pictures of stuff. There's a really good selfie mode.
Yeah.
Pretty good stuff.
Really
I was
good.
actually surprised to see the camera stuff because for whatever reason, I maybe it was just as people were talking about how much of a departure this was.
Yeah.
I feel like I heard that there was no photography in this game. Which,
That's like one of the old elements they have
but yeah.
retained.
I like that selfie.
And then they add a spectrum analyzer to the camera, which you then use. So like sometimes you'll walk up to a keypad and you can't get in, because you have to look at it with your camera for 4 seconds and then you can get in.
Like it
your spectrum
hacks
analyzer.
stuff with the camera.
because you're hacking stuff. But there's no mini game. There's no nothing. It's just like, hey, how about we make it opening this door take a little bit longer for you?
Is
You
it a
start
load
with-
thing? Is it like
I
masking
don't
a
think
load
it's not.
time?
No,
you
I don't
start
think
with
it
that.
is.
You don't get.
you get all the camera stuff in the tutorial.
But that's a little weird. I thought that
Yeah.
would be something that they roll out.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, now I can open these doors.
Yeah,
it's just
gate
like,
areas.
oh, well, I don't have the password to this. I need to look at this keyboard for a little bit, and now I have the password to this.
That sounds
It's
kinda
just kind
dumb.
of...
like that's
it's
what
one of those things. Just like in a game where it seems like they're kind of streamlining so much of Dead
Right,
Rising,
right.
Like there's little stuff like that where you're like, this just adds time for
Yeah.
no good reason.
I wonder if like once upon a time you did have to do some kind of
Right.
minigame. They're like, this is not fun.
like it
Let's
doesn't
set
really,
that out
it
and have
barely
them
adds
just look at it.
flavor.
Right, like
to
that's
it,
that's
you know?
what
It's
tripped
like
us up in that investigation
Yeah.
in the quick look because it looked like
Switching
it looked
modes.
like one of those sections where you needed to use the analyzer to unlock a thing.
Like to me, that makes perfect sense if it's like a thing you find that gets you into super secret rooms.
I know you
later
get it.
on.
You get it. All the camera stuff like 5 minutes into the
Okay.
game.
That
Yeah,
didn't-
like-
that didn't seem very fun.
Those sequences are usually fine. They just
Or if you
they
were
were
just
short.
using it to find collectibles. That
yeah.
were,
There is some of that.
Yeah.
There are secret like hidden optional areas
Yeah.
you can use it for. But
Oh, right, and they've got like weird Batman crime scenes in
Yeah.
that game.
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Where it's just
Zombie
like,
crimes?
Like you walk into a room and you're just like, there are clues here, and you have to pull out your camera, and it'll
Like-
eventually beep as you get close, and it'll highlight it. You have to take a picture of these 3 things before you can move on.
So and you're making multiple safe houses, right? Like
yeah,
throughout
there are
the
like
area?
safe. There are shelters around the map that I think there's only like 4 in the game. Looking at the map, but you clear those out of zombies and they become safe places for survivors that you find to go to. And then as you rescue survivors and they go there, those shelters will level up, and then the vendors there will sell better stuff.
Do you have to escort survivors, or they'll always make
There's
it?
zero aspect of like saving
wow.
people.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
every survivor I've found, every encounter has been exactly the same. They're standing on top of a thing screaming, kill like 20 zombies around their feet or around the base of the thing they're standing on. They're like, yay, thanks, and they run off.
And they usually make it. It's not like,
There is no aspect of escorting them. They like vanish into the crowd immediately.
wow,
And then,
alright.
and then they're just and then your shelter immediately upgrades as soon as you save them.
I'm trying to remember how
Like,
that
that
worked
stuff
in
is
3.
very-
Because like escorting was such a huge part of 1
Yeah,
and 2. I
yeah.
can't remember if 3 toned down that stuff.
Yeah,
now
I'm-
it's totally
I
gone.
feel like
I'm trying to
did.
remember. It was
Yeah.
definitely toned down. I don't remember how much you had to do to get them back.
Still totally there though. Like
Yeah, there were
thought
definitely
yeah.
survivors you had to rescue in 3. I just can't remember.
And they
like,
would actually like physically walk back to their house or whatever.
Yeah.
and
because I thought you
follow
could give them weapons.
Yeah.
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 It's not hard to remember.
Yeah, like that's all gone. Like those encounters are brain dead simple. Like you just go kill 24 zombies.
Are they just so basically? Have they just tried to streamline
Yeah,
Dead Rising
yes.
as much as
It-
humanly
it
possible
feels-
to fit it into the current open world genre?
It feels super streamlined and a little bit stripped down. For
Did you
sure.
ever figure out what the multiplayer was?
Not yet.
Okay.
I only played it before release, so I didn't have a chance to go online with it.
It seems like the things in that game that make it, the things in Dead Rising that make it Dead Rising are the things that they largely stripped
Yeah,
out.
yeah, that's how it feels. Like it's not a bad game on its
Yeah.
own merits. Like it seems like a pretty decent open world game with some decent humor, and like it's Dynasty Warriors level, just fucking hack and slash through hundreds of guys.
That's fun. That's fun to me.
But mechanically, yeah, a lot of the unique Dead Rising aspects of it have been super suppressed to the point that
And
I hate to call it generic, but like it's kind of moving in that direction a
so
little
the
bit.
multiplayer is different. Like there's no co-op campaign, right?
Did you confirm that? Like I read,
I've read that, yeah.
I read that the campaign co-op was gone, but then the like challenges
There's
for the
still some
multiplayer
multiplayer
stuff made it
stuff, but-
sound like you do some of the story stuff in multiplayer or something.
Interesting.
I'm not sure what the nature of that stuff is. I've only ever played this game single player anyway, so
I was bummed out that on your upgrade tree, I did not see like suplex or pile driver.
yeah, like it seems all geared around the crafted weapons. Like
Yeah.
you've got melee shooting and then throwing crafted
Some of that
weapons,
stuff
and
was-
like all the skills unlocks seem just geared around making those more powerful.
I'm sorry, man. Like I love the cobbled together weapons. I think that shit is great. But if I can't do a fucking spinning lariat to some zombies, then fuck that.
Having the suplex and stuff was like key.
Does it have the goofy wardrobe stuff and wearing Mega Man hats and all that
yeah,
stuff?
but all I've found so far are like Capcom nostalgia pieces. It's like the vendors have like, here's a Ryu shirt and an Akuma shirt.
You found
That's
that
all
whole,
they have left.
Or I found the Akuma costume, the
yeah,
full-on
yeah.
costume. That was pretty good, but
but you didn't do like a fireball.
So
or
can you
anything
like
that.
do a raging demon
I don't
to
think
a
so.
fucking
It
zombie?
didn't say anything about that. If you can,
There's gotta be
I
something.
assume there's more out there. Like I haven't explored the whole mall yet because they send you out of the mall.
Oh, really?
The story does pretty quickly.
Remember getting that Mega Buster? It was a kill 5 million zombies. You just run over them in the basement or something like
Yeah,
that.
just do laps in the basement.
Yeah.
You get to get the car.
Yeah.
Yep. There's the bowling one. Bowl over 10 of them with one bowling
I'll
ball.
like make a note of like one of the few video game things that will be stuck in my mind forever, which is spending hours in
my
the
God.
basement
Yep.
doing donuts.
I never did that.
Garage.
Was it worth it?
Yeah.
I did that, yeah.
Okay.
Zombie genocide, I think, achievement. Yeah.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yep,
Okay.
53,000 something.
Throw on a podcast and go.
It was the population of the town.
Yeah.
You're supposed
Yeah.
to kill the population of the
Yep,
town in
yep.
zombies.
Like the
gotcha.
real life town.
Yeah.
Not to like just unleash a litany of grievances about this game, but it's fucking dark. Like
And not like tonally, but like actually.
I mean, just like the visuals. Like
Yeah.
it's so dim everywhere you go. It's like hard to see.
I
in a
will
lot of
say
cases.
that like that was a game that at the opening when it was like adjust this until you can
Yeah.
barely see the thing.
Yeah.
Like barely see the thing was like 7/8 of the way
two-thirds
up for me.
And I have since moved the gamma even higher since I've been playing it. Like I've got the gamma almost maxed, and it's still hard. It's just like a lighting thing. Like big parts of the game are just like poorly lit to the point that it's hard to see stuff. It's
Not in a fun way.
it seems. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it really kind of hampers.
Put your night vision on.
I thought that was kind of part of the charm of the first couple is that, you're in these bright, like, mall,
Yeah.
Christmassy
Yeah,
areas or
absolutely.
a casino or something,
Yeah.
but then all this dark, violent shit's happening.
Yeah, totally. That weird contradiction was kind of key to the weird
Yeah.
charm of those games, and it just doesn't have that look anymore.
Huh.
I'm enjoying it. Like on its own merits, it's not a bad game. It's pretty fun.
You like 3, right?
Yeah.
It seems very similar.
3, it doesn't seem as robust as 3. It doesn't seem to have as much going on.
I just feel like I don't, with all the open world games that are currently floating around out there, I don't feel like I need another Dead Rising in my life. Like it's just not necessary. If there's some hook there it makes it exceptional in some way, then sure, I'll totally go back. But like, I don't know, like the idea of just another open world game that has some Dead Rising flavoring in it is not exciting to me.
This looked like Dead Rising 3 2.
Yeah, kind of.
Like, instead of-
but again, it feels less Dead Rising than 3 did.
You think even more?
Yeah.
I didn't make it through 3.
It was like
I kinda
3
like
Same here. Yeah. Like I
3 still had the psychos.
Yeah.
3 had like
sometimes stuff.
totally. 3 had characters from 1 and 2 show up. It felt more connected to the previous games than this one does.
But I think this one is set like significantly after those games
it's
too,
like
right?
15 it's set in like 2021, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like 15 years after Dead Rising 1. Like Frank
Gears
West
of War 4.
Frank West is in his 50s, if that tells you anything. Like
Yeah.
his little dossier, he's like 52.
I had high hopes for it out of the gate because
Yeah.
there's like a dream sequence that opens the game, and like it is you in the mall running around killing a bunch of zombies.
As
but
a
then it's-
flashback?
Yeah, as a flashback. But then you're hearing Frank West quotes, and he's just like, "I covered wars," like all the dumb fucking
like
greatest
echoing.
hits.
It feels full on like Dickens, like ghosts of Frank West past floating around, like yelling out your history. It's
So you're back in Willamette. Is the mall gone?
It's a new mall.
new mall.
It's the Willamette Memorial Complex.
it's the Memorial Megaplex,
Yeah,
which I think
Megaplex,
is one of the
right.
funniest things in that game. Also, like everybody became zombies on Black Friday. Like they were all lined up at the mall
Tell
for
me
Black
about
Friday sales,
Tell me about it.
and that's when they unleashed the virus.
Scathing comments.
Yeah, right.
Sounds like there's some funny
the,
stuff.
The opening of that game has there's like an animation sequence that so you play the opening and then like there's a cut in time, but it's like has this animation sequence of Black Friday and it's just people trampling each other and being shitty.
Not zombies.
And then all of a sudden, oh wait, they're all zombies.
Okay.
Like there's
I feel like they did that.
which I feel like they don't
before.
explicitly they aren't maybe super explicit about like, oh, by the way, there was a huge zombie outbreak. So when you get to the bit where the character Brad comes in and tells you, by the way, the zombies are back and they're suppressing it. You're like, oh, is that what that cutscene was supposed to convey? Because it was not great at doing that.
Is the premise we're going with here that the true zombie virus is capitalism? Is that what they're trying to get across here?
It's heady shit, man.
I mean, I think that was like
ask.
Dead Rising 1, like kind of
Was it?
Touched on
till
some
you
of that.
drop, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Well, all right then.
the best thing about I mean, again, it's not a bad game. Like I'm enjoying it.
I
But the best thing-
I left off, but I definitely like had hit a point where I'm like, actually, I kind of do want to see some more of
yeah,
this.
I need to finish this game just to see what they have done with it.
Xbox
top
One
to bottom.
and PC,
Yeah, so
not cross.
if I've got
not
this
cross.
straight, so yeah, it's not a play anywhere game. So you either buy it on PC or on Xbox, and that's all you get.
Is
Also,
it in the Windows Store?
yeah, so it's if I understand correctly, it's Xbox exclusive for a year and 90-day exclusive on the Windows Store.
And then possibly Steam.
So it should be on. The implication is it would be on Steam in 90 days
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so on the PC, it is Windows Store exclusive for
for now
3 months.
for
or
3
whatever?
months, and presumably, I guess there would be a PS4 version in
It's
a
a
year.
weird exclusive
Kinda, yeah.
on the PC side. I mean, I guess they want to push their store, but
Maybe,
like,
but who knows if this is maybe a Street Fighter V situation of like maybe they weren't going to make a Dead Rising 4.
I thought that was
unless
the whole
Microsoft,
point with Dead Rising 3. Is
Yeah,
that Microsoft came in and said like, hey, we want a thing.
yeah, like Microsoft like straight up published 4
Yeah.
or 3.
it's weird though because if I could buy it in the Windows Store, like Gears, if I could do a similar purchase like that and get it on Xbox One,
Yeah,
I would buy it today
Right.
on the Windows Store.
Right.
But I might wait now
wait for Steam.
and we'll get it on Steam.
Yeah.
So it kind of work for me at least. work
Yeah,
against that.
plus it might be cheaper by then.
Like the Windows Store is just a layer of complicated
Yeah.
that I would rather have
Yep.
it in the client I have open all the time.
Yep.
Don't get me going on that.
sure.
My account's been busted on the Windows Store.
Yeah,
I cannot
I've-
play anything at home.
Really,
Yeah,
anything?
Anything from
Like
the
you
Windows
just can't
Store.
authenticate or whatever.
Gears,
Wow.
Killer Instinct. Yeah.
Wow.
We were trying to patch a Windows Store game last week for a thing we were recording, and it just sat there and spun and errored out and was lying about the size of the patch.
Yeah.
I was like, this
I've
is a
had
2 meg
that-
patch.
I've
It's
had
like,
that exact
the
thing.
fuck it
and
is.
it keeps failing over and
Yeah.
over and over, and it just will never download the patch.
So
and
I
then
ended
you
up-
can't start the game.
I ended up uninstalling almost everything that was installed to the C drive to try to clear more room than this patch would require, and it eventually finished. But it was just like the error messages it would give you were totally nondescript
so
and not
terrible.
helpful. And like, hey, you need 20 more gigs. It was just sit there and act like it was downloading forever, like overnight.
I got to the point where I could not download Forza 3 no matter what I did, and it would just keep saying something went wrong.
Yes.
That is probably one of my least
I-
favorite new technology things.
I think like the error message was like something went wrong. The problem is on our end. That was the error message.
I hate that
I
shit
fucking had
so
to
much.
reinstall Windows to get Forza 3 to download.
Like, we appreciate-
I could not figure out a solution.
We appreciate you assuming the blame right out of the gate. That's it's very nice, but fucking tell me what you did wrong. Hell, give me a solution.
Like saying, hey, giving like friendly English text with like an error code that like, and I feel like a lot of games are doing this now where they don't even have error codes. It's like, you got the warped jackal error.
Yeah, right.
Back to the main menu, motherfucker.
Yep.
And you're like, all right, well, now I have to go type warped jackal.
Right. It's like, yeah, you
into the fucking internet.
You can't download Forza because baboon. Like,
Yeah,
it's
and
really,
like to be
fuck off.
fair, like
yeah, that stuff's terrible.
error codes.
Actually, if it was just baboon, that would be way.
Even if it was a like concise error message, I would still Google that.
Yeah.
Anyways. I mean,
But I mean, with my
don't
Forza
think it's
problem,
a big
I landed on like 3 situations of like, well, here's a command line string you can use to flush the cache for the Windows
Exactly,
Store, and
yeah.
like maybe that'll let you download it, and that
that
didn't
shit
work.
sucks.
Or
Like-
here's a registry edit. I tried
Yeah.
all of those things and nothing worked, so I fucking reinstalled
They at
Windows.
least need to, at the very least, need to have a button that's like show more info on some of that
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
on the
yeah.
PC side. And not to say that error codes were ever super great, like they were kind of generic,
Yeah.
but like at least you know if you have a memory issue or you could look it up and find
Right.
a path.
Right.
Like a button that says "look up more details" would go
or,
a long
or
way.
even when they would give you like a 10-digit number, you could Google that and usually land on like a
But
knowledge base
man,
article or something.
There was a time when I was trying to install Windows 10, I think, and do an upgrade, and it would just give me that blue screen with like the sad face. That's
on
like
the side, yeah.
oh shit,
Yeah.
or like oh oops,
Oh,
I'm gonna roll you back to Windows 8,
Yeah.
and I was like, what happened? I don't even know where to go from here.
Oops, I just put my boot through my fucking computer tower.
it literally
Sorry.
would just be like, it would literally
Yeah,
say like,
yeah.
oops, sorry, and it's like what?
Even
What?
the positive messages are bad. Like the Xbox One upon setting up an internet connection just says like it's all good.
And Windows,
like, fuck you.
Windows 10, when it sneaks in an update, when it's like, no, don't update me. No, don't update me. And it's like, hey, there's an update. You want to update now? Or do you want to, or no, now what it does is, hey, I picked the time to update. Is this update right now?
Yeah.
Or is that time I picked cool? That's it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, never. I have work shit on here
Right.
that can't break.
And then you come back the next morning and the machine is
So
rebooted.
if you're using your machine for work, then you need to tell it it's an enterprise machine with managed updates. And once you do that, then it's like, or deferred updates, because then it's like the administrator, which is still you, will choose when the updates come in. I'm pretty sure you can set it up that way,
So I
but
think
you
I
kind of have
started
to set
going
it up
down
for
that
enterprise.
path after
yeah.
about the third machine that was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll just X this out and then come back in the next morning, 20 minutes before doing a live show, and like go to boot the machine, and it's like, awesome, we're updating right now. It's like, well, I have a live show to do right now and I need this machine. And then something would happen. It would be like a blue screen, or it would be whatchamacallit? It would be like that fucking message that says, hey, all your shit's cool.
Yeah.
It's like, why wouldn't it be? That's the minimum I want for my I didn't move any of your shit.
Your files are right where you left
Fuck
them.
you. Like, fuck you and your OS. Like, that's the minimum I need is like my files on there. What do you think is happening here? That you're in there deleting? Hey,
We smoked that shit, dog.
like, hey, I went in your fridge, but I didn't touch shit. Like, it's cool. And by the way,
We babysat for you. Your baby is right where you left it.
like, what is
I gotta
that?
go.
We moved your files around. Time for a scavenger hunt.
Like, what is that? Like,
Your kitchen's on fire, but that's no big deal.
I don't want my computer even talking to me about what's on my computer.
I've had mostly a pretty good time with Windows 10, but when
Yeah.
it does fuck up, it fucks up. And so I went down a bad rabbit hole earlier this week. I was trying to get a Razer Stargazer to work. We got one of those cameras in, and it doesn't work. Like it wouldn't install the drivers. I tried to uninstall everything, and now when I plug it in, it just doesn't even trigger.
Oh, you don't get the
install.
do-do.
So
I will
whatever.
say that I've had better luck with it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I didn't have the driver.
and maybe
issue.
you just broke the camera. I don't know.
Maybe.
No. But that's not the thing. That was the catalyst for me going like, well, okay, maybe Razer Synapse is starting up, and I need to disable that and start up, and went into startup and realized there were like 3 things in there that I didn't know why they were there.
Nice.
And it turns out that thing you gave me, that video thing,
Yeah.
Matt, there's some shit with
Oh
that.
yeah.
So
the converter tool.
Yeah, the converter tool installs some fucking rough shit that I was
really?
like, okay, I don't want any of this
wow.
adware anywhere on this machine.
Okay.
And then set about uninstalling all of that stuff. And now in my startup list of apps it likes to start at startup, there's just an entry, no icon, just says video, and another one that says program.
And you can't get rid
And
of
they're
it.
disabled, so it's
Yeah.
like I don't think it's doing anything. But like I think those are just permanently on that list
Oh,
now.
weird.
Unless I dig, I mean, I'm sure I could dig it out and figure out what it is, but I can't even see what it was pointing to before.
Right.
I uninstalled all that stuff, and I'm pretty sure it's all gone. But like, now that menu is cluttered up with weird stuff that I'm just kind of like a little unsure about.
I feel like Windows 10, I have had to add more third-party auditing programs to my machine to be like, I can't easily access registry stuff that I used to be able to get in there and clean
really?
up as easily as I used to. Like the
I
restricted.
think PowerShell makes it pretty easy to get into some of that stuff.
I don't have. What is that?
It's a free. It's a Microsoft thing. It's,
yeah, it's a
part of
Microsoft
Windows.
thing.
You have to
I think it's
install.
built in.
I don't. Do
No,
you install? I think
no.
it's built in. I
It's
think you just
built
have to
in.
enable it.
Okay, so maybe I haven't.
It's a bunch of
enabled that.
it's a bunch of low level admin shit.
Yeah.
Like when I'm trying to find the device manager menus, and I feel like I'm digging through like 4 top level like ones with little sliders that go yes or no, and it's like no man,
Yeah.
like get me to the real shit. Like I need driver level.
So I hit the Windows key and I type device, and the first thing that comes up is device manager.
and you don't get
But
the first thing
the
that
other,
comes
the
up
other
for
thing
me.
is devices.
Yeah.
But I've used
it
hit
enough.
down device manager enough times that now that is the first thing that shows up in that list. Like I don't click on anything I don't even use the start menu. I hit the Windows key and type in what I'm looking for.
See, that works
And I never
like
click on anything. Like
50% of the time
yeah.
for me. Like sometimes I'll like install Origin on that machine, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll hit the Windows key and type Origin, and it's like nothing. Or on a machine that I haven't disabled it. Want me to search the web for No, the thing
Nope.
I literally just
Yeah.
installed, and then I have to like go because I usually don't install desktop shortcuts. So I'll have to either dig through the start menu and
Yeah.
find it,
Yeah, yeah.
or like go like okay, C: programs, 86, and like find it in there.
Huh.
I feel let down.
You should reinstall from scratch because that's broken
I guess
in a way that like it's totally.
it's happened on like 2 machines.
Weird.
It happens for me sometimes too.
Weird.
And so, like, I just installed a different search thing. That was just like,
Yeah.
oh, awesome. Yes. Show me everything on this computer that has Origin on it. That's what I want. I don't know.
Yeah.
No more computers.
PCs, who can live with
I
it?
guess. I don't know. There was a time when
Can't live without 'em.
it felt like I was always grousing about my OS, but
Yeah.
like now I feel like they're trying to tell me what I want to look at, and that annoys
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Or shielding me, like, hey, this is cool. Like,
Yeah.
You don't need to mess with
need to
this.
see those drivers.
You
That's
don't
not
need-
that's
you
not
don't-
important for you.
it's too complicated for you. Like, you shouldn't. Don't worry.
Yeah. I mean,
Condescending Windows 10 is the
At
worst.
the same
Windows
time,
10.
you can install a bash shell into Windows 10 now. Like
That's pretty cool. I have no use for that, but that's pretty awesome.
You
that they
can
did that.
kind of get deep with that stuff. Like
I guess-
you probably have to fight past a couple of layers of them going like, nah, for real though, no.
I guess it's better than Windows 8, but still, every time I go into a menu that has laptop options, that's like, what do you want me to do when I close the screen?
Right.
Like, fuck off and uninstall yourself.
I think
Like,
they would be able to tell they're running on a desktop and just remove those. but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The Windows 10 power hour. I mean, there's some of that shit in OS 10 too. So like OS 10 as well.
Sure.
Oh yeah,
like-
OS 10 is by no means a picnic.
Yeah.
Computers are bad, is what we're saying.
It just feels like my computer became an ad service.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get way into Linux.
It's time.
Now is the time.
It's the year of the Linux desktop.
What is it? Boxes? Is that the name of that virtualized?
I have no idea. I've never used
like-
Linux
like
before.
Quite secure series of VMs, sandboxed all off.
Last thing I want to say about Dead Rising 4.
Yeah.
As much as it's like, like I said, it's kind of grungy looking and I wish it looked brighter, but it's a Christmas game. And that's awesome.
I dig that.
It's
yeah.
it's full on, like it just
You hit
feels,
the menus and there's a bunch of like.
well, that's
Christmas
that's
tunes
the
playing, right?
ultimate expression of it. But it just got, it has a little bit of a Die Hard feel
Good.
of being a festive Christmas thing.
And back doing something that the protagonist has done before.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
The same
totally.
shit happened to the same guy.
Totally.
Zombies.
Totally.
Fought for
But yes, when you pause or go to the map, and like I know you guys saw this in the quick look, like they've got at least like half a dozen different like just fun jazzy Christmas songs that they rotate through every
Good
time
stuff.
you time you pull up the map or the skill tree or whatever. It's fun. The game's okay.
Who's going to
seems
tell me
like it.
about Let It Die?
Somebody after we take a break.
Let's do that.
We're gonna take a break and then we'll come back.
Hey, you've heard of the Dollar Shave Club, correct?
Of course. I mean, who hasn't? I've got a beard. I like
And you've got $1.
and I've got $1.
I see you waving it in front of me.
And I like to keep things clean. you
Oh,
know?
wait a minute. Back that up. You like to keep things clean?
Yeah, like, keeping clean shaven.
Well, you can keep it clean shaven and keep it clean because Dollar Shave Club's about more than just razors.
What?
They've got a new line of shower products called Wanderer.
What does that mean?
Wanderer.
What's a shower product?
A shower product like shampoo for your hair, to wash your hair.
See, I don't have hair.
All right. Well, do you have a body?
Yeah.
All right. Body wash.
Oh, wait, like I could just wash my body.
You can wash your body with the Wanderer.
So that's like what? Like I just put it all over my body?
Yeah, you just rub it on your body, get it wet, soap it up, lather it up, wash it off. Natural fragrances, subtle as well. You get things like mint and cedarwood. How about that?
I've heard that smells all right.
Yeah, well, it says here it'll make you smell incredible. What do you think about that?
I bet the world is ready for that. I know a lot of people who would be happy for that.
Ready for you to smell incredible?
Yeah.
All right, well.
Incredible.
Then
If I had somebody come up to me and say, "You smell incredible," that would change my life.
if someone did that to me, I would probably be like,
You'd probably be like,
stop.
No, you would be like, "That's amazing."
I'd be like, thanks.
I would probably have to be like,
take a couple steps back, please.
"You know how I got there?
The Wanderer.
The Wanderer."
That's how. You can give it a try by joining the Dollar Shave Club.
They're gonna have to change their name.
Hey, they're not just about shaves. They're not just about dollars. But you can join the club and try this world-class service with no long-term commitments or hidden fees. You can cancel whenever you want. You can get a 1-month trial of those razors for $1 with free shipping, and after that, it's just a few bucks a month. So get your $1 trial over at dollarshaveclub.com/bombcast. That's dollarshaveclub.com/bombcast. And hey, maybe take a look at the Wanderer while you're over there.
You know what?
What?
You could smell incredible.
Mmm.
Vinny, I understand you want to know about Let It Die.
I would love to know about this hot phenomenon.
Is there anyone here?
Man,
just let it go. Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go die.
Is there anyone here who can help this man?
The wind
Uncle Death can help.
and the rain and the snow.
There's a skateboard.
Yeah.
I know that much.
Skateboard and Grim Reaper.
Yeah, Skateboard and Grim Reaper named Uncle Death,
Rad Shades.
who's a pretty cool character.
Yeah.
Okay. He's free.
Yeah. No. So Let It Die is sued his next game. They've been kicking this thing around for kind of a long time. What was the other name? Lily Bergamo.
So this is a grasshopper game.
Yeah, it's a grasshopper game that Gung Ho published.
Okay. What was he doing after he left Joe?
Yeah, no. After he left G.I. Joe, he got into game publishing, and he's
lucrative.
just like, there's just not a lot of Cajun gumbo-based game publishing happening these days. Hoo-ah.
Who's Gung Ho? What is Gung Ho?
Gung Ho publishes like free-to-play stuff. They have the logo that looks like a lady's pleasure device. They're huge. Kind of a weird U-shaped thing.
I'm also pretty sure they actually have a controlling interest in Grasshopper now.
They're Puzzle and Dragons, right?
That sounds.
If they
right.
are Puzzle and Dragons,
yes, they're
doing okay.
Yeah, they are a
okay.
They are a huge company.
Gung Ho has done well for himself. Unlike Roadblock, who went on to just like name a couple of WWE pay-per-views, and that guy's just hurting bad.
You hear about Shipwreck?
Let's
not talk
host a podcast now. It's
Did you
weird.
guys ever see Gung Ho?
I was just thinking about Gung Ho recently.
Really? Why? Trade and embargoes and the whole thing.
Yeah,
okay.
this whole
Makes
thing.
sense.
Anyway, so Let It Die is a free-to-play game with permanent. So it's a roguelike, I guess I would say, in that you're trying to climb this tower.
Yeah.
And you want to get to the top of the tower, and they've got mechanics, and you've got limited inventory space. So you're kind of making runs into the tower, getting as high as you can, unlocking shortcuts as you go. You also have the ability to go back to the waiting room and kind of like cash in your XP and level up.
That's your hub.
Yeah, you're gonna get back to your hub to drop off blueprints and materials for researching stuff you could buy there, as opposed to finding weapons and armor in the dungeon, as it were.
All right, let me ask you a question then.
Okay.
I'm making my run through the tower.
Yeah.
I'm on level 2 of the tower.
Sure, yeah, level 2 is a level.
I've got a blueprint, and I've got some, whatever the currency is.
Yeah.
And one good weapon.
Okay.
I die.
Yeah.
What happens next?
You are dead. But there's an insurance policy in the game, which the first time it comes up, the first hit is free.
Okay.
And you can spend death medals.
Is that the currency?
Yeah, which is the premium currency to continue.
So premium currency, that means I can buy that currency
If
with
you want
real
to,
money?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I have 10 or so. I have not put any money into it, and I have 10 death medals. You'll get them as daily login bonuses and some other ways to kind of get a few here and there.
Is that the only thing you buy?
You buy death medals, and then you can use that to expand your storage inventory back at base. You can use it.
Permanently.
Yeah. You can use it for upgrades there. You can also use it to buy time of the express service, which gives you access to a free version of the elevator. Free. Meaning you don't have to pay any of your in-game currency to go back to the waiting room or go back to your level in the tower.
Okay,
now,
so
the amount that they charge to use the elevator is not super high. So that's
initially, like it's 300 coins. It's 300 kill coins to get back to level 3. But there's 40 levels or so in that tower. So I'm sure by the time you're just like, okay, well that's crazy.
Okay, so I've died. I didn't take out the insurance policy.
So if you've died, then your character becomes a hater, meaning the next time you go back to that level. So you'll create a new character, level 1.
I
go
don't
back
have
in.
my weapon.
You don't have your weapon. You don't have any of your stuff. If
money.
If you might have stuff that's in storage, and some other stuff like that. So you will go back in, and then you can fight that character. You can kill that hater.
And it's my character, same
same name,
weapons
items, and stuff like that.
Does it look the same?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't think all the items will drop off of it if you kill that character, but you
don't
might
know,
get like
but I doubt
one
it.
back. I forget.
So there's like 8 character models in the game.
Yeah.
And, they'll wear, I think they wear whatever equipment you were wearing at the time. But like basically when you run into that thing, you are just wearing like spandex fucking boxer briefs. And
Or
that's pretty much it.
whatever you
Maximo
found
is
on your
taking a
way
hit.
back to
Right.
that character,
Yeah.
So you might have picked up some stuff along the way, but it's a fresh run. All the enemies repopulate the minute you leave a floor, so
Right.
you'll fight your way back up there or take a shortcut.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out like how much of like a soul's like going to get your dark souls.
It's not quite that.
Not quite.
It has some
You get
leanings.
Yeah. So when you kill haters, you get a different currency called splithium. that I don't know how that's used. But then you can also kind of
don't you?
Yeah, you can
I have
also
an idea.
don't you?
You can put your fighters back into storage and then have multiple characters going at the same time. And then your characters that you're not currently playing as, you can send out into other people's games.
Okay.
This is
As
an
haters,
asynchronous-
send these haters out.
And what will they do?
They will try to
They'll
kill
hate.
those fucking characters.
And what
I have
will
a
they
character
get?
that I sent out. I don't know. So I sent my first character out for 24 hours, and she's back now, and I don't know what will have happened. So next time I log in, I'll find out.
So is it? It's like the equivalent of like drivatars in Forza. Like they're just out there doing work for you and potentially getting you some bonuses.
Yeah, I think that's how it goes.
Sounds
I don't think they'll die. I mean, your low level hater probably won't be much of a threat to someone else's game.
Right.
But
It sounds like a mix up of like Dark Souls,
Yeah.
Spelunky, maybe a little. What's the one where you can make your buddies go out into other people's worlds and they learn new skills? What was that thing called? Was that Dragon's Dogma?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So-
maybe a little bit of that too. Yeah, but then also, the combat has a lot of momentum behind it.
I've heard.
So
right.
even your punches, and there is some permanence that goes cross character. I want to say that like your mastery level in your weapons goes up. So
Yes.
as you punch more players, now I'm a level 8 in fists.
And that's per the character. Or
No,
per
I
the
think that's per
account?
account.
Yeah.
So if you start a new character, you've got better fists.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's for every single weapon. So there's a hot iron that you shoot out and shoot steam into the face of fucking people.
Ouch.
And if you use it a bunch or get kills with it a bunch, it levels up, and then you're better with that iron.
And it's worth noting that all those weapons degrade.
Yeah. The armor degrades, like everything degrades hell of.
Can you
I would
repair them?
say. No.
Oh.
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think you can repair them.
Yeah,
but,
you do find materials and blueprints out there that you then run back to the store in the waiting room, and that basically unlocks that stuff for purchase. So you can buy a better version and even like find multiple
with
like,
full durability.
yeah,
as well.
with full durability and level up those things. So you're getting like a +2 lead pipe from the store, which is better than what you're going to find in the dungeon.
Yeah, anything you find in the dungeon is usually going to be about to break at some point.
Is there a natural, like every 10 levels, rope or hole where you wouldn't have to pay for the elevator?
No.
Okay, so the elevator is.
I think there's elevators on every floor.
It's every other floor. There's no
Every
elevator
other
in level
floor.
2. So I've only been to level 3. There's one on 1. There's one on 3.
I just got to 4 the other night. So
Did you have to beat a boss to get there?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I
if you
saw
wanna
what
get-
looked like a boss fight ahead, and I was like, I need to go back to the waiting room and cash out my shit.
Yep.
When you say levels in this tower, it's not just like a big round room, right? Like this is a
No.
labyrinth,
It's
like different rooms and
it's
stuff.
it's
Okay.
different rooms, and then you'd find an escalator
Okay.
that you take the escalator up.
I think it's really cool during the escalator, like during the load to the next level. They'll actually replay, like have an overhead map and show your triangle, like work. You
Like
know,
the
weaving
whole
through
your whole run on that
your
level.
whole run.
Yeah.
It's
Even
pretty
like
cool.
as you get kills, like there's like a log of things that you did
Yep.
while you were going. It's neat.
Will they show you parts of the level you didn't see? Like, do they show you the whole map?
I mean, it's pretty linear for the most part.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's
So
it's not 100%
Not 100
linear.
not
but-
There are like
but
hidden
yeah.
areas
Yes.
where like you'll find items and stuff, but it mostly it's a pretty set
Mostly,
path.
it's there's one entrance, one exit.
Yeah.
So
This game fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sounds all right.
I would
Yeah.
say my only beef with it is that I don't think the combat has the best feel to it. It's all a little stiff, like the animation's a little stiff, but that said, it's not like unbearable.
What
It's not like
level? What level did you get to?
I think I got my character to level 3.
Okay, so
Your
I'm
character to level 3.
so
and I got to
I'm
level 3.
Oh,
level-
gotcha,
Oh
okay.
no, okay.
Well,
But
I both.
Floor 3.
I got to
You
floor
mean-
3,
okay.
and I leveled up to like level 3 or
okay,
something.
so I'm like level 19 or
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
Like the max level is 26 because the XP you earn from kills, you
That
then
sounds like you're-
you go back to the waiting room and then funnel that into your stats.
very close.
Yeah, and
For level
yeah.
floor 3. You say floor 3, level 19?
Like
what you
his
said?
character level is
Yeah,
19.
character.
and
My
then he
character level is like 19.
But you said that the max is 26?
6. Yeah.
But you have 37 more levels to go on floors?
But also, so that stuff seems like minimally helpful. Where like it's additional hit points, it's better stamina, so
So
I
you
can
need
I can
gear.
throw more. It's gearing, and then also there are skill stickers that you buy from a shop in the waiting
Decals,
room
yeah.
or decals
Like
that then
tattoos or
stick to your body. And there are premium versions of those that I think are account level.
And they're all buffs and
Yeah. So I bought one of those. I bought my first one of those, and it's like 7% to attack. And I'm like, that sounds good.
should have
So
got
y-
mosquito. 'Cause
Oh.
that leeches life. That's pretty cool.
that looked good, but
Yep.
I don't know that I had enough money for it.
Oh, really?
And can
at
you
the
buy
time,
that
so-
with metal?
You could convert death metals into the in-game currency if you wanted to.
So you could buy it with cash.
from
you
the
could.
from the mushroom lady.
Yeah, from the mushroom.
There's a mushroom lady, by the way.
Yeah, you
There
collect
always
mushrooms and beasts along the way.
Little frogs you just pick up. You can choose to eat the frog or just put them in your backpack. Or
And then if you find fire, you can throw the beasts into the fire to cook them, and then or the mushrooms also, and they have different effects. So if you cook a frog, it gives you more health back.
Yeah.
Always does.
Yeah.
What does a mushroom do?
Depends on the mushroom.
There are many mushrooms.
There are mushrooms that explode when you throw them. There are mushrooms that put people to sleep when you throw them.
Is there,
There are health
magic?
ones.
I got a cool yoga healing one where I ate it and I actually did a headstand and a big beam of light came down and it was great. Healed me.
Is there magic?
No.
No,
there
just
are guns.
just that
mushrooms.
Suda51 magic.
Oh.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So also the whole game is an arcade game, and you can step out of the arcade machine at any point and go back to the arcade where Uncle Death is sitting across a cocktail cabinet from you.
It's a cocktail cabinet?
It is a cocktail
Yeah.
cabinet.
That's good.
The Death Drive 128 is a cocktail machine, apparently.
I mean, because it's
Well,
like a
that-
3-tiered thing, and then the beetle comes up, and the beetle
That's right.
projects
Yeah,
the
the beetle
screen out
projects
of
the
his
screen. It's
head.
weird. Yeah, maybe you're just playing it. The
Yeah.
Death
I
mean,
Drive
they're
on
not-
top of an old cocktail cabinet.
Yeah, I don't think they're running a traditional board exactly,
Right.
but it's
And there's a guy in the arcade that's just playing fighting games the whole time and bragging about how good he is.
He's
and you
he's
can,
like
you
a
can
pro-
occasionally
pro
talk to
gamer.
him for tips.
In Death
Yeah.
Drive?
So you can
And-
walk around the arcade.
No,
right?
it's like you just there's an arrow that you
Oh,
point
okay.
you
to
just kind of
different
slide from
characters
place to
and-
place.
yeah.
Yeah.
You also get quests out in the arcade.
Okay. This all sounds, I mean, and you just download it. It's just,
Yeah,
It's a free game.
It's free. They put it out at PlayStation Experience. You know,
It's like,
free-
hey,
free to
available
play.
now.
Hey, out
It's a
now.
real weird thing.
Like I'd heard, obviously they've been developing this game for quite some time now, and like heard little bits and pieces about kind of what it was, but at the same time was like, oh, Suits is making a free to play game, huh? That's kind of a bummer. Well. But like, there's something about the idea of pay to continue in a game that is literally set in an arcade.
just sits okay with you.
Yeah. And like I've put a couple hours into it, so I can't necessarily vouch for the model. There may be a point when it just tilts and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it just got fucked hard, and
Right.
now it's expecting me to be dumping, hey, $199.99 best value, like on death metals to keep going and all that
Or
other stuff.
grind through levels 1 through 30 over
yeah.
and over again.
So I don't know how it'll go long term, but I will say, like, out of the gate, looking at what they've set up, I look at it and go like, okay, yeah,
There's some
no, this
super
is-
cool ideas that they
there's-
probably
yeah.
that you don't normally see in like free to play games like this.
And I think that like also like there's something about the idea of dying having the consequence of like that character's dead or you need to pay real fucking money. There's something about that ratchets up my desire to stay alive
yeah.
in a way that's like actually kind of neat in that way of like Kojima wanting to make a game that erased itself when you died sort of way. Like let's put some real fucking stakes in this. And I think that's neat. But again, I haven't played it long enough to know if it really makes good on that or
I mean,
not.
right, because it can go either way. It could be demoralizing.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
the point where you're just like, okay, bounce off.
Yeah. And there's some bullshit where it's like, if you get disconnected outside of your hub,
Right, yeah.
you're dead. That counts
Oh.
as
Any
death.
quit from the game
Yeah.
when you're not in the waiting room, and apparently, they had some server trouble on launch day. Like people lost
Sure.
characters.
Oh, so there's no, you cannot, once you
have to go back
embark,
to the hub,
You
yeah.
have to get back to the hub.
And your experience won't bank, until you actually go back to the hub. So anything you've gained on that run is
Like if
is
you
gone.
get called away from the machine, you have to leave it running or die.
Yeah, if my son starts freaking
Yeah.
out, I can't just pause it.
Leave it running or die.
Yeah.
Leave it running or die.
Yeah.
Or just let it die. So is it only on PlayStation or PS4 for a
Yes.
while?
I think just in general.
Yeah,
I think it's just a PS4 game.
A Sony joint?
Yeah.
I don't know if they were involved in bringing it out or whatever the deal was, but yeah, it is just on PS4.
So the game's got a real cool vibe. Like the soundtrack is really good too.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
really.
some good music,
Japanese pop and punk
And
metal
Yamaoka
stuff
did the
and-
core soundtrack.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yep.
some really good style in that game.
Yeah.
Also, the voice cast for that game
It's
is
fucking weird.
fucking insane.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill, Tracy Lords,
Yeah.
Billy D. Williams,
Wait,
like all
what?
these fucking people
But
are in
Tracy
it.
Lords doesn't
Vern
even play like a
Troyer.
name,
Troyer, I saw.
named character. Like,
Wee
she's
Man.
just- oh my god.
But like Wee Man plays one of the player characters, and the player
Yeah.
characters don't really talk much.
No, like Billy D. Williams is one of the player
Yeah.
characters, and
It's
you
just
don't.
it's grunts and like
Man.
if you're trying to stomp on one of the frogs and it gets away, there's a little bit of like fucker, like
Yeah.
kind of a,
I'm
like
totally playing Billy D. Williams.
yeah.
it's a neat. Like regardless, like maybe the free to play stuff gets gross later on.
Yes.
Like I said, I can't say one way or the other, but that thing is neat as hell.
It is intriguing enough to.
I mean, I think
Totally try out.
it's definitely a thing I would recommend everyone try as a free game, and then you determine yourself if you want to dump any money into this thing. But like as an opening salvo, that thing makes a real strong first impression.
Man, that's
I like it enough.
surprising.
I like it enough to where I will probably put money into it at some point. Like I feel it gives me good feelings in a way that I'm just like, I kind of want to give some money to this thing.
Can you out of the gate? Can you pay like $25 and get some?
But you would just be
booster?
buying death metal. No, there's no booster. But you'd be buying death metals, which then you would use for your continues. Or I think the store service for the Express Pass hasn't started yet. There's some kind of menu that says like our store hasn't launched yet.
So there's no like buy it out of the gate kind of thing.
No. You would the only thing you would be able to spend that death metal, like that number on right now, would be increased storage in your bank.
All right.
Yeah.
I definitely
Or just have enough for like a bunch of decals. But you only get like one slot, but you could get a really good one or something. But yeah, you're not like buying in-game items for the most part. So
You're just buying the currency that will let you get those items.
You know what? I'm sure you can buy a sticker that it has an increased rate of drop for some kind of blueprint or something at some point.
I think so. Yeah,
which could translate.
There's definitely
you could
one
work your way around.
I feel like the item there. I feel like there's still an item shop that has to launch in this game because there's stuff in the tutorial and stuff on the insurance menus where it talks about the express pass for the elevator, and also like there's some stuff in there talking about the premium sticker stuff. But like that hasn't. There's also something on the insurance menu that says service hasn't started yet.
Can
so
you
I think
sell-
that maybe they
Sell stuff back.
yeah, you could sell
Stuff
items
that you find,
back to the store for kill coins, not death metals.
But if you want to get rid of a sticker, can you sell it back?
You can peel off a sticker. I don't know if that
I don't
just
think you can
destroys it
sell
or
a sticker.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, because there's not like a sell option.
But I think there are some. I think they imply that the higher level of sticker is something that you can reapply across character or kind of have.
Like you just won't lose it.
That's
really
yeah.
good adhesive on those
Yeah.
decals.
But again, like I haven't seen how that stuff
Sure.
works because it's all been in the kind of their extensive tutorial stuff. But
All right.
Yeah, they keep throwing stuff at you.
yeah,
Live and active now.
it's neat.
Yeah,
I
think it might be really cool.
It might be. And the free to play stuff, there's the
waiting
potential
to see
there
how
for that
gross
to
that
actually
gets.
maybe be neat
Mhm.
in its own weird way. I don't know.
I'm gonna keep
That's wild.
trying.
Yeah.
I want to see how the multiplayer stuff
Who would've
works a
thought?
little bit more.
Yeah,
Like,
also,
that option,
there's-
just like I
there
pick
are
a faction,
trophies
like
and a
I
bunch
pick.
of-
I think it's you actually pick which state you're from, and they've got like a fucking logo for like all the states, like it's all stylized like California or
That's
Wisconsin
cool.
or whatever.
That's neat.
It's
All
really
right.
neat. And then you can see like a real time, a map of these factions like fighting or something. I don't know how it all works just yet.
Yeah. So I haven't gotten to that
It's
point
super
yet
neat.
because there's just like a blank menu that's just like tutorial stuff about TDM.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, what?
Yeah, so you can like go and attack people's bases.
Yeah,
you can
there are
set up
trophies about
defenses and-
destroying bases. That
I don't know if that's like the Metal Gear based kind of thing
Right.
or not.
Or if that's the whatever that awful game from last year was, the shit.
Yeah.
Castle Doctrine.
You remember the
No.
Wii U game?
Yes. There was something to it.
There was an idea in the multiplayer there.
You were the Russian drum player.
Yes, that game.
That
from,
free to play one?
Yeah, the Itagaki game.
Oh, that played like
Devil's Third?
Oh, Devil's
yeah,
Third.
Devil's
Yeah,
Third. That's
wow.
what it was.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Back-
Oh, this is icky.
That came out.
Yeah,
Right.
it sure did.
Yeah.
This is not as icky.
No,
Yeah, this sounds all
I don't
right.
even know if it's
I
I mean, there's no drum solo in Guantanamo Bay in this one, but
That's it.
still.
Not yet.
I
I mean, that
haven't
would not be
checked out all the
totally out
channels
of
yet.
character.
I
No,
gotta check- I
no
gotta check this out.
skateboards. You don't actually.
Uncle
get a
Death
skateboard?
rides a skateboard,
you
but
cannot-
I have not seen a rideable skateboard.
Yeah.
Would it surprise you?
No.
I like the stamina meter, which is not an actual meter.
Yeah, it's
your heart starts glowing and it starts being faster, and your controller starts rumbling a little bit more and more and more.
Like as you're
Yeah,
swinging.
and
As
if
you're
you
swinging
run
or
out,
running-
she'll stop and go and recover.
But like you can't just keep swinging.
No.
You would eventually.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, it's a neat effect. There's a lot of cool ideas going on.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah.
Layers.
Jeff, do you want to touch on Super Hot VR and/or Oculus Touch?
Yeah,
before we move to news.
that stuff's out. A lot of those games that they launched with, like they're like, we got 50 plus games, and a lot of them it's like Rec Room is on the Oculus Touch store now. Space Pirate Trainer is there.
So a lot lot of stuff they needed motion controls to do.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought Rec
like-
Room was free. It's not.
It is, but
Oh, it
it's on the Oculus store. It's
Okay.
also on Steam. And so like Space Pirate Trainer, prior to the launch of the Oculus Touch, actually worked with Oculus Touch, as most of the games on Steam totally do.
So you're saying stuff that is designated for Vive, Oculus Touch.
Yeah, like
seems
in my
to
experience,
natively just go.
the only thing that hasn't worked has been Google Earth VR, because that has seemingly some kind of headset check where it just says, "Hey, we don't support the Rift yet."
Oh.
Yet.
But
we'll let you know when we do.
right, But like Soundstage totally worked with Rift and Touch. Just like a lot of Steam stuff.
That's awesome. Like that.
Yeah.
That was the dream of just like fucking who cares which headset and controllers you get. The games will just work.
They announced today the Kronos Group is working on an open standard for VR that like Oculus is into, and Valve is also into it. Like all these other manufacturers are coming together. Like they did Vulkan.
That's where
Kronos Group did a lot of the Vulkan stuff. So.
But the controllers will not show up, right?
Right. So you'll be looking down at Vive controllers in some cases, but also
you just have to do the mental math.
So like Rec Room, even prior to it coming out on the Oculus Store, like the build of Rec Room that was out on Steam, when I launched it with a touch controller and it went through its tutorial process, it totally showed touch controllers in the diagrams.
Okay.
So like that stuff, that work was already done, and that was in the Steam version of the game. So, like Steam versions of games are being updated to kind of more readily support Oculus Touch. But it seems like by default, like you can kind of use the analog stick as the touchpad. It's not perfect for that stuff sometimes, but it works well enough. But like what they did, so like Space Pirate Trainer updated to like better account for the analog stick for weapon selection and stuff. Like it was a little clunky before because it was trying to, it was emulating the touchpad, and now they're just like have native support for it. It's a little bit cleaner and a little bit crisper to select weapons. But by and large, that stuff just works, and that's important. Because even games that you think of as like, big room scale games, like I'm playing them just fine with 2 sensors facing forward in my space, which does not meet the 7 foot by 5 foot. Like the Oculus setup identifies it as a moderate space, not full size, and also kind of a weird shape. But by and large, I've played everything just fine in that space.
There's no way to designate in that chaperone setup thing like a pillar or something, right? To be like, hey, I've mostly got a clear space here, but I can't.
I think you can.
So you can carve it out to know when you're getting close to like a support beam or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like it wouldn't necessarily.
Or a table of some kind?
It wouldn't like when. So you draw your space.
Yeah.
When you're just setting up, whether it's Guardian on Rift or the Chaperone
right, you like
on
outline
Vive.
it, right?
You outline it, but it wants the biggest rectangle it can find in that space. So you would lose all the space on the other side of that pillar.
Oh, okay. I meant more like, can I just inside of that rectangle say, you need to warn me when I'm getting close to this?
No.
Okay.
What if you had like one slanted wall? Could you do that where it's like a rectangle, but one is kind of slanted?
Yeah.
It will account for that.
Well, you just want the floor space, I think, right? It's
but
just
you draw the floor space, but like for game purposes, games want a rectangle.
Right. So are you just not able to use that space on the other side?
It'll
of this?
just create the smallest possible or the largest possible
Like,
rectangle.
okay.
But
It'll set
be
up the Guardian barriers
rectangle
however you draw them.
Right.
But like for games accounting for space and like how they can
Like, here's how big the job simulator room
Yeah,
is.
exactly. Job
Yeah.
simulator is going to look at like what your square is, what your
Right,
rectangle
right.
is, and build itself accordingly.
Okay.
Like, I'm just thinking of my space, like where I'd probably want to set up is my basement, but
Yeah.
there's one support column that I
Yeah.
need to know where that is.
Yeah,
As we have learned.
You would probably just draw
A smaller-
You could draw around it, and like the in-game, the barrier, the in-headset barriers would account for that. But like as far as like what space games would want to work with, we wouldn't necessarily want to use
Seems
that
dangerous.
stuff.
Yeah, I'd probably just have to cordon it off.
It wouldn't. It's not bad. Like I'm playing next to a window, and I've not punched it out yet. Though Job Simulator on PS4 I almost punched out that window.
Well, like I think it would be tough for me to have a big rectangle with something in the middle.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna work.
That's not going to work. Okay. Because otherwise, it's a difference between me having probably like a 10-foot space or a 5-foot space
Yeah.
because of that one thing.
But 5 is still pretty good for.
Or you just tear down that support column.
Yeah.
Totally, you don't need it.
I don't.
It's not a load-bearing support
I mean,
column.
yeah.
Right.
It's an aesthetic one.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'd say like the main difference I've encountered so far between like the Rift setup with 2 sensors pointing front and the Vive kind of true room scale stuff is that because both the sensors are facing front, when I turn around and block the controllers,
Oh, it loses it a bit.
it loses it a bit, but
Okay.
it's still mostly fine. But and they call their diagonal setup on the Oculus stuff experimental, but it's doing, from the sounds of things, that's doing what you want it to do. And then you can set up a third sensor for like 2 up front and then 1 diagonal back if you want kind of like their true room scale. But like most of the games are set up in ways where they're like, hey, we support this, but we're counting on you to just have 2 sensors facing forward. That's the game we built.
I got a 5.1 sensor set.
Yeah, right.
What is a package I could buy today to get me up and running?
If you
like,
were
what's
starting
the $800,
if you were starting from scratch, it's an $800 pack that is pretty much the equivalent of the Vive pack.
So it's a headset.
It's a headset, the touch controllers. Each one of those 2 boxes comes with a sensor.
So what is
if you want a third sensor, the sensor is a USB device. It
has to be plugged into a.
Yeah.
Oh,
so the
is
Vive,
it getting power or is it communicating?
It's communicating.
So it has to be in the computer.
Yes.
Okay.
2.0.
I was told you could get away with having your second sensor in a 2.0 port.
I would hope so.
But I have.
They don't
not.
make a shit ton of 3.0 extension cables that are powered.
Yeah.
And if they do, they're pretty expensive, I think.
Right. So that stuff. That's the tricky part because with the Vive Lighthouses, those don't plug into the computer. Those just plug into power.
Right.
So you can just mount those and plug them in wherever you got power and hope for the best. So this is that would be a little bit trickier to outfit a room.
Least powered off the USB?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just a USB cable.
Mm-hmm.
And then the headset needs 2 USB 3?
It needs 1 USB 3 and HDMI.
HDMI.
Yeah.
Okay. And the headset comes with a pretty long HDMI cable? Fairly flexible?
You might want to upgrade.
It's long enough for if you're playing near the computer.
Okay.
It hasn't been a problem in my setup.
And then the touch controllers are just plug in to charge?
No, they're 1 AA battery.
Oh.
Yeah.
I kind of like that better.
And those are they feel great. The tracking on them is really swell. It's a good VR controller. Like it detects more. Like it's got that ring around it. So like when you're just and games not too many games have taken advantage of this. I Expect You to Die has. Where when you just point your index fingers through the ring, it knows that. When I rest my thumb on the analog stick or on the sensor on the flat spot next to it, my thumbs go in. Even though I'm not actually pushing a button, it knows that I'm pointing. So like games will take advantage of oh, you're pointing and now you're pushing buttons, which actually is cool.
Yeah, I think I would just wait. I mean, it's expensive, so I'm probably not going to get it for a while. I want to see what the durability is on some of that stuff.
Sure.
Make sure this round,
hey, maybe don't punch stuff.
Maybe don't
these.
smack TV stands, or just the pointer starts going crazy after a while, right? Or something, some weird thing on them, because all this tech
still
is
first gen stuff,
or even waiting to see if they refine the headsets. I'm waiting to see are they going to come up with a more condensed and cheaper version of a headset?
Right, so
wireless
that third party wireless thing that was announced. I would love to see that in the wild and see if that's something that they adopt in a revision.
I hear that thing might be all right.
Yeah,
sounds like it might be.
Is that out commercially available?
No.
They took pre-orders in China.
Okay. And that's an Oculus thing, or that's a both?
The power thing is a Vive thing. It's part of it was part of a HTC incubator program.
That's crazy. It puts Oculus kind of on par with the Vive stuff.
Yes,
so that makes that choice a little bit harder.
Well, it sounds like you can use Oculus stuff on Vive stuff, but can you use Vive stuff in the Oculus store?
You can, but that's a little hacky. Someone has a program out there called Revive. That they have made it so they've kind of built some kind of framework that lets you use the Vive stuff with the Oculus Store apps, and so it's not automatic. And that's what I hope. They literally just announced it today. This open standards push. There's a quote from Carmack in it going this is what we need.
Totally.
So with all the companies that are making these headsets for PC on board. And a lot of the smaller companies and other stuff in the works, hopefully they get to a point where this stuff is just not an issue. And then at that point it becomes business. At that point it becomes will Oculus allow you to access their closed environment without you owning their hardware? And that's a business decision on their point. And it largely is right now. In some cases they could kind of just allow that stuff a little more easily.
If there's an open standard, you'd imagine third parties would be much more eger to get in there.
Yeah, it's like the stuff we talked about,
or even replacement controllers.
Yeah, the stuff we talked about last week with Ubisoft having cross compatibility between PlayStation VR, Oculus, and Vive, all the multiplayer going into one pool. Moves like that have to happen because splintering it apart is going to just make it sure that no one reaches any kind of critical mass with any one headset, and it's just a mess forever.
I would think Oculus would be happy to sell software to Vive owners, but I'm not a Facebook executive, but that would make sense to me.
Yeah.
Right.
You're better off making money off of people that didn't buy your hardware than not. Right?
Maybe it's like a support case they don't want to have support and build that framework, and I don't know. Maybe it's more complicated than I think. But yeah, like that stuff works in this hacky way that you'd think at some point they would just go like, all right, whatever, we got it, fine.
But then that puts you in the race and where consoles got with like first party games or exclusives, right? And you're doing an exclusive chase down and trying to get.
That's what Oculus is doing. Like they started a publishing division. Super Hot VR is only on their store. I Expect You to Die, I believe, is only on their store.
Kind of tough.
Rock Band VR is a game that they are funding and publishing. Like, and I think if you ask them about it, they're like, no, we're paying for it. So yeah. Maybe a little less aggressive than I just was, but I think that stuff is weird, and I think it's a hassle to have to, because the way stuff launches with an Oculus, if you're playing stuff on Steam, is a little strange too. Because like you put the headset on, it all automatically launches you into the Oculus Store VR store environment, and then you're like, okay, now I need to click Steam VR, and then it just like wipes that out with the Steam VR interface, and then you're in a totally different store on top of a store, and so when you quit Steam VR, it brings you back to the Oculus Fireplace. And like some of that stuff's just a little weird. Like it's not that big a deal,
right?
But it's just like slightly clunky in a way where you're like, like they had an elegant thing in mind with Oculus by being able to detect when you put it on and launch the software. Sure, that means it's running services in the background, and that's kind of fucked. But if you disable it, it's like, can't find the service. Sorry, it doesn't just start the services.
Oh, really?
Which sort of sucks if you're one of those people that's just like, I'm not going to use any resources that I'm not actually using. Then it's a lot of manual shutdown startup stuff. Anyway, so that stuff could be like they had a clean thing in mind that gets a little clunky when you step outside of their store.
It's not gonna be clean. It's gonna be dirty.
Our dirty.
It's gonna be dirty
VR future. So whatever. There's some games out that are The Unspoken's cool. I Expect You to Die is cool. Rip Coil is cool. Kind of a Pong Windjammers-y sort of deal.
Is Discs of Tron available yet?
No, but Rip Coil is pretty much
that's the closest
is
we're gonna get.
Sort of like that.
I need the actual thing.
Yeah. Then you're going to ask Disney to get involved in making video games, and we all know how that goes.
I have been.
So you've been using VR in your house, right?
Yeah.
So like, how is that working out with like your wife and stuff like that? Do you feel like you are?
It kind of sucks.
It kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. Does she have to like tap you on a shoulder?
She'll like call for me, and like I will almost like sometimes I don't hear it at all, but I'll be wearing the Oculus headphones and stuff, and sometimes
and then she gets pissed and she gets right in your fucking face and just
rips it up.
That does not happen.
Okay. So do you feel totally like if the doorbell rang or something like you are out of it?
Yeah, kind of.
Wow.
And if someone was ransacking my house,
like you would know.
Yeah.
Have you done a thing
I keep the volume super low on that thing though.
But even still, like with those headphones on, it's still in there.
Yep.
I mean, have you gone in during the daytime and come out and it's nighttime and had it be weird?
Yeah, like I think when I was like using Oculus Medium, I spent a bunch of time like sculpting, and then was like, oh fuck, who? So last night I played Super Hot VR start to finish in one sitting.
Is it good?
Yeah, it is. It's really good. I think I like regular Super Hot, like the first Super Hot game better.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a sequel to Super Hot. It is kind of just a different
VR
Super Hot thing.
A little like Serious Sam was? Like you're kind of planted? Or
you walk around.
You do walk around.
Yeah.
Does it keep the same rules as standard Super Hot, like moving and the time stuff and everything? But it's different levels, right? It's not one for one.
So it is definitely not one for one. It's not the same game. It's not it doesn't have the text interface stuff. It is different in that way. It reuses some of the environments, but in different ways. And generally, like the thing I'd say that like you'll most notice is that all the action kind of takes place in front of you or at your sides. Like I don't think there's ever a case where anyone's behind you.
Okay.
Oh.
Because the game is built for the Oculus Touch stuff, where like the tracking is best in front of you,
right,
in kind of this 180-degree radius. So you don't move around. There's no teleport. There's no move around the environment manually. It's like you spawn into a scenario. There are people to murder. Sometimes more will spawn in. Time moves when you do, and that means, whether you're moving your hands or your head, that's going to make time go. So if you're standing still, time pretty much stops. So it leads to cases where like I'm hiding behind an elevator wall, going like this a little bit to make time move, so this guy gets
Shaking
close
your
enough
hands.
for me to fucking punch him in the face, take his gun, and shoot the other two people.
Does it tell you that that's the most effective way to kind of get time?
It doesn't. It
you're
doesn't,
making
it doesn't
like
tell
a-
you much of anything.
Okay.
Woo motion.
Yeah, it's a
For
very
those
it's a-
listening at home.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
it's
if you were
very,
just
very. Oh, sorry. Yes, it's a very Arsenio style.
If you were just
motion.
bouncing your head around, that would do the same
Yep.
thing, basically. Okay.
So then, when you pick up an item, when you shoot a gun, that makes time kind of jut forward a little bit more than the average movement does. So firing a gun while you have bullets headed your way is usually a bad idea, unless you've already stepped out of the way of those incoming bullets. So that's where the movement is like they will shoot at you, and you'll see those bullets coming and be like, okay, I need to take 2 steps to my left, or I just need to duck my head around this.
Super hot. So good.
and kind of handle it. Though in VR, I could never do this in regular Super Hot. In VR, it is trivial of holding up guns to block bullets, like letting the bullets just hit the side of the gun.
Oh, because you just
or
have the fidelity.
just having the knife and just cutting bullets out of the air
Oh.
and that sort of stuff. Like just taking care of business that way.
Yeah.
Is fucking awesome.
Like the depth perception on the computer was
like you know
tough.
exactly how much time you have because
Yeah.
you see that bullet and you're like, all right, I have plenty of time to move out of the way of this, and then line up my shot and aim down the sights.
Have you been able to shoot a bullet?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that happens more often than I care for, honestly, because like I'm trying to kill those people, not shoot their bullets.
Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to
Yeah.
do.
So then what it is like it'll drop you into this sequence. You'll take care of like 4 guys, whatever it is there, and then a pyramid will appear that you have to grab. And when you grab it, you teleport to a different part of the level and do it again. Okay. So it's like each individual level is like 6 or 7 of those strung together, and then that's what's considered the end. Then it yells super hot at you for a while, and you move on.
Okay.
And then sometimes you kind of come out of the headset and you're in front of all these computers and
Virtually.
inserting floppy disks into things, and then putting a headset on while you're wearing a headset in VR.
Play the
which
next
is fun
level.
to play the next level.
Sure.
And it does some of the goofy, dumb things that Super Hot wants you to do in order to give yourself over to the experience in ways that are a lot of fun to do in VR. A thing I do in VR a lot anyway is asked of you in this game, and I appreciate that a lot. You might hate it. You also get to walk off a building.
I don't like
Oh.
that.
You have to prove your loyalty. You have to give yourself over to the experience.
Can I stop playing?
No.
Oh, no.
You're playing right now.
Oh, my
turns out.
gosh. Whoops. I just took the goggles off.
Yeah, so
You're free.
I think like Super Hot, the standard PC game, is a better expression of the Super Hot concepts in their entirety, from the chat and all the other stuff that is in Super Hot. I think all that stuff's really good. Super Hot VR doesn't have a lot of that stuff. So it's a little less clear as to what you're doing and why.
So it's like more like a companion piece?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is its own thing. It's not a VR version of original Super Hot. It's definitely its own thing built for VR, and I think it's really cool.
There are parts of like Hitman where I want to do the things I do in Super Hot and then get mad because I can't pull them off. It's like when I have 3 targets or 3 people in a room and I'm like, oh, I'm going to throw the bust at this guy's head and then I'm going to try and shoot this guy and then I'm going to get this guy. It's going to be awesome.
So there's like stuff in Super Hot where like you spawn in and you're in a meat locker and there's 2 guys very close to you. One, like you start the level by grabbing a hatchet in this case. And then there's like 2 guys right there and 1 guy coming close behind with a knife. So it's this awesome motion of just like, in one motion, I'm going to reach like this and cut these 2 guys' heads off and then throw this fucking cleaver into the 3rd guy.
But you have complete independent control of both hands,
Yeah.
so you can be shooting and doing something else
Yes.
here at the same time?
Like I grabbed 2 knives and then threw them out to my sides to kill 2 guys.
Does it do any of the Batman, like Batarang, or does it feel like it's going where you're throwing it?
It's hard to hit people at distance with thrown objects because it's fucking hard. But by the end of that thing, which again, I finished it in one sitting. It's not one standing. It's not a super long game. But by the end of that thing, I was throwing knives at dudes from pretty far away and landing it. That stuff feels good.
That's great. I want to try that out at some
Yeah,
point.
it's I've got a touch here. We'll set it up so you guys can try it.
How much
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that thing?
I think it's $15.
Oh wow. Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, I think it's 15,
But
but
it's
it's also
only
part
on
of a
the
bundle. It's
Oculus
only on Oculus. It requires touch. They've got a launch bundle for like $90.
Just a bunch
that's
of
got
touch
like
games.
that and
Gotcha.
Space Pirate Trainer, I think, is in there, and
Alright.
the stuff you would want.
There was a lot of like Black Friday deals that bundled in $100 worth
Yep.
of Oculus Store stuff.
Yeah,
So
Oh, interesting.
If you got the
if you got
Oculus.
the when you bought an
Whole thing?
Oculus from certain stores, I think it was.
Oh,
That seems like a pretty decent launch.
yeah, that $800 price.
Well,
point
yeah,
on
obviously
both
it's
those.
super fucking
No.
expensive, but I mean, if you already had a Rift,
expensive, super expensive.
Super
if you already had a Rift and you were waiting for motion controls, this sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the touch controls are really good. It's a kick-ass controller. I think I actually prefer it over the Vive wand.
So I'm at a point now with VR where I think I would like to get in on VR. I think I'm kind of with you, Brad, on just like, ooh, I think I will wait till one revision
Yes.
from now.
I think that's the smart thing to do. Like if nothing you've seen, I feel like people will know, right? Like if nothing you've seen so far has made you just go like, I need to fucking buy one of these right fucking now. I don't care. I like if you're not like that person going like, I know this is crazy, but I'm still gonna buy this.
yeah,
Then you should totally wait.
yeah.
Like they're starting to stack up a pretty healthy array of great VR experiences. But when you set that against it's $800 on top of you having a
Right.
decently powerful PC, it's
And the space for it.
yeah, and in the room for it, yeah.
And I mean, let's talk on top of that. Like, doesn't feel like there's any immediate threat that VR is going to disappear in the foreseeable future. Like, while those
Right,
headsets
yeah.
may be struggling a little
Yeah.
bit in terms of actual numbers of units sold, like it seems like the push has not gone away, and these companies are still at least committed for the immediate future.
Yeah, that stuff seems somewhat stabilized.
But it also is, I think, on top of the cost to entry, it still seems very expensive to continually get the experience. Like these
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
experiences still cost 15 or
Yeah,
something.
software's not
and
cheap.
yeah, because there aren't a lot of headsets out there, the software is expensive to account for that. you
And for
know,
stuff that
and-
like I might try once and be like,
Right.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
But like that was $20 I have to pay.
I mean,
each
definitely.
time.
you're basically you're investing in these things because you want to have the opportunity to give other people these sorts of amusement experiences. I mean, I'm sure there are some that are worth playing over and over again, but in general, it feels like the pull here is now like, I have VR. Now I'm going to bring people over.
Yeah. Come over and
they're
check out my
gonna try
VR.
VR.
Post a Craigslist thing, $10 an hour.
There you go.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
you're thinking.
Yeah.
I'm going to
turn
start
your
my
apartment into a VR suite and just have someone stand there.
I'm actually.
That's what I do.
I have a new app. It's the Uber of VR amusements. It lets you set up your own VR business in your home.
It's illegal.
We're disrupting VR.
It's called VR, but with the vowels taken out.
Okay.
And on
pretty
that
good.
note,
Yes.
Should we move on?
yes,
What is that note signal?
It's the move on.
time
note.
to go to the news because holy shit, we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Wow. The Game Awards happened, and then the PlayStation Experience happened.
Yeah.
So it's just a fucking double whammy of news dumps here in the first week of December.
Let me start with the Game Awards.
Yeah, let's go chronologically. The Game Awards happened Thursday night?
Thursday night.
Last Thursday, and then PSX was over the
They were happening
weekend.
as we were recording the Beastcast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch that stuff. Did you guys?
Yeah. The first hour or so.
I
I saw the
pieces.
important part.
I got home in time to see Mass Effect and Walking Dead at the very end. That was it. But
I saw Death Stranding.
yeah, so I didn't feel
That was
like
the
there
start
was
of the show,
There wasn't a ton
Yeah.
of. It was pretty close to the beginning. I didn't feel like there was a ton of massive news coming out of the Game Awards.
No, like they didn't have a lot of the surprise announcements that they've perhaps had in the past. It was more like, here is stuff to see from things that maybe you had an inkling existed, but now definitely do.
Listen,
So-
I didn't know Telltale was going to do Guardians of the Galaxy.
We'll
That was
get
a
there.
huge-
We'll get there.
They're going to
Huge
do everything
surprise.
eventually.
Did they do a lot of surprises last year? I felt like it was pretty.
Last year
tepid.
was kind of muted too, but like going years into the past when
Right.
it was
Yeah.
the Spike TV stuff, like that's
but-
when they would get.
But I feel like they try to move away from that so they didn't
Not
have
all
to
the
get
way.
as big a
No,
like a,
I don't know. I don't know if they tried to move away from
I
it.
think it's that like the reality of it, like it's not on television anymore.
Right,
It's
yes,
kind of an unfair
yes.
comparison.
Yes.
Like it's not
That's-
the
that's
same
what I
award
meant.
show. It's not the same name.
Like remember
Spike
when,
TV is not involved in this thing.
Well, that's kind of what I mean.
yeah.
like remember
it's-
remember when it was on TV, like they announced Skyrim there.
Yeah.
I know,
Well,
but-
they
Or
still
Dark Souls
tried
2.
to reveal stuff. Like that first year after they were off Spike, that's when No Man's Sky, I think, was revealed.
that was
it
the one.
first
But that was the one
appearance.
that wasn't in
That
an
was the
arena.
VGX
Yeah.
or whatever.
That was
Yeah,
still
yeah.
Spike TV.
But that whole
Or it was just online, but it was still backed by.
okay.
Yeah.
that whole environment seems like a way different arena than where they are now. Like where
Yeah.
you to get viewership or to sell to TV or to sell to a publisher, everything is different versus now
Yeah.
where you're online and
Yeah.
time constraints are hopefully different, but the prestige maybe to a publisher isn't as high to get your announcement.
It's still
Well,
the
it's not
only
TV.
big production game awards thing that isn't
Yeah.
at like DICE or GDC.
that is true.
So
And also, it's still it's kind of the only
I mean, for better or worse.
thing of its kind in this quarter that is like a thing that's going to draw any eyeballs that also has like a marketing purpose for like, hey, we could put our trailer here.
aside from like E3.
Well, now there's
But no, at this time of the year.
well now there's PSX, but that's mostly
But nobody-
Sony dominated.
Yeah, but
third
like
parties
nobody
aren't.
needs The PlayStation can hold one whenever they want.
Exactly.
Like Ubisoft could do it.
Yeah.
Microsoft has done it.
Anyone can announce a game anytime they want and get the eyeballs they're looking for if it's an online thing. It really is just like,
100%
is
share of
this
voice.
a prestige mainstream hit like on television or on the front page of a newspaper or on the front page of a print magazine?
So like I'm kind of torn whether like this should be a vehicle for announcements or should just this be more focused on awards.
I think this is the right.
I think they're already putting the awards in the back. I mean, whenever they'd come back from a break, as it were, they'd and then these guys won.
Here are the winners of 3 more
yeah,
categories.
it's like the technical
The awards have always been the afterthought in that
I
production.
know. I know. It's
All right.
It's frustrating.
Well, with that said, let's start going through the stuff that actually did happen there. Kojima showed up and belatedly accepted his award from last year.
right.
And then, I had like a 5-minute Death Stranding trailer.
Yeah,
And what a thing that was.
man.
Go ahead.
I'm just really happy.
Yeah.
Like I see
Well,
that
of
thing.
course you were going to be happy. You were going to be happy with anything that he
I
came
don't
out
know.
with. Come on.
If he did something that didn't seem super fucking weird and Kojima-like, I'd be super bummed out.
yeah.
But he is just going so far into his own.
Well,
I mean, for
Kojima
some
stuff.
perspective, I am not the diehard Kojima fanboy at this table. I don't really like Metal Gear that much, but watching that trailer, I got excited too, because for the same reason you said, this seems like Kojima has completely thrown off any sort of shackles
Yeah.
of, coherency or anything, and they're just like, nope, I'm gonna do every fucking thing I want. I'm gonna make all the metaphors I want for all the ways that Konami fucked me over.
I'm going to call in every Hollywood friend I have.
Yeah, he's created this weirdo Hollywood posse around him that all have the exact same animus for Konami,
Yeah, so
and they're
it's-
all going at him.
So Guillermo del Toro and Mads Mikkelsen were featured prominently in this
Yes.
trailer.
So are these going to be characters in the game? Like, is Norman
Yes.
Reedus in the game?
Norman-
Is he the baby in the bottle?
he's the
Is-
star.
I thought I understood that Norman Reedus was the player character.
Yes, he
Isn't that-
is.
Is that right?
He's the new
Okay.
Snake.
And
Is he the baby in Guillermo del Toro's
because
bottle?
didn't you see the thing where they lined up the two trailers?
Yeah, and like, aren't they doing the same motions?
It's that the baby disappears from Norman Reedus' hands as it appears in the jar.
Wait, so they teleport a baby from Norman Reedus?
They
in the beach?
transfer the baby
yes.
I
from
didn't
one
realize it
trailer to the
disappeared.
other.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was making the same faces as Norman Reedus. I thought that was the whole thing. I saw some
baby
gifs.
was making the same
I
faces?
saw some gifs and I was like, oh, this is going to blow your mind when you realize what they did. And I looked at it and it looked like the baby was doing like, oh, my baby
Yeah, I think
things.
it's way more. It's way more that like I think that baby disappears from one thing and travels over to the other.
So are like oil babies the currency in Death Stranding? And then there's these weird
You're
like
really
otter
trying to
things?
suss out more than there is right now.
Yeah.
Like what you need to know is that dude was wearing fucking weird night vision goggles, and then he lifted them up, and his whole helmet disappeared because fuck it.
Also, he had weird, like, umbilical cords for the rest of his squad.
that controlled a bunch of soldiers, and he was crying or had a bunch of like weird makeup squid stuff on.
I think he was bleeding the oil.
Oh,
right?
okay,
Or-
yeah.
I don't know. That trailer did very little for me. In terms,
Really?
Yeah.
But are you like a Metal Gear guy? Like the
Sure.
weird parts? Like, do you like Metal Gear as a stealth video game or as just a batshit thing that exists?
I like the crazy in Metal Gear.
Okay, all right.
But I feel like this is not the crazy in Metal Gear, or this is the like. This doesn't feel like
Kojima? Like this feels like Kojima craziness.
It totally does.
But
Yeah,
it
does.
it kind of feels like
It didn't
almost
seem that crazy. It seemed like kind of muted.
Yeah,
Like,
Are
yeah.
you kidding me? Are you
I-
fucking with? Is this a fire boiled thing?
No, this is totally like I've watched too much anime, but like guys standing in
Yeah.
like sentient ooze does not like that's happened in Metal Gear. Like Children of Men had babies that were like the prized possession that you had to smuggle around. Like a guy, Guillermo del Toro has done crazier shit than this.
Yeah, but I
That's
think
fair.
like Guillermo del Toro, doesn't he do more like weird fantasy creatures and
I've-
stuff? Like,
yeah, have you
this seems
seen
to
that
he does a lot.
shit?
I've never seen any Guillermo del Toro movie. No.
yeah. It's
Like it seemed like I don't like. Here's what happened: a guy is standing with a baby in like a little pod. He's going up against the wall. Some ooze is on the ground. It goes into a sewer tunnel.
Yeah.
Where a guy that looks exactly like a Metal Gear Solid boss is standing there.
You seem to have passed over the flesh tank.
Well, there's a tank. There's a
thing.
tank with like looked like Resident Evil shit on it. Like it looked like the Plagas or whatever all over it.
Yeah.
But it's got the Kojima thing where it's like it seems to be real world like setting. Like that seems to be like on Earth with humanoid looking people, but then also with this layer of weird ooze stuff and mind control and tentacles and octopus tanks or whatever.
And until there's a game there,
Right.
Until
I know.
Until
I'm
they
not-
kind of contextualize some of this stuff, it just looks like weirdness for weirdness' sake, and you're like, all right,
Right.
Like when you're done, like masturbating over these trailers and get around to a video game, then we can talk.
Yeah.
Right now, it's like
In 4 years.
it's an intriguing looking thing that you look at it and go like, well, I'd like to see where
But
this goes.
that has been the fun
but-
of Metal Gear for me for years and years. It's just, it always takes 4 fucking years for these to come out. And there's always a million trailers that seem to be kind of fucking with you and trying to kind of suss out what's happening here. Like, oh, Metal Gear 3, is this really Snake in a VR simulation playing through Big Boss? Like, trying to decipher what's going on is part of the fun.
But
for
then
me.
you're
yes,
rolling
but
into
like-
somebody's knees. in
Yeah,
the
but
end.
then also but remember that like all those Metal Gear trailers are grounded in the notion that you have the context for who these characters have
Right,
been,
right, like-
and you have some notion of like what Metal Gear and Metal Gear Solid have been over the years as a stealth game, as this, as that, and you can start to ask those questions. Whereas this, there's no touchstone for you to go to and go like, okay.
But that's what I love
Yes,
about it.
exactly.
Is that I
yes.
love that it is completely uncoupled from this,
Yes.
from the layers and layers of bullshit that built up around that franchise for so long, and it's just weirdness.
and that's what makes it intriguing at all.
Yes. Is no frame of reference, no way. It's like when they first showed the Phantom Pain before you knew it was a Metal Gear Solid game, and it's like, what's going on with this whale? What the fuck am I watching even right now?
I played all that game and I still wonder what the fuck's going on
Yeah,
with
that's
that
fair.
whale.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
Did you see,
Psycho Mantis was
Did you see this comparison between the baby in this trailer and Venom Snake?
no.
Like the
Oh,
number.
yeah.
So this baby has got shrapnel in its forehead.
Okay.
It's got one blue eye and it's blind in the other eye. It's got a plastic arm, like a fake arm.
So does this go back to the like you're stealing my baby Konami thing?
Who knows?
I think
that
the
to me
metaphor is pretty apparent.
So that to me is more interesting than what I saw. Like, right, the layers of like, I'm gonna make this fucking art piece that just tears them down. Like, it's way more interesting than any of the puddle of ooze, Resident Evil stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought that Norman Reedus trailer was way more off the wall than this. Like, this seemed like more along the lines of like, oh, is somebody gonna get a gun and this could be a third-person tactical shooter?
Yeah.
I don't need that right now because there's no
game
I
yet.
don't expect to play this next holiday or anything, so I'm not waiting for like, oh, what's the cover mechanics going to be like? I just want to see batshit Kojima.
Well,
stuff.
what I'm saying is like the original trailer to me was like way more off the wall.
Well, because that was your very first impression of that thing, and it told you nothing other than Norman Reedus is there. And there
yeah.
are some people in the sky.
yes, you forgot about the Sky people.
Yes, there are sky people.
Yeah, and that had
Yes.
floating whales.
There was stuff on a there was
This
dead
one was crabs.
sea life on a
There are crabs everywhere.
Yes.
but right, the original one.
No, this one.
No, there were
Okay,
crabs at
that's-
the beginning of this one.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Something about it it looked like a Resident Evil trailer to me.
Huh.
Like
I didn't get that vibe at all.
something about it just
I see where you're coming from.
like okay,
like I wasn't disappointed with it, but
slimy
yeah,
goo. And, Like
I
it
get
didn't
you.
seem crazy to
Yeah,
me. Like
yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
But do you have faith that the final product will be crazy?
No,
You don't?
nope.
See, I have all the faith in the world.
I have
I
faith.
think it's very real possibility that like that stuff is just around the periphery of cutscenes, and the actual gameplay ends up being something way smaller. Like if you think about this is going to be like smaller team, like all this stuff. Like
Yeah,
in terms of like size and scope of this game, I feel like there's still so much left to be written
Yes.
about what the actual product ends up being.
Like what's a crazy Kojima thing?
Boktai.
Having to Boktai, yeah. Having to get a codec frequency off the back of a case, unplugging your controller.
Okay, so is that the stuff
Or
that you
just
think?
the storyline stuff, like just the entirety of Metal Gear Solid and the whole lore of those characters. Like it's all batshit.
Yeah, and just
the
the-
S3 plan,
The visual art that he builds around that stuff.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I've generally liked that stuff, but at the same time, I think a lot of it comes across as just weird for weirdness' sake. in a
but
way
I think
that,
in
like,
his head he's not trying to be weird. I think he's got a story he's trying to put out, but he just throws it out there in the weirdest fucking way.
I mean, if you want to say that, yeah, his metaphors sometimes are a little confusing, then that, yes, you're absolutely right about that. But I think that, yes, he is trying to express something through all of that, and whether that comes across or not is very hit or miss.
And
I don't think he's trying to make like Dada art here. I think he's trying to tell a story.
But also, it's like it's filtered through the lens of like him growing up in Japan and Japanese culture, and like there's a lot of anime. Like you definitely see a lot of that stuff and go like, okay, yeah, no, we've seen a lot of this type of
like
imagery.
When he's at his craziest, it feels like I'm reading I'm on like Wikia. And I'm just kind of like bouncing from article to article. That's like, wow, this is kind of tangent. Are you just writing this real time?
Like, so like the last 2 hours of Metal Gear Solid 2, basically.
Yeah, like it's all like tangentially related. That like these connections were just made up like today and not like
It all makes sense.
Sure, it might. In the same way that like you have 5 timelines for Zelda makes sense.
Metal Gear makes more sense than Zelda. Zelda, I think, is just whatever, princess and
Does
Ganon
it make
and
sense
stuff.
because he went back and made it make sense?
Oh, I don't think he had this all in mind from like the MSX days. No, like he is like retconning the shit out of
he has
stuff.
definitely rewritten a lot of it.
from the Metal Gear Solid 1 days. It wasn't like
right. So like that's the stuff that I feel like he makes it make sense. He makes it make sense because he employs a narrative tool that makes no sense in the real world. That's like, oh, this is a memory erasing bug that I can
there's
put
a
in.
nanomachine
like,
virus.
Oh,
that...
I can make a guy's arm take over somebody else, but then not. And like,
then it didn't really happen.
Oh, okay. This like you
Are
can
you
just
saying it has
invent
the
stuff.
cohesiveness of like fan fiction that's been
that's what I'm saying. It's like a Wikia
one
or like-
author that's
yeah.
been writing the same story for the last 15 years.
Absolutely.
And just like bolts another bit onto it to help cram it into this different. Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
So it's like that's the level of craziness that I would expect. Like, sure, yeah, I can make up shit too. Like,
well, look, you should keep in mind all of
I
this.
do.
Why don't you?
Okay.
All right.
Let's make a Metal Gear, Vinny.
Keep in mind,
can do.
he did all of that under the banner of Konami, which for as much leash as they were allowed to let out with him, like they still were trying to make games that people would buy.
Right.
The question with this one for me is how much the money men behind Kojima Productions and to a lesser extent, I guess Sony, because they're putting some money behind this thing, how much they're willing to give him. Because if he really is truly unchained from the fucking restraints put on him by Konami lawyers and what have you, then I have a feeling this could go to some places.
Well, also, I don't think he'll have a blank check to work with.
No.
Like, Sony's not crazy.
Sure. No.
Like, Mark Cerny's the technical director on this thing. This is an engine that
On
is...
this game?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't. Weird.
like, this is Guerrilla's engine, or like, Guerrilla is working on some of the tech in this thing. Like, granted, this is also the same Sony that just blew fucking 9 years on The Last Guardian, so who knows? But, like... they're not just going to let him just burn money.
Right.
Like,
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
I don't know. Like, there's a crazy for me, and there's a silly, and there's a whole thing. But like, you look at somebody like Suda, and like that's where I look for stuff that's like, oh, this just makes no sense and is crazy.
That's
But
a
it's still
wacky, irreverent.
But he's even just like, oh, there's a creativity here that is like, where are you even drawing this inspiration from? Where the Konami or the Kojima stuff just sometimes feels like
Nonsensical.
but totally nonsensical in a way.
For its own sake, like nonsensical for the sake of it, not because it's going to.
Well, no,
force
I think
something.
nonsensical for its own sake is Suda, because Suda just is it's anarchic. That's his whole thing. Is just he is a punk rock game designer, and he is just trying to make whatever sounds cool in his head happen, and that's not bad. But none of that stuff is interconnected either. Like he's just does, from game to game, he does different shit.
Well, I'm not saying there isn't an attempt to do that in
Yeah.
Kojima's stuff. I'm just saying a lot of it comes off that way.
Kojima is like trying to put forth intellectual ideas and stuff in these super weird ways, which is why I think I like it more, is he plays certain stuff super straight-faced amongst all the weirdness, whereas like the Suda sweary weirdness is more just like, wacky, hey, here's wacky shit. Kojima, like in his head, is trying to make some points.
And
you
there's
know?
parts of Kojima games where I look at it and go, oh, fuck off.
Yes,
right?
of course.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's like, not in a way that's like that fuck off because that's too silly. It's like, oh, fuck you. Like
the point you're trying to make
Get your
is
head
so
out of your own
contrived.
ass.
And yeah. But I love that.
Like, it becomes heavy-handed and overwrought. Like, I'm going to really drill this point into you now. And you're like, oh, come on.
I mean, that was a
like,
lot of Metal Gear 4, right? Like, that
Oh,
was
yeah.
just a non-stop onslaught of that shit.
There's a lot in that, yeah.
Please
then
read my
there's the
think
fucking
piece about how
monkey
Metal
that
Gear
smokes
Solid
and-
presaged the election results and blah, blah. Yeah.
not to say I didn't like that stuff. Like I really do, and I do appreciate that stuff. But like again, the trailer for me didn't have me spinning in circles of like, what did I just see?
No, it didn't have me spinning in circles either, but like
I feel like I've seen Hellboy go crazier places
when
than that.
when I was watching it, I had a dumb smile on my face the whole time. Like I was just like, "Oh, you just don't give a fuck anymore," and this is great. That was the vibe I got from it.
I just feel like they are indicators that things are going in the direction I want them to go. I don't think as standalone things like, oh, that trailer is a work of art. I just think every little bit they're pulling the curtain back on this thing. It's just like, this is gonna be weird.
And I like the casting. Like I like the casting. He's going like I don't necessarily have a ton of love for Norman Reedus as an actor, but he's fine. But like Mads Mikkelsen and like Guillermo del Toro kind of just weirding it up. Like that all sounds great.
Yeah, that stuff's awesome.
We'll see who else they get.
That sounds great, but also like if you like remember what Kiefer Sutherland did and didn't do for that game, like that was an overall negative on that game. So if like.
Mad seems like he's more on board.
Yeah, but if Kojima is spending the money to get these people in and doesn't get them in for enough time, and then suddenly everyone is silent because like, oh, we didn't have enough lines to record. The same way Kiefer was in 5.
Yeah.
Like this could go bad places.
Right.
I've also maybe lost a lot of patience with the like Kojima tease of like he does it very intentionally, and it's been decades.
I love those. The whole Joaquin Mogren thing was beautiful. I love that shit. I want more of that.
I thought that was super lame.
I loved it.
I love it. What?
The whole Joaquin Mogren, Moby Dick Studios. This isn't Metal Gear, but it's so.
Dude, I figured out that was a Metal Gear game like 20 seconds into that first.
So did most
trailer,
of the internet, but like I like that he
Mm.
kept it up and still like shows up with the bandages on his face.
It was so.
There's a dedication to the bit
so
that I love
clumsily
with that guy.
handled that like if you can't do it more elegantly than that,
like
come on.
that concept was good. The execution of it was awful.
I am very curious to see what that game is and very excited to see what that game is.
Yes.
Same here.
The bits and stuff. He just does things in a way that the industry doesn't do. People don't fuck with people when they're announcing a game. A marketing team decides like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Kojima just does his own batshit stuff, and I appreciate that because no one else has the balls to do it.
Or
maybe
just no one else is willing to spend the money.
And maybe it's not a smart way to do it, but I love it because he does it anyway.
I think it works for him and it stands out.
Yes.
That's fine, but it doesn't always work. That's the thing. Like
it got people talking about Metal Gear.
Like I'll give him credit for that stuff too, but like that doesn't mean everything he does is automatically amazing.
Also, people would have talked about Metal Gear no matter what.
People talking about Metal Gear was, hey, they're making a follow up to Metal Gear on the PlayStation. What?
Right.
Like
right.
like the Metal Gear Solid launched on the back of people loving that NES game, and also having a cinematic quality to it that a lot of games didn't have.
Of course, yeah.
It wasn't until the end of that game where you're like, oh, I didn't realize there was gonna be all this anime in here because that wasn't in it.
There's weird shit throughout that whole game.
But like at the same time, like that to me that felt new as someone who played Metal Gear on the NES, which just was a fairly straight ahead like military stealth game.
Yeah.
That was the game where it went on all these wild directions. You're like, oh, well.
But you didn't know that was the real big boss back then.
No, I didn't, and I didn't care, and I never did. And all I know is that by the end of that game, it was so heavy-handed in its message that I was like, oh, "Fuck you." So, yeah, I don't know. I like that he is being that he has found funding to be able to continue his work because I think it is important, and I hope that a good game comes out of this.
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm past a point where like a trailer can do that for me. Like I can look at it and go like, oh, wow, okay, that's a really crazy trailer. Like, wow, cool. But for me, it's all about like, okay, well, like translate it into the results. Like, what are we actually...
we're also at the point now where we know there's no chance we'll see what that actual game looks like for at minimum another year, if not 2.
Yeah, when it's like behind the back of fucking Norman Reedus holding an assault rifle, then you're just like, okay.
But again, this is all just part of what I love about Metal Gear is this part of the experience of just figuring out the slow burn of like, what is this thing? I know we're not going to see gameplay for a while. Let's just see this drip feed of trailers for 4 years. That's part of the Metal Gear fandom for me, or the Kojima fandom to me. So like, I love all this stuff.
Sure.
So
I will say it got me interested. Like I'm interested in Death Stranding, where if you had just told me next Kojima game on its own merits would not have done it. But the things they have delivered so far have made me interested.
And I will say that the second trailer did that for me in a way the first one did not.
Yeah.
Like the first one, I was like, that's weird.
That's
whatever.
just baffling. This is all baffling.
See, I had the opposite. This one made me less interested. It looked a little more rote, if that's possible.
As rote as that stuff gets, sure.
Yeah.
This is where Wacky has wrapped all the way back around to being mundane again.
Like seeing a tank all of a sudden was like,
oh, hey, that tank's got tentacles. Of course it does.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's something to be said for, like, if you look at him stylistically through the Metal Gear games, like, that's an aspect of his focus that I appreciate is the
military stuff?
The hey, we've kind of got this core military thing that is going to kind of go off in a direction.
Sure.
That it's not just standard straight up military, but also we're going to fetishize all of this military stuff in a fucking weird way. Like we're going to go shoot fake guns and take CQC training because we're burning all this money and learn all this weird shit that's going to kind of go into the game, but not really. Like that aspect of it, like the hey, we're making a military game, but not really. Like I like that.
That's why I think I like Kojima stuff, but I'm not a big anime guy. Like I can appreciate the wackiness and how insane anime gets, but I like it when it's couched in stuff that I'm familiar with. Like Kojima's a big 80s Hollywood action movie guy. So
you would love anime.
Yeah.
I think there's actually more anime that you would be into than you think.
Anyway, now I'm watching Cowboy Bebop now and stuff. You know, like I'll give this a chance now. But
I feel like 90% of the anime I have watched is a post-war Japan dealing with military uprisings.
There's a ton of
with like flying robots and stuff, or with like grounded,
There's
both,
usually a defense force that
Event
has to,
a thing. They are using it.
And there's a lot of ooze.
and a lot of the design on that stuff just looks fucking great, and that's the stuff that keeps like it's part of why I think I liked games that came out of Japan for that whole period, is because they were drawing from the anime of the time.
Sure.
Like even if I didn't have access to or necessarily respect for
like
a lot of the
EDF,
anime,
right? Like
EDF.
the Earth Defense
let's
Force.
still talk about good games.
I'm saying like that stuff is like
EDF.
That first game's all right.
is like a lot of the weird.
But that seems like a lot of like space robots and ants and stuff. Like that seems a little less grounded than Metal Gear.
Keep in mind, it's all metaphors for something.
Yeah, but Metal Gear is like, that's a guy that looks like a dude. Hey, that's New York. Hey, that's military stuff.
Are you telling me you wouldn't have been excited if a Metal Gear game went to a space station?
I don't need that. I want it grounded.
You're out of your fucking mind.
I want it in places I recognize on Earth, in New York, in Alaska. You know,
But if there was a whole section of a game that, like this year's Call of Duty, was like,
I don't need space.
all
You know
right,
what?
we're going to do a little 0G stealth. You wouldn't be like, fuck yeah.
There were a lot of rumors about Snake Eater going to space before it came out. They're like, oh, you know, the rumors that the last hour is going to be in space. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want that. Let's keep it in the jungle.
How do you know that you want that or not, though?
Yeah,
like that sounds like that's like a weird fast
It
food
might be
preference.
awesome.
Like I don't want onions on my hamburger
I mean,
or something.
Well, that's insane.
Like, how can you possibly know that
Space
that's
tastes
good
like
or bad?
onions. I don't know if you know that.
Unless and until they do
The
it.
difference between big shell, giant,
Arson-
the oil
Well,
rig.
the big shell, yes.
yeah.
Yes.
The difference between that and a space station is there's water underneath you.
But that seems a little too unbelievable if it goes to space.
Hang on. Hang on. Hold the phone.
Dan, we have people living in space right fucking now.
Not solid, Snake.
The bigger point I'm
But what
trying.
if it was? That's the whole point. What if they were fucking choking people to death in space?
The bigger point I'm trying to make here is
But
that,
are
like,
they
dude,
aliens or are they like Russians?
No, they're fucking Russians.
Okay, then maybe we're talking.
Like I don't you can't sit there and say you love Kojima for doing things nobody else does and that you will follow him anywhere and then immediately say but as long as it's not in space.
I mean, he
Like,
did space. He did Zone of the Enders, and I like Zone of the Enders because that is a thing that is a space anime-like thing. Metal Gear to me is like, hey, this could maybe kind of happen.
That's a bizarre, arbitrary restriction.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Like if they, I would love to see him stretch more.
See, I like it when they're showing like old footage of like they're talking about Kennedy and like they modeled LBJ for Snake Eater and like it's couched and like all this history stuff.
It's been a lot of years of that for me.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
But I don't think you'll
full.
get that out of this game.
And you know, that's fine. I want it set on Earth. I don't want this set on some Gears of War Killzone planet. I want it on Earth in cities that I've heard of
Okay,
and
well,
seen pictures
I'll
of.
send him a note and let him know.
Okay,
for
all
you.
right.
Like I want to
I'll
see.
still like it probably.
I want to see what Kojima did for the military industrial complex. I don't want to see him do that for like commercialism or like where we are now in kind of data collection and stuff like that. I feel like
he's been doing some of that stuff.
So like if that game is all about that, awesome. Like the conspiracy theory tinfoil hat stuff that he tried to bubblegum together in Metal Gear was a fun, weird, like I said, wiki trip down a hole. Like I feel like he spent like 4 hours on YouTube following like what's up next recommended clips that are like, sure, yeah, okay, that could have happened. And I like
Meme Gene scene.
Yeah, like I'd like to see that with a different, hey, maybe this could happen.
Yeah, or just as a. Like,
I don't know if I need to see that with the military anymore. Like I feel like
I mean, but if it's an action game, you gotta shoot people.
everything I've learned about
but you can
PMCs,
shoot
I've learned
people
from
with arm cannons and all sorts of other crazy.
I want it with I want AKs. I want C4. I want claymores.
With a couple of short breaks, he's done nothing but that for like 30 years.
Yeah.
Like it seems crazy to want to pigeonhole him into
I
that
genuinely
forever.
don't care what kind of hardware you end up having to use. In
I don't
that
want
game
lasers.
as long as it's fun.
I don't want
give a
lasers.
shit.
I don't want lasers. I don't want spaceships.
All right. Okay.
I don't want a third person.
I just don't know why you want to put restrictions on the potential for what you could be enjoying here.
If he can explain it in a Kojima type way, I would accept it. I accepted the weird fortune stuff in 2 and Ocelot's crazy device that made the lightning.
What are you gonna do when we actually start to miniaturize real lasers?
Well, once it gets real, then bring that into my games.
Well, I hate to
Then
break
we'll
it
talk.
to you because we're kind of there. in
Not
some
quite
ways.
with lasers.
Not quite.
Not Star Wars lasers.
That's not how actual fucking lasers work.
Well,
that's why.
Lasers don't actually make noise; they're light.
I saw them
They
shoot
make kind of a hum.
I saw them shoot a missile out of the air with a laser.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was cool.
Then I'm cool with that.
It's just about
That just happens in Jersey
getting
every
that
week.
tech down in a power band that you can fucking carry in a rifle. That's the thing that they still have to do, and they're probably closer than you think.
Well, I
And
was
they-
fine
they
with the advanced warfare did a lot of that stuff, and I remember I had to interview a futurist, a guy who was a military futurist guy for this thing I did a game for him, and him explaining that oh yeah, the stuff you see in this game, these energy cannons and stuff, we can kind of do some of that stuff now. And so playing through Advanced Warfare, a lot of that I was like, yeah, this seems kind of futuristic, but it seems plausibly futuristic.
I hate to be getting knowledge from the Call of Duty series, but it's how it went. But yeah, when Black Ops 2 was coming out, there was an author that I think it was Black Ops, not Advanced Warfare. They had a futurist that had written a book.
They did, and they gave that book out.
Treyarch was very much like, you should read this, and I read it. And I wish I could remember the name of the book.
It had a plane on the cover, didn't it?
Yeah, they all do.
Yeah.
But it was, it sent me down this hole of reading that and then going actually, this guy's it's really fascinating to read about not the future of warfare, but the current.
The
of
prototype
warfare.
stuff right
Yeah.
now that they're actually working on.
Right.
Yeah.
And also some of the stuff about precious metals and some of the rare earth minerals and all this other stuff that was sort of the background crux of Black Ops 2 and those sorts of conflicts I got really fascinated with for a while.
Gotta get that palladium.
Yeah, but it was definitely that stuff of we're actually drones, and obviously drone strikes fucking happening all the time, and the advancement of military tech and the tech end of it, and what the soldiers can have in the field in terms of being connected soldiers, connected to other people, and that sort of intel, that stuff is super fascinating and way beyond fucking the solid eye.
Right.
And in this case, in Death Stranding, the soldiers are literally interconnected to each other via oil umbilicals.
Which I find a little odd. I guess I understand why you wouldn't want lasers, but are okay with oil tentacles. I guess I get
Oil
it.
tentacles are happening right now.
Right
They're all
now.
around us.
Yeah, we should.
I mean, I guess. Yeah.
There's a lot of other news here we should probably.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yes, that's your Kojima hour
Yeah.
for the week.
There are tentacles in the world. They're
I've
real
heard that.
things.
Although to be fair,
Umbilical cords are real.
I keep looking up and down this list from the Game Awards, going how much of this is actually worth bringing up?
Yeah, I mean, there's this Shovel Knight prequel that looked cool.
So,
I'm excited about that.
Okay, yeah. So there's a few. Yes, Spectre of Torment is the new Shovel Knight game. It is a prequel.
It's got a different character in it, a different.
Yeah,
playstyle.
it sounds like you're basically going to be playing. What was it?
Shield
The
Knight?
Order of No Quarter was the circle of the ring of bad guys.
Oh, I don't
from
remember.
the first game. You're going to basically be assembling that team of villains in the new Shovel Knight.
Could be cool.
Yeah, like you said, Telltale is going to do a Guardians of the Galaxy series.
They'll hit every franchise eventually, so this is just in keeping with that.
There's a Bulletstorm remaster coming.
Yep.
Yeah, that
kinda
leaked around
leaked,
E3.
yeah.
The one thing that was new for this is if you pre-order, you can play that entire campaign as Duke Nukem with fully new recorded VO.
Yes, because it's coming out of Gearbox.
They seem to be putting some work into
Also, it's $60.
That's a little weird.
Supposedly, people found some. Maybe that was an error, but people found some retail listings that indicated it might be $60.
Yeah, that's I can't. Okay, I liked Bulletstorm. It was better than I certainly thought it would be based on some of their approach in the lead up to that game's release. You're oh man, the attitude in this is going to be terrible. That said, I feel like playing that entire game as Duke Nukem is them finding a way to make good on the promise of how bad that game looked prior to its initial release.
I guess.
So that seems like the exact opposite of what they should be doing with that.
Only if it were like a Last Action Hero style, like he's really confused and it's not working out for him.
Like
here.
that's, I feel like that's the Duke Nukem story we've actually won, and also I think the only valid approach for Duke, or one of the only valid approaches for Duke Nukem in 2016 and beyond, or 2008 beyond at this point,
is to have it not work out.
Is to have it not work out for him. Is to have people just go like, "Fucking what?"
Right, like
and
have
everything he says.
Have
like,
all the enemies be like
every single person reacts is like, "Yeah, whatever, Dad." And
or just shoot him while he's monologuing.
yeah,
a
it's
lot.
just like, fucking come on, dipshit. Like that character sucks. And like Gearbox's sad march of like I'm surprised Duke Nukem is not in Battleborn yet.
Oh wow.
You know,
Yeah.
like that has to that probably would have happened if Battleborn had taken off, right? And maybe at this point they're like, oh, maybe we don't want to harm Duke Nukem. It's like, yes, that valuable character.
Like, is Randy Pitchford just like wandering into meetings and be like, well, what
I spent all that money on Duke.
What if Duke Nukem was there too?
I spent all that money on Duke.
I just think, you know, he's a very popular character. He's very funny. I like his. I like
yeah,
him a
like
lot.
Duke needs its Doom, right? Like Duke needs a really.
Can that happen though?
good
But like, I
reboot.
wouldn't have guessed it would happen for Doom. So like,
Duke needs to be encased in concrete and launched into the fucking sun.
but then come back.
No,
and
no.
have a. I have more faith in people's creativity and the minds that are in this industry to figure it out than like to just jettison him. Like, I think somebody can do it, and Doom has given me hope that like there might be a way out of it for Duke.
Duke Nukem was never a good character.
So that's the weird thing is that I've in driving with Alex, and we talked about some of the Duke Nukem stuff in the car. Duke Nukem the character was maybe the lamest part about Duke Nukem 3D. Like Duke Nukem 3D was cool because the engine was more capable than Doom's, and they came up with unique weapons that were fun to use in multiplayer, and they had a lot of novel things to interact with in the campaign. Like him quipping was like funny once, but barely, and it was like not the thing that like it was the wrong takeaway from Duke Nukem 3D. Like working cameras and flushable toilets and stuff like that. That was the proper takeaway from what Duke 3D was. Like trip mines and cool multiplayer traps and
like
stuff.
decoy holograms.
Yeah, like
and,
that was the cool stuff about Duke Match.
I don't see like you're right, yes, for sure. But it was also one of the first games to have a voiced first-person protagonist.
Yes.
That gave personality to it because
Personality that they lifted from action movies
and
all that sort of stuff.
whether it sucked or not,
Yeah.
it was the first time you're interacting with something and your character is saying "Shake it, baby" or whatever. You know, like,
He's Poochie the dog with a flat top. Like, there's nothing actually cool about him.
The only lines of dialogue from Duke Nukem 3D, from Duke Nukem period, that I can think of and go like, all right, that still works, is when he's picking up human shit out of a toilet and going, oh, what am I, you know, like that bit is the only one that I go like, yeah.
Why is that?
Because I'm a fucking nightmare person.
Okay, fair enough.
So like the idea of like let's make a funny protagonist all these years later, when they went on to make several more like third-person Duke games for console and really tried to drill that thing home over the years and just failed miserably time and time again, culminating in the eventual release of Duke Nukem Forever. Like I feel like you can close the book on Duke Nukem the character. Like that was not the thing that I liked about Duke 3D. It's the thing that like they kept trying to nail again and again. It's the thing that they thought was the thing that was going to help it catch on, and there were some people that latched on to that bullshit. But that's not the thing that should have been the lasting thing from Duke Nukem. But unfortunately, the things that should have been lasting from Duke Nukem have nothing to do with the property, the IP, the character, any of that other stuff.
I think that's a little too easy to look back at that time period and say he was totally out of place. Like that
he wasn't out of place.
He wasn't out of place then, but like
back then I think he came out at a time that was very much in the like it's
It was
like
the attitude era of games.
Well, even like it is like looking back at like wrestling at that time and being like you can't do that stuff today. Like you can't have like the Iron Sheik come out and like play that off as like, I mean, I guess they try sometimes.
No,
right?
they still no.
like,
wrestling has no shame.
But some of that stuff just, you know, it doesn't work. But I feel like they never moved on, right? They always wanted to recapture whatever that was.
And there's probably room for a modern, postmodern, whatever you want to call it. There's probably room for a take on a Duke Nukem-esque character.
Right.
But I think if you want that character to be Duke Nukem, then I think the only way I see through it is to have Duke be Duke and then every other character in the game looks at him and goes, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
Like, shut up, dipshit. Because that's what I said the whole time I played Duke Nukem Forever.
Like, you need to have, like, it needs to, or be like something where you're playing alongside Duke and Duke dies very early in a very dumb way.
Right.
And it's like, and he's doing something.
Yeah, or yes, it's
something
like,
dumb.
there's the handoff of like Duke Nukem is your sidekick, and he says all this shit, and
it's
every
like,
response
remember me, I'm whatever, and everybody's like, fuck that guy. Oh my god.
Like
are we done?
there's totally
Why
like
did you bring Grandpa with you?
there's actually kind of an amazing like edgelord redemption story you could totally write for that dude in a better, more interesting, grounded game. But like, I don't think anyone's going to try to do that with the Duke Nukem property. I think they're just going to keep trotting him out there as like, no, everyone still thinks Duke's super cool, right? And that is just going to fail miserably
And it's
every
like
time.
it's not the like, you know, like there's nothing about Duke Nukem that's offensive. Like in terms of like the style equips and all that other stuff. I just look at it and just go like, this isn't just, it's just not funny.
It's just corny
sad.
as shit,
It's
and not
corny
in a good
lame.
way.
Like, we've been down this road for years. Like, you gotta fucking bring something else.
Right. I mean, that's what we all recognize. And that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe there's a way out to embrace that.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's the only way to embrace it properly is to acknowledge that it like, doesn't
destroy
work.
it. Yeah.
And totally break it down.
Destroy it,
But
right.
that self-aware
feel like if
action
they-
hero thing, like
Yeah.
I think that's what they were going for with Matt Hazard, and that was not funny or cool in any way.
And I think that like it's well, I mean, you know, they executed poorly on that concept. It doesn't mean it couldn't be done right. I just don't know that like when you look at like what Duke Nukem Forever was, and when you look at them like what they showed in this trailer of Duke Nukem and Bulletstorm, just kind of like bleeped out curses and Duke being Duke with no acknowledgement of just like, this is dumb.
Right.
Like, you're just like, oh, like someone involved in this creative process must actually think Duke Nukem is cool. So like, I wonder, like, I just don't know. Like, that's the part I wonder, like someone just has.
Wasn't he like president or something?
I think at the end of Forever, I think he's the president, or maybe at the beginning. I remember you're walking around like the White House at some point in that game.
Yeah. Didn't it start?
Maybe it
with him?
starts
I think
there.
maybe at the beginning.
Yeah, and then you like pull on a statue of his head, and he's got his whole like bat cave underneath the
like,
White House. or
Totally
whatever.
wrong approach. It needs to be him in a cardboard box on the street.
No, it just needs to be him hanging out at a local bar
Yes.
and just occasionally being like, "Hey, you ever hear about Duke Nukem?" And then
Yes.
just them being like,
he's the high
"Fucking
school.
no."
He's the high school quarterback.
Yeah,
that
he's Ed
all
Bundy.
all I can think about is his glory
He's
days.
totally Ed Bundy.
Right. And gets beat
Or Al
up by
Bundy,
a bunch of like
Al Bundy.
actual
basically-
high school kids.
Or he's totally
Ed
Ted
O'Neill.
Bundy.
I got Ed O'Neill and
if he was
yes,
Ted Bundy, that'd be cool too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they basically need to do what they did with Frank West in this new Dead Rising. Of like, guy saved the world once, now he teaches at fucking night school
Yeah.
and sits at his desk drinking out of a flask.
But without the redemptive arc.
Yeah.
Like, there needs to just be like,
He
yeah,
just sucks
he
now.
Still sucks.
I mean,
And, like,
maybe
to-
the redemption is that he finally understands why he sucks. Like, that's the way it finally comes together.
You're
Is there's
saying, like,
actual personal growth.
It's like Duke Nukem takes responsibility for his actions
Yes.
and apologizes to the people he hurt. in the
Yes,
video game.
that's what I'm talking about.
12 steps. There's 12 levels.
Telltale's Duke Nukem.
Duke Nukem is gonna pay for what he said to you last.
Like, he has to save the
Finally-
world again, but nobody's willing to put up with his
He
shit.
finally apologizes for shitting down that pig cop's neck.
Yep.
Respect the police.
All right.
Yes, what else?
That was, man.
So they showed some Mass Effect.
Yeah, I'm
gameplay, right?
getting to that. Yes. So they showed some more Zelda footage. They showed
Yep.
a new Halo Wars 2 trailer with the villain in it.
Yeah.
They announced Walking Dead Season 3, which appears to star a grown-up Clementine.
Mm-hmm.
Not something I needed, really.
You knew it had to get there eventually, though.
Yeah.
That first,
Season 2 was a real bummer.
that first season was plenty for me. That ended well.
Like a bummer, like qualitatively, or like the story was like dark.
I mean, they're one and the same in those games.
It
It's-
was,
story's kind of all there is.
So the first one was dark in a way where like you cared about the characters and you were sad about it. The second one was just in a very unpleasant way that never made you latch on to the people you were interacting with.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you meant like bummer in that you liked it and the story was downtrodden, or
There's-
you just thought it was bad.
There's one good episode in that season, and the rest of it's pretty forgettable.
Yeah.
And then they at the end they showed what they refer to as the first gameplay footage of Mass Effect Andromeda, although they kind of showed it at that PS4 Pro event.
Yes.
Teeny tiny bit, yeah.
Oh, the jetpacking around.
But this was more of a cut together thing with like dialogue and combat and
Sounded like
et
Rex
cetera,
was there.
et cetera. I didn't see Rex.
I saw some people in the chat.
There is a Krogan in that.
Okay.
trailer.
Okay. All right.
That's
there's,
probably what it
There's
is.
kind of everything. There's an Asari. There's like kind of all of the faces, not specific characters, but all the kind of alien factions you would expect are represented
Like
in
if,
that
if
footage.
your Federation is building a starship and going off on
Space
some 5-year mission, you would
Yeah.
put one of everything
Well,
on there.
but it's more like you're meeting antagonistic characters of those types.
So from
like,
what I understood
yeah.
about the story, and I could be completely off base here, is like they had during the events of Mass Effect 1 through 3,
Yeah.
they realized that they might not win. Built like space arcs.
Yeah,
to
they
go find
launched like a colony ship to
a couple of them. And
was it more than one?
Yeah, and there
Okay.
were a couple on each one had a what do they call the main character? A or explorer or whatever the
Was it Pathfinder?
Pathfinder.
a shepherd, yeah.
An N7.
And like so there might, and like I think you wake up in some shorthand for conflict, right? Your ship's crashed.
Yeah.
Your dad's dead. Something goes on, and those other ships may have populated or gone out and done other stuff.
That's an interesting premise then.
and factionalized
Yeah,
and done
yeah.
some other stuff.
Okay.
So I that's what I am imagining. I mean, maybe I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm headcanoning that or that's I feel like I read.
That's not a bad setup, but at the same time, if you're just going to transplant all the shit from the first game into another galaxy, why did you go to another galaxy?
Right, yeah,
You know,
this whole thing, like I wanted...
because that galaxy is the Milky Way is done. You cannot set a game there.
I just kind of thought that maybe you would, maybe it would be a little more Star Trek, a little more like
a little more
Mission
voyage
into the unknown.
voyage to the unknown kind of
But
stuff.
also, like, would you show that stuff now, or do they
Maybe
need to
not.
show that stuff now?
It's hard to say.
Like, do they want to try and Assassin's Creed their way into the like? Oh shit! Like when you play it, there's a lot of new stuff. If I were them, maybe I would show one new thing to
Yeah.
let people know that hey,
I didn't
our
feel like I
creative
really
juices are
got
going.
that from that footage. It
No,
just
not yet.
very much looked like a Mass Effect.
and they
game.
showed a lot of combat,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, and the combat looked like Mass Effect. It's got different ammo types and damage types.
yeah.
and,
Well, it looked even more
a
action
lot of
than
a
Mass
lot
Effect
of a lot of
3.
pausing time, and the Vanguard ability where you dash forward like works in the air now and stuff like
And
that.
they showed a car driving around.
Yes, there is a Mako
Mako,
equivalent.
A Fako.
Damn.
We worked on that one.
It
Before.
looked all right. It looked fine, but it just kind of looked like Mass Effect. I feel like I'm waiting for a little more.
I feel like there's been just enough distance from that third game that like they can kind of get away with more Mass Effect.
Now is the
provided,
time.
provided
Probably.
that their storytelling is good enough.
Right.
And coming off of Dragon Age Inquisition, I don't know that it is.
Like I want more space opera.
Yeah.
Like I want more grand. Mass Effect 2 was my sweet spot on it. Like I know people love Mass Effect 1. I don't know if anybody really champions Mass Effect 3 all that much.
3 was great.
No, two,
Well, I got
two is two is the game.
I've got some good
Yeah.
news for you because I've got some more copies of Mass Effect 2 that we can play if you want.
Like Mass Effect 2 hit its stride for me in the party stuff, in the quest for your party.
I mean, I
members.
thought right off the bat that thing.
Yeah.
Just they blow up the fucking Normandy and kill Shepard at the beginning of that game. Like that thing starts at 100 miles an hour, and
Yeah,
Yeah, Mass Effect 2 is awesome.
but like I understand the respect for Mass Effect 1 in the
Mm-hmm.
more subdued.
it's
kind of
it's a little more sedate, a little more sci-fi.
RPG.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah,
feels
it's
a little
more
bit more
RPG.
like what you had traditionally understood to be a BioWare
yeah,
game at
totally,
that point.
totally. There were a little more of the roots of the Infinity Engine stuff showing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I am a big Mass Effect fan.
Yeah, I mean,
so-
absolutely.
So is now the time for you to jump back in? You ready?
Yeah, like I would have taken a Mass Effect right after 3. Like,
Yeah.
I,
Oh, really?
I
Oh,
like
wow.
that universe
I
a
needed
lot.
a break after.
I thought.
Well, I do too, but I'm a little worried that maybe you can't go home again with this stuff. It's like you guys had your 3 games and you told this like galaxy spanning epic, and maybe that's it. Like maybe it's going to be really hard to recapture that feeling.
I'm with you. Yeah.
with a new cast of characters in a new place, like trying to do some of the
But
same
you know,
things.
if they can capture a different feeling with it that is still compelling and still exciting to people, like I think yes, if you're going into that expecting another Shepard arc, then maybe you're just setting yourself up for disappointment because I don't think they're going to deliver that necessarily. But if they're doing their own thing and they do it well with this, then I don't see any reason why they couldn't continue on.
I guess so. It's just fourth games are tough,
Yeah.
Like a lot of series, a lot of big franchises from last generation have been trying to rekindle the magic with a new trilogy lately, and
Fourth
like they've
meal.
all kind of the fourth meal is perhaps
But
a bit
it,
superfluous.
it does work sometimes. Uncharted 4
it
worked.
generally
and-
has
yeah.
worked, but
Gears
like
4 works.
to varying
Yeah.
degrees, and it's never like quite the.
so
It's not the same.
I would have wished that what they have showed so far would have been the Pathfinder, maybe, and,
Yeah.
and 2 party members, like their faces, and then they're saying everything else is new. All aliens,
right.
all like you have an Asari, maybe a Krogan, and like that's it. And like get ready to experience we're in the Mass Effect umbrella because that name has been marketed and everybody knows what that is. But Andromeda is a totally new galaxy with
new
aliens and everything.
That's what I was hoping for too, and like for most of what I saw looked
new
like
powers,
it could have
new
just been
everything.
Most of what I saw looked like it could have just been lifted out of the previous games. Like it looked very familiar.
My ultimate concern is that at some point in this game or at some point in this trilogy of games, they will try to make good on the 3 ending again. Like have quests that address that stuff and try to contextualize it.
That would be crazy.
Yes, it would, but I don't know that I trust them to not try to fucking do that shit.
Like I don't even know how you do that.
Like from the where the time is where it is set and all this other stuff, like it would be difficult, but not impossible.
Yeah, not impossible because I forget how long they're supposed to have been gone on their.
It's like
quest.
600 years. It's
okay. So whatever happened in the Milky Way is done.
That's all. Yeah. Also,
maybe you're fighting the.
I mean, if you're reading codex entries that like are the real explanation of the ending, and like
maybe
they're trying to hit you over the head with how amazing it was, and like, oh, this is what it really meant. And
or
like,
you stumble upon the village where somebody's telling the kid about the shepherd,
totally,
and you just overhear it in the background.
Maybe they'll reference
it again.
I haven't heard that name.
Maybe they'll reference that stuff. But my first assumption when I saw they were setting this in a different galaxy was that was a direct response to how much people fucking hated Mass Effect 3.
Well, also there's no way
we are going to go somewhere else, so we never have to acknowledge any of the stuff people hate again.
I actually thought it was a clever way out. Like to be like, oh, we might lose this fight. Let's get everybody out of here.
Yeah.
Like it was a clever narrative trick. I still would have maybe wanted the like Tales from CSEC, like run around,
just like a whole game set on the Citadel, just like solving crimes.
Yeah. Isn't there scanning and stuff? Wasn't that part of the
planet scanning and stuff? Yeah.
No, I mean like walking around in this new footage, like walking around.
Oh yeah,
you're
right. You're right. There was some of that stuff.
Detective.
That could be some of that. That might be okay.
Yeah,
but I think like what was so great about your idea is that the Citadel is such a complex political web of factions and forces moving against each other. Like there were different bureaucracies that you ran up against that were arguing with each other all the time, and it would have been really fun to dig into that underworld.
Like some of that stuff is the stuff that like the promise of that first Prey sequel, the human head stuff, was
the
like
bounty hunter.
That idea of like, hey, this is a really complicated place that is also super alien to you. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Closest thing to like a Babylon 5 video game you were ever going to get to.
Sure.
And there was a Prey trailer in there too.
Was that
there
was?
That was.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That looked pretty.
It looked pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you actually form the liquid inside of a coffee cup and roll around inside the coffee cup to get to like another area.
Huh.
Wait,
what?
Up. Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
You
it's like rolling the coffee cup along.
Yeah, you become like different materials in that game. As far as the gameplay was concerned.
Whoa, really?
But also like I kind of like got like a slight like shock series kind of vibe out of it too.
Oh yeah,
like watching that trailer, like I don't know, like it's kind of evoked like almost a System Shock sort of thing in spots. But
didn't they release a gameplay trailer?
Yeah,
also
there's gameplay.
Okay, that I skimmed through that and that looks like a lot of BioShock too.
Yeah.
Also,
BioShock 2 also.
It's the best one. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to the PlayStation experience because there's way more to talk about there. Jesus God,
as it turns out,
some stuff got announced.
So how many of these have they done?
This is the third one.
Okay, so this is now a thing, right?
Yeah,
like where announcements will be.
This is an annual thing for them for sure.
It's the thing where they can put in a couple of kind of top tier announcements, but the bulk of it is like
fan service stuff.
It's fan servicey, smaller stuff that like the more dedicated fan base that would follow this sort of thing.
It's maybe the stuff that might have been on an E3 conference in the past, but maybe not so much anymore.
Well, we are going. I'm sorry,
but it's like a little XO-ish, a little kind of like
it is a fan event. It's for kind of diehard Sony fans and stuff.
I came away getting excited about stuff.
Let's start with the
top fan of video games. I'm like, yeah. All right.
We'll start with the toppest tier announcement.
Yeah, it's the highest.
Knack 2.
Fucking
They're making a new Knack.
Sweet.
Did we fucking what?
There are two of them.
So here's a question.
It's like the Jurassic Park 2 of Knack games.
This is my immediate question. Did the internet accidentally fuck up and make this happen by ironically wishing for Knack 2? Did irony accidentally will Knack 2 into existence?
Oh, no. That's a scary thought.
Did someone misinterpret the public reaction to Knack as a desire for more Knack?
Yes.
Mark Cerny had to get in a ship and leave because he knew there was a disaster happening. So he got in this arc, and then this Knack 2 happens because the Milky Way is dead.
Does Knack 2 happen because
dead.
Mark Cerny is so focused on getting the PlayStation Pro together that just like if he's not paying close attention,
Knack happens.
someone accidentally knacks?
It's a true story. Well, it assembles from all these different things. Yeah, he's got to it's got to will it out of existence, and if he loses concentration, a knack comes together.
Knack is not terrible.
It's a good.
It's not an awful game, but
Yeah.
it did not need a
fine.
sequel.
I didn't
No.
like anything about it.
It was the cameo of PS4.
No,
Because Cameo was way
all
better.
right.
Hey,
Dude, Blinks was better.
I mean, they're both
I don't know about
okay games.
Let's not be crazy.
So who beat Knack here? Anybody finish Knack?
No.
Oh hell no!
I did.
Just Alex.
I finished it.
What happens at the end?
I don't even remember. Some shit with some fucking goblins. You win. I don't know. Like all I remember is that Knack wreaks all sorts of fucking destruction in this human society. No one seems to care. There's this oppressed goblin race, and then they're the bad guys, but they never really say what's happening. And then at some point you beat them, and then Knack dances over the credits. That's it. That's all I remember about that game.
Like I could see a Knack 2 coming about if like Cerny is involved in it, right?
I don't know that they said one way or the other.
They haven't.
He was on a panel related to Knack.
Okay.
So like if they're like, hey, continue to use Knack as your platform to show the power of our system.
I guess, but I don't feel like that first Knack was even that big of a showcase.
To me, it all just looked like a particle effects. Like,
It was a launch
It
game.
was, but I don't know that it was like amazing at that stuff.
I don't know if it delivered on it,
The
but
frame rate was not.
I think like Killzone was a better showcase.
Yeah,
like,
when
I
that
just feel
came
like
out.
when they showed it, it looked like, hey, look at all the things
Yeah,
we can
it looked
track.
like a
and
particle
parse.
But keep in
effects
mind,
tech
it
demo.
was the only like family friendly type
Right.
game they had at launch, and you can definitely see its roots as a tech demo in what they ultimately turned that thing into. But yeah, I mean, as like a particle effects simulator, like it was fine for that. But other than that, it was a fucking dumb game.
Did
So
they have
now
multiplayer in the first one, or
There was co-op.
there was co-op in the first one?
Yes.
Okay.
So what do we know about Knack 2?
I don't know.
There was a trailer. There was a very brief trailer.
There
and
were
that
two
was
Knacks.
There's
There
a
are
red
two
Knack
Knacks.
and a
Yeah.
blue Knack.
Yeah.
Is it Nick and Knack?
Sure.
Boy, I hope
should
so.
be. It
Let's
really
go
should
with,
be.
Let's go with
That
that.
should be Nick. That's the second part.
No, it's Knack and Frack.
Was
All
somebody
right.
was somebody already named Nick in Knack? Because
Not to my knowledge.
Very probably.
all right.
All right. Let's take it from the top. They announced a new Uncharted thing.
Yes, it's DLC.
The Lost
It's a
Legacy.
it's standalone.
It
It's
is
not,
standalone?
It's not
I did
DLC.
say it was standalone.
All right.
Although, if you have the I don't know if it's a season pass. I think they call it the Explorer's Pass for Uncharted 4. My understanding is that gets you this.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Because they had announced single player DLC coming for Uncharted 4.
So this is just part of that thing.
even if you
have
could
it.
buy this separately as a standalone thing,
This seems like it'll be like a infamous like first light.
they referred to this as a new chapter. So yeah, I bet this is
Yeah.
I bet this is like a 3 to 6
Who are the
hour.
protagonists?
Nadine and
Chloe and Nadine.
Who's Chloe? Is that the dog?
She was from
The-
2.
Black hair, the British accent from like 2 and maybe
Oh,
3.
like the grenade. Is this your plan, girl?
Don't remember her line. She debuted in 2 for sure.
Okay.
She
She was
wasn't
in
in
it.
4.
She was like the weak third pillar of the love triangle from 2.
I like
Poor girl.
Nadine.
Yeah, Nadine
Yeah.
is cool. She's from 4.
So she's Nadine's the
the
mercenary.
mercenary
Yep.
that's with Rafe. Yeah.
So
Yep.
they didn't show any gameplay. It seems to be set in like maybe.
Are you sure?
India.
I feel like that was gameplay.
Yeah, that
I mean,
seemed
it's
like
in
gameplay in
engine.
a lot.
It wasn't necessarily
was-
shooting gunplay.
I
but
mean,
it was
no, they
maybe-
showed her going up to a door. There
Yeah.
was an unlocking
that
prompt
looked
that
that
came
looked
up.
that looked awfully cinematic even for an Uncharted game.
I don't know. That looked like someone moving a right stick to move the camera over
Yeah,
that fence
it
and then
did.
pushing up to it. Like that's what passes for gameplay in a large parts of Uncharted, right? Is
What if they're
Walk.
just really good at it? They never fire a gun. They get the artifact and they go home.
that'd be good.
Like they're much better than fucking fuck up Nathan Drake.
It would be a
Who destroy-
subversion of the trope. That's
I
for
mean,
sure.
look
Ha,
what
there
they
it
did
is.
with Left
Oh,
Behind.
yeah, I guess it's just nobody followed us here. Good job.
Yeah, we
yeah,
did it.
I didn't.
I had to kick
fucking-
one guy in the face, but like he didn't tell anybody, so we're good.
There's a whole chapter where you have to secure the permits for the dig.
Yeah,
Like, why aren't you climbing up that wall? I don't have to climb the wall. We could just go.
we're gonna pick the lock and
We're gonna go.
we're just gonna pick the lock. There's a mini game for it and everything.
Great.
It's fine.
I got government permits. It's all.
Yeah, it's all set up.
Fine. Why? I'm not used to this. It's just usually stuff explodes behind me.
They finally confirmed the persistent rumors that Naughty Dog is also working on a new Last of Us.
Yes, they did.
The Last of Us Part 2.
Part 2,
Which is
yeah.
like straight out
thing
of the Godfather.
Didn't think
Like they're
I'd
trying
want it.
to class up their sequel number a little bit.
Well, but it's also like the big thing for me was that it is a continuation of the
Yeah.
Last of Us
Yes.
story. It is. They did not
So-
do detective, which is maybe a good thing.
Yeah.
No.
I think there's other stories they could have told in that
Yeah.
universe if they wanted to, but I'm also willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because
Like
I really
them-
liked that story a lot.
Only because they have such an amazing pedigree for storytelling, I will also give them the benefit of the
Yeah.
doubt. But my
And,
gut
like,
reaction,
developed some really
Yeah.
strong characters.
like my gut reaction to seeing that was like, man, like that story felt like it ended. You know,
You
like
could,
they.
you could make a choice at the end,
No,
right?
no.
Oh, was it a forced choice at the end?
there was a
Yeah.
forced
There was no
choice.
choice.
The first one, yeah.
What do you mean?
I thought
If it's forced, it's not a
Well,
choice.
Like,
you know
tell
what I
her
mean.
or
Like
don't-
you don't get the choice to do what you want to do. It's just that like they're the character is presented with a choice, but there's only one action.
Are you talking about
take.
the dialogue or the last like gameplay thing?
The last
you do?
gameplay
No,
stuff.
you have to do that. You have to,
do that.
you have to shoot
Hospital?
all. You have to shoot all those people to make the story progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to get her out.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
Right, but this is set like 15 years after
Did they
the
say?
events. Well,
She's
much
older.
She's definitely an adult.
She's definitely grown up.
They also a small detail that I only saw by reading the internet as I do is that she's dressed up like the other girl from the DLC.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Oh.
So
Left
yeah,
Behind?
she's wearing like basically the same clothes that her partner in that game was wearing.
Huh.
There's not much to go on from the video. They kind of frame it as a revenge tale because basically all the dialogue is about I'm going to kill all those motherfuckers or something.
I
She had
have a
like the
theory.
Firefly logo. Like, is she killing Firefly?
Yeah, I don't know.
They were the ones that like took advantage of her or something,
Yeah.
right?
They were the ones that
They took her
wanted to.
Yeah.
So I have a theory, which I mean, it seems like she will be the central character of that.
I think they came out and said she is the playable character.
I think Joel will be the old broken man that you are sort of protecting and taking care of in that game as you go through it. Because the little shot, I think there was a little shot of him in there. He looked pretty rough.
Either way, I didn't think that they should continue this story because it did feel like
the
that.
ending
It was a great ending.
but it was one of the best endings of a game ever.
With it being set
and
so-
I feel like it would have been better left there. I would much rather have seen a new setting, or maybe not a new setting, but new characters. Like
I think
I
so
think
too.
we all said that with Uncharted 3, though, and I think Uncharted 4 was pretty highly regarded by most people.
It's a far better story than they had told, I think, in at least 3 for
Definitely,
sure.
definitely.
yeah,
yeah.
but look at how definitively they ended that thing. Like it's
Yeah.
very obvious that they did not want to make another
with
Uncharted game
4?
after
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And Last of Us felt that way to me. It felt
Yeah.
very much
Yeah.
like we have told the
Yeah,
story.
we're done.
We came to the ending of the arc.
Yeah.
of those characters.
Yeah,
Yes.
like these characters have gone on a journey. Like they have ended up in a place.
Yeah,
that-
I think Drew, I would have been much happier with like a True Detective kind of parallel story.
Anthology type thing.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like about The Last of Us ending was that illusion of choice at the end because I felt like this isn't how I have played this character.
You mean like when they give you control back and you're pointing the gun at the
Yeah.
guy, and like I immediately tried to not shoot
Yeah.
him just to see if I could get away with
yeah,
not shooting him.
and it's like not how like don't let me have to do this if
Right.
you're not going to let me make an actual choice here. So like I felt like I had played that game in a different way.
I thought like in a way that was an interesting way of exploring like player agency in the context of are you playing a character, are you doing what they would do, or are you doing what you want to do? And in that
Right.
case, they force you to do what, because Joel would fucking cap that motherfucker, you know,
Yep.
like without hesitation, he would kill everyone in his way to protect her.
That's everything they set up in that story
And
is
so-
for him to do that.
Yep.
right. And
Yep.
so they don't give you that choice. You know, they make you play him, not
Yeah.
as you.
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
That's always tricky. Like I remember remember the branching Black Ops 2 thing where they have like a chapter 2 where they have you play as the bad guy.
Right.
And then making those decisions like, well, I don't want to do this. I don't want to shoot this innocent guy or whatever, but like, hey, I'm the bad guy, so
It's the weird thing about Quantum Break is that the decisions you make, like the branching story choices you make, are things you make for the antagonist.
Like
and
he's the
then-
one, he's the one making those choices.
Yeah. And so my call in that was like, well, this choice seems like it would make it easier for the character I have to play as in the video game part of this. Should I choose that or should I do what this guy would do? And it made the choices feel weird.
Well, the choices in that game were also bad.
Well, yeah, there's that too.
universally.
Yeah. It is still Quantum Break.
Yeah.
I will give them the benefit of the doubt on this one because
yeah.
Let's see where it goes.
They somehow made a fourth Uncharted game with like the best story in that series. Like
very
they are
talented
some of the best writers in video games right now.
It's worth noting this is just Druckmann working on this one. Bruce Straley has apparently been on sabbatical for a while and is not working on this one.
My understanding was always that Straley was more of the design and gameplay guy, and Druckmann was more
I think he
on the
co-directed.
narrative side. But yeah, they've
Yeah.
always been co-directors, so I'm not quite sure how that breaks down.
Yeah.
They confirmed the new MVC, and it's called Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
No, not a numbered one, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks interesting.
Because it's going to be a
2V
platform now. So
Or
it's a
in-
platform where they will continue to roll out
God,
characters for
yeah,
years to
Well,
come.
and
No,
so
they can't
to
do
even
that.
get even deeper into that, if they're tying this into the cinematic universe, which it seems like they're leaning that way, the Infinity Gauntlet shit is the big
Exactly.
focus of all the movies.
Sure.
You know, or at least that's what's building towards. So
Sure.
there you go.
Which is not new in the Marvel games.
No.
They definitely had like Thanos and the Infinity Gems.
Oh, God.
in previous
You
games.
think this is just straight up timed with like the next Avengers movie?
Well, I mean, circling around that universe. Sure.
Yeah, I don't think they have to time it to a specific movie, but it feels like
Right.
that's what they're rooting it in.
Yeah.
Who's in it?
We
don't know
They
yet.
didn't really say. I mean, there's a trailer with
Mega Man in it?
Captain
Mega
Marvel's like
Man.
6 characters.
Mega Man is like
Mega
the
Man
first
X.
character they showed.
Mega
It's
Man
Mega Man
X.
X.
We got some
Ryu.
Iron Man. We got some Ryu.
And
Morgan.
Captain Marvel is in that last shot.
Yeah, Captain Marvel looks great. She looks awesome.
So where do
and
those
then
games,
Captain America as well.
where do those games usually land with character count? But when all said and
Huge,
done?
huge roster.
50 plus.
So
Dozens.
Frank West
Unplayable?
confirmed.
Huge. Yeah, Frank West.
That could happen.
Yeah. No, he was in MVC3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
Phoenix
feel
Wright
like
was
There
in
was a 3.
what new Capcom characters can they possibly throw into that thing?
Dark
The
Force
cat
wanna
guy?
see it.
Monster Hunter.
I do actually want to see a Monster Hunter
Okay.
like version. The dude with the big sword, and then you have felines as your special powers and stuff. Because there's not a ton of like super moves that they do in.
But it's
Yeah,
like
the Monster
dude
Hunter
with
games.
the big sword enough of a character because that's like it's.
I think he's iconic
create
enough,
a character,
but it's also the felines associated.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
the
like when they did
felines,
Pokemon Trainer in Smash Brothers. Like, he's just a cipher, and you're throwing out Pokemon.
right.
You'd have to like
Pokemon.
be able to tag a guy, right? Like spot tag him, and then everybody attacks him or something. Then
Sure.
trace him around the map.
Sure.
Be great
Just
if
throw
you
out a
could
bunch
maps.
of.
Yeah.
It's the
Bunch
guy
of
who
cats.
gave the deep down presentation
Sonic.
like 4 years ago at E3. He's a playable character.
But yeah, I mean that series is traditionally known for getting some really weird characters shoehorned in there.
It looks like they're going 2v2.
yeah,
instead of
that's
3v3.
that's kind of the big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back
Which I
to
like.
the
I don't know.
2v2
Three was
format.
too much.
Yeah, 3 was the fucking Wild
Yeah.
West, man.
Yeah.
Everybody's crazy, and everything's fucking nuts in that game.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to continue to be nuts.
And so 2v2, player versus player.
It's still
you
one
have
on
a
one
tag guy.
right?
And you have a tag player, yeah.
yeah.
You can probably call them in for assists or tag,
Right.
which is how those games have worked before. So this led me to go back and actually play some MVC1
Cool.
and some Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter.
Good shit.
And then some Marvel Superheroes, which actually has all the Infinity Gems
Yep.
in it as well. I wonder how they're going to handle that. We were talking the other day. Like, I wonder if this will be.
It looks like it changed up the move sets. Looks like a particular one gives you like some like a wall splat or bounce
Right.
off the wall.
The power
or
gem looks
GG
like
stuff.
it gives you the wall stuff, and then
Right.
time gem looks like it was kind of.
So you mentioned that it might be like a loadout based kind
I
of thing.
wonder.
And
Like, not
like the previous Marvel games where like the gems are flying all over the place and you pick it up and it's like, oh,
yeah,
I'm doing
'cause
more
I
damage.
thought that was kind of. I think the gems on the playfield stuff is some pocket fighter ass shit that I don't think they need to do in a game that is somewhat more serious than that.
I want to play some Pocket
I
Fighter.
mean, yeah, Pocket Fighter is a great game,
Yeah.
but let's leave it there.
I just hope it's not a cross-decking situation where you pre-order gems and stuff.
I mean, there are only 5 gems, right?
right.
So-
Yeah, if they are going to stick with the Infinity stuff,
Reality
yeah.
gem for pre-orders only. But
Yeah,
no,
but you could have different power gems that have like 25 bonus to this.
I'm hoping that this is actually just more like a NetherRealm situation
Yeah.
where like there's a stance. It's almost like a stance. You
Almost
pick
like-
Ryu, and then you're like, which gem do you want?
Right.
And then that's like almost like an ism select from Alpha 3.
Yep.
Where it's like time gem is V-ism, power gem is X-ism. Like that style of.
I'm kind of
like select and maybe get slightly different moves with each one.
yeah,
to
I'm
kinda-
kind of hoping for that.
so you get like, oh, I want my rush down version of this character, so I'm picking time, like whatever.
At the same time, like I think it might be kind of cool to have a gem fly around the screen and you're racing to get it.
That game is already so fucking
I
like
know,
the NPC games are
it's
already so
fucking
much
nuts.
that I think putting gems on the
Well,
screen.
shit, fucking Morgan's like filling the screen with fireballs. How am I going to combat this? Oh shit, the Infinity Gem just fell down. I got to go get it.
But then you're like picking up the reality gem and then just making weird shit fly all everywhere. Like that.
It could it could work.
I don't
it could
know.
work. I need that game to be crazy.
I mean,
That's all
yes,
I need.
that's very in
I don't need
keeping
it
with
to be
the
balanced.
tradition.
But I wonder, like, if they tie it into the cinematic universe and have this additional push, like, I mean, 3 they kind of simplified a lot of the controls even further in some
sure.
ways. Like, I wonder if this game, like, at what point do they go like, hey, we want more people to play this game, so we're gonna like kind of make it even more simple to have 3,000 hit combos and.
Yeah, I don't know if they go that route.
I mean, I guess if they're going to go that
Yeah.
route, they wouldn't announce it at Capcom Cup. They would have their own separate thing. Just go like,
thing
hey, MVC for kids. I
The
don't know.
thing that's kept legs on the Marvel universe is probably shit that they didn't intend to. Infinite combos
Sure.
and just
Yeah.
fucking just the weird.
And now they're
tech
just
that
leaning
comes
into
out
it.
of,
Call
like,
it
weird
infinite.
bugs in
Just
that
call
game.
it infinite.
There we go.
There you go. Every
Infinite
character
air
has at least
combo.
2 infinites. Done.
When was the last time they made a real Darkstalkers game?
Yeah,
3
ages.
It's they made those 3 games and haven't made one since.
Does anybody want one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean, some
a lot of
people do.
There was a call
Yeah,
for
there's-
one. There's around like post 4. Like,
Didn't they put out an HD remaster of one of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that
Yeah.
was supposed to be gauging interest,
Interest or whatever
and
the
probably
fuck.
there was not enough.
I'm not buying into that.
They also, on the heels of this Infinite announcement, they also threw Ultimate MVC 3 on the PSN store,
which I immediately downloaded, and I'm like,
PS4.
why the hell did I
don't
buy
know.
this?
It was $25, and I was just like,
really?
well, this might be fun to play. And then I realized, like, oh, dude, I own 3 other versions of this game that I actively didn't play.
Well, Ultimate was
But
out
it's
of
got the
print
DLC
for
in it.
Yeah.
a while.
That's true.
Wasn't
It's
it?
like the only way to get all this stuff now.
Right, it got delisted
So
on the.
they
Like,
must
there
have
was the Vita version.
They must have
that was
gone
all
out
messed up.
and re-signed those contracts to get
Yeah.
this on there. I guess for 25, I guess if it's got all the DLC and stuff they put out for that thing,
I mean,
it's not terrible.
What is that? 2 characters?
Yeah, it's
maybe,
not that much.
maybe.
It's also still a game that is played competitively and people are into.
Yeah,
so
It's
having
it's one fewer console you have to bring to your tournament.
Yeah.
because everything's on PS4 except for KI, so you have to bring some Xboxes.
Converters for all the sticks.
Yeah.
They
So
showed,
it's rough out there.
I don't know, was it the first footage of this Crash Bandicoot remaster collection?
Yeah, it was the
They
first.
did that quick teaser.
gameplay.
Yeah.
It's my first gameplay.
Yeah.
It looked all right.
I mean, it's Crash.
Decent. I mean, yeah, like you'd probably know if you want to play more Crash Bandicoot or not, because
I kinda don't.
It's just those games, but
It
like
looked off.
you think?
Like something about the movement.
Huh.
Like because they were doing side by side stuff of like, look, it's Crash. Look, it's New Crash. And I was like, why does New Crash seem like it just is slower or something?
I don't
Like the
know.
movement just seemed floaty. I don't know. Something about it just looked off to me. But
I never loved
whatever.
Crash, but it tweaked some weird nostalgia for me. Like
To quote-
seeing that stuff.
To quote my wife, she's like, "This looks like shit." Like, okay, all
right.
right. I'm sorry. They're
it looks like a budget.
summarizing
It
it.
did look kind of like a budget game.
For me, it's like Crash has never been something like eminently hateable. It's just a thing that existed and was fine for its time, and
some
that's
people
kind of
like
all I
it.
feel about it.
Who's ready to get back on their Sparrow and do some racing in December?
I don't know. I'd rather play the Wipeout.
There's a yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a new holiday event coming for Destiny, and it has Sparrow racing in it again.
Cool. That's the best part about Destiny. Everyone loves that shit.
Well, Dan Teasdale believes
Right.
that.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anyone else does.
Is now the best time to get in Destiny?
I mean,
It's
sure.
a time.
There's tons of content in there.
Great.
Yeah.
You guys in? Let's do it.
I'll play Destiny with
I
you.
keep
Yeah, you gonna
popping
start a
in
new
and-
character?
No.
Oh.
I mean, the good stuff is all the later stuff they put out after the original game. So you
Kind
should just use one of those items that boosts you up to level 40, so you can
Yeah,
play all the
skip
good
all the
stuff.
story stuff so you can see the good stuff.
I mean, have you never played Destiny?
Nope.
At all?
Nope.
Oh.
I'm pure. I'm clean. When
Wow.
the purge comes,
Hold off for the
I
sequel.
will-
That's where it's then that will probably be the right time.
then I'll have to
play
read the
Destiny.
book and then play the
Listen
whole
to the
thing.
Paul McCartney song.
It sounds like,
Yeah.
I mean, last year around this time, it was nothing but Sparrow Racing. This add-on has like a bunch of new stuff.
It's
in
their
it.
Christmas
Just
event.
Happens,
Like,
happens
yeah.
to be Sparrow Racing in addition, and fuck that.
The way they presented the flow of this conference, I feel, was ill-conceived around this section because they showed the trailer for Wipeout Omega Collection,
Yes.
and then immediately
yeah.
showed Sparrow Racing, and you were like, "Wow, what the fuck?" Like, this Sparrow Racing looks like shit compared to this fast-moving Wipeout
What's
game.
Wipeout Omega Edition?
It's like the last 3 Wipeout releases
It's,
packed into one, like the Vita games, like
in
2048.
4K.
It is.
Probably.
It is.
Potentially.
It's Wipeout 2048, Wipeout HD,
HD, and Fury.
and Wipeout HD Fury.
But are they saying anything like, "Hey, we've tuned this up for like 4K"?
I mean, they've tuned it up for the PS4, so I think that kind of comes implicitly.
Whether it's
I'd
native or
love
not,
to
I don't
see that
know.
Stuff
But
like native 4K at 60. I mean, that would
yeah,
look.
I'd love to see a lot of stuff in native 4K at 60.
But wouldn't you rather see Wipeout? Like that
Like
feels like
Thumper does
something
it,
that
there are a
could
few.
make it.
Um,
Uh,
On that
yeah,
big TV,
maybe.
that'd be great.
yeah, that would be. But also, I don't know. Like,
I don't
there's
think-
something about the design aesthetic of Wipeout XL and the soundtrack of Wipeout XL that I still think they've lost along the way.
yeah, none
I-
of those are the best
I
Wipeouts.
saw the response to this mostly from what I saw was like, oh, that's cool, but those aren't really the wipeouts that
Right,
people
like
want.
it's like it's cool that they're at least doing a Wipeout thing, but it's not the Wipeout thing that people actually want.
Also,
Who
you
makes
closed
Wipeout?
down?
Psygnosis, the studio that got bought by Sony, turned into London studio
And then
or
shut.
Liverpool, and is now gone.
Is that the owl logo?
Yep.
Yeah.
Destruction Derby.
So that studio has not been around for almost 2 years at this point,
Yeah,
right? It's
they
been a while.
Shut it down a while ago.
But God, yeah, like if you know, as if like Sparrow Racing didn't already look bad enough to go from like high speed Wipeout to immediately into Sparrow Racing. You're like, man,
I think Psygnosis had some like FMV inside the body shooter.
probably.
Like
Seems like
Microcosm.
something they would have done. Yeah,
Yeah.
microcosm. Yeah.
I think so.
Is that what it was called?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Like, it was really hard for me to run on my PC. Like I had to do a lot of stuff to get it to move.
Yeah, Shadow of the Beast is them. Fatal Rewind is them.
Studio.
They did a lot of games.
What else you got, Brad?
Lara Croft Go is coming to PS4 and Vita.
Cool. Sorry, it's out now.
Which is cool because that is the best Go game as far as I'm concerned.
It's very good.
You should play that.
Is that native 4K? 60?
Who knows?
Only on the Vita.
Probably, yes. Well, yes, the Vita definitely does 4K. Let's see. Parappa, Loco Roco, and Patapon are coming to the PS4.
I think downloaded the demo of Parappa.
Yeah.
It's a fighting versus game.
I've always
No, they're just remasters of those games.
I've always sucked at Parappa, and I sucked when I played this.
Okay.
It's just the Chop Chop Master Onion stage. But then I went back and played Parappa 2 because you can play that on PS4.
I want to know if they've done anything to compensate for latency.
Yes.
on
So I mean, it was
TVs.
playable. So yes.
It was playable.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
if they didn't do anything, then Parappa 1 would be fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
So
done
they've
something.
widened the window,
That's
or
what I was wondering,
something.
or if there was like a calibration.
There's no
thing,
calibration in the
or-
demo,
Okay.
at least. But
The cutscenes are still like the old like compressed stuff, but then once you're actually like playing and rapping, it all looks really
yeah,
good.
like all the FMV stuff looks fucking terrible. But I
Yeah,
wonder if
yeah.
that's because it's a demo and they haven't like gone back to the source files, and
Assuming
maybe they don't
or-
have the source.
Yeah, they might not have
files.
access
Yeah.
to that stuff.
But yeah, it's. Also, I want to say, well, I'd have to go back and make sure, but I feel like original Parappa didn't say L1R1; it just said LR.
It did. It said LR.
Yeah,
You're correct,
So
yeah.
they have made it now say L1R1.
Yeah, because I remember thinking during the demo, like, oh, I
Game
wonder if
changer.
L2 would work, because before you could just do whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the stuff where like you can hold left on the D-pad to keep saying the same word if you're kind of like freestyling it out a little bit, that's still in there. You know, like
Okay, good.
they're making an HD version of that game.
20th anniversary
And I
of
like,
Parappa.
I would
play
play Patapon.
Parappa
I like
again.
Loco Roco.
Yeah,
but
those are
they're
cool games.
doubling down on some of these.
Like the idea of like
remasters.
Loco Roco at 4K
Yeah.
actually seems
That seems
really
appealing.
awesome.
Now, I guess you could use the controller to do the tilting stuff.
Yeah, I guess you could.
I mean, that was what Loco Roco was
It
tilting
was.
the console.
I'm good.
Fair enough.
I've got triggers. Those work fine.
Yeah.
I would totally play through Parappa again, though.
There
Yes.
were 2 Patapons, weren't they? Didn't they
Yep.
make a
There were
series?
three.
Oh, was there?
I think there was a third because I remember being surprised. Like,
I
oh,
think
shit,
they were
there's
all
another
on
one?
PSP, right? They never made a
Yeah.
Vita one.
Don't remember
I like
that.
Patapon.
I feel like
Yeah,
I
those games are
remember
cool.
one of them didn't come out in the U.S., but I could be wrong.
Those games are cool.
We did a video review of one of them.
I remember those.
Patapon?
Yeah,
Wow.
We got footage from the PSP?
I think
They eventually
so.
released a PSP with TV out.
I don't know if we ever.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever.
No, I
we
think
had one.
yeah,
I remember finding
Here.
a screenshot
Not-
for that
I
video
don't
review.
think
It
we
was
had
really
one at
tough.
Giant Bomb.
No, we did. Yeah. Because all the off-the-shelf PSPs had TV out at one point.
Yeah.
At one point,
Vinny, did you forget who you're talking to?
I bought a PSP Go at some point, like a PSP 2000 or whatever. The second model PSP had TV out on it. It's
I remember somebody brought a PSP to the office that had an HDMI out once.
Was that
Are
the
you sure it was
Go?
HDMI?
that wouldn't
I
have been-
don't think that was
that's
HDMI.
a Vita.
Well, maybe it was a Vita.
dev kits.
Maybe it was a
have-
Vita
yeah.
dev kit.
Yeah, someone brought that happened. Yes, someone did bring a Vita dev kit to the office once,
That had an HDMI.
and then they were weird about us getting footage out of it.
Yeah.
If I remember.
Wait, was that me?
No,
No. Oh wait, no, that was I came around with the PSP. That's
Yeah,
right. That was
no.
pre-Vita.
You,
Yeah,
you gave me that Rock Band Unplugged demo on my living room floor.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
They showed a little bit of the game that Eugene Jarvis is making with Housemarque
Yeah,
called Nex Machina.
that was originally just like Project Jarvis.
Yeah.
That's a silly name.
It's all right. I thought it looked cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
That looks intense.
if
yeah.
if somebody is going to make a new dual joystick shooter,
Might as well be them.
that's a good partnership.
Yep.
I will play that for sure. There's a ton of other announcements out there with like release dates and DLCs and shit like that. That you can go
What are
find,
the
but
like? What are we
but-
talking about? The window for the stuff you've mentioned already? Has it just been
it's
not
all
announced?
most
it's
of it
all
doesn't have dates.
But most yeah,
Okay.
it's mostly
Like, there's no
mostly-
NAC 2 date. There's no
yeah.
Marvel date yet or any of that stuff.
It's 2017. Also, Marvel's coming to other platforms. It's not a PS4 exclusive.
Yeah.
It's PC and Xbox as well.
But there's
And
there's
then
one
and then
announcement.
they're fucking putting Windjammers out on PS4.
That's messed up. That's cool.
All right.
With like online play.
Yeah.
yeah,
And Vita, I guess.
right.
Hey man.
Then if
That's
if
great.
I
And new menus, HD menus.
Okay.
Was one of their bullet
I
points.
did not
Yeah.
but old sprites.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you
it is an emulated version of that game.
Okay. Yeah.
Who's-
So
who's
if
doing that?
if I looked at the press release right, Sony is not actually making this.
No.
No.
Right.
I don't know if I don't know if third party production is involved in its like funding or anything like that, but it is Like Payon is the name of the company that has owned the rights to Windjammers this whole time.
Who's been doing all the Neo Geo?
.mu is the name of the company. It's the French company that's done a lot of this stuff. They don't do all of them, but they did most of the games that were in that Humble bundle.
And that was just like a wrapped up emulator. What the fuck? There was some weird.
The emulation was kind of spotty in some places, and their netcode, if I heard correctly, was not amazing.
Great.
But a lot of the complaints around those .mu Neo Geo games on the PC, a lot of the stuff I saw was around, so because I immediately went down this rabbit hole of going like, okay, what's the actual problem here? As soon as they announced this, was like that it was like control remapping was really shitty. So it's like stuff that you wouldn't care about as much on a console version because they'd probably just get it right the first time. Especially for Windjammers, which is not a fighting game.
What?
It's the only fighting game.
You can do fighting game moves.
Sure.
But like in terms of like buttons and number of buttons and all that stuff, like it's not, you wouldn't need to remap those controls as readily as you would.
So this should be just like 4x3.
Yes. So they've shown gameplay. It was playable at the show.
Did they put borders on the side?
Yes. They have Windjammers colorful borders on the sides. They did new menus. It looks like it's Miller and not BU.
Oh yeah.
Unless they got a dip switch in there somewhere, hopefully. Hopefully.
Or if they just like hold down a button combination and like it just switches.
And he's totally different. Yeah.
That'd be really funny.
That would be cool. But if it's an emulated version of the game, you wouldn't ever be able to do S Miller versus BU without hacking it up and doing some weird shit.
Yeah, do some weird shit. I don't know.
I would like for them to do some weird shit.
Yeah, I just dug up the press release for this. Like this email mentions not just Windjammers, but also like Wonder Boy 3 and Ease Origin.
Right.
So this is kind of just part of a series that these .mu guys have been doing.
But they've done a lot of other Neo Geo work specifically.
Right.
So
what I mean is this wasn't some big grand one-off that they went out and made a bunch of deals for. Like this company kind of specializes in stuff like this.
Well, I don't know. I got a press release that was specifically Windjammers. Like I don't know if you're seeing one that's like multiple games, but I got one. That's fucking Windjammers.
You're right. I got both actually.
So the thing you mentioned before about like Parappa is the thing that I'd be worried about with this, and latency on especially cases that are
once it's ported natively, then latency is no longer a concern.
But latency on TVs, so like something where if you're doing
you mean if it was designed, if the timings were designed around CRTs.
But I feel like we hooked that Omega up to some of these same TVs, and even just regular Neo Geo hardware into those TVs. It was not a problem.
Okay. Feel my pain. I go through this with every fighting game. Like,
Well, especially as we get into 4K TVs that do a lot more processing, and it's it's got an in TV scaler that's going to bring that thing up to 4K.
Yep.
It just worries me a little bit. Like that game feels so good, and we've played it on LCD screens and stuff like that in the past. Like I don't think we've ever played it on CRT in the office.
Oh, really?
Not in the office.
Not in the office, and like it's been okay, but like I could see myself getting real frustrated missing a dive or something because the timing on that, especially when you go back and forth.
I feel you.
I mean that stuff's a concern, but for me it's more netcode. Like they're talking up like their online feature set by saying like they want to do ranked match and have like Gold League, Silver League, and all this other stuff with their rankings.
Wow.
Which
I
is
guess I wasn't
cool.
expecting that.
Cool. That's a cool idea. They should do that. But if the netcode's no good, none of that matters.
Yeah.
If the netcode is the same as like Mark of the Wolves, which they didn't do, but Mark of the Wolves came out this week on PS4, and that's no good. Like some of these other emulated games getting netcode that is not rollback, that is not good, modern, robust netcode. That stuff's just not what you want it to be. And so
typically,
like Mark of the Wolves, I bought it because I felt obligated to, and played like a multiplayer match or two, and was just like, all right, well, never gonna play this online again, because even with a ping at 100, like it's still like it's just slowing down to try to keep in sync.
Boy.
And you're just like, this isn't worth it.
Yeah.
So Windjammers,
download some sprite rips and we'll just play with them like a little toy set.
Right. So with something like Windjammers, like if they actually wanted to bring this back and try to do it right, they need to match the free, less legal alternatives out there which use GGPO. So if they're incapable of like meeting that standard, then it's kind of all for naught.
Yeah, like Windjammers is a great game. I love the something about it feels like genie in the bottle kind of thing.
Yeah.
Of like I don't even know if you could ever remake this. Like time and place.
Tons of people have tried. Like over the last year or two. Like those games have been coming out of the woodwork in a way that is like kind of uncomfortable. Where like a zillion different companies started making their own Windjammers alike.
There's something about that game that is just very. You can give it to anyone and they'll understand the concept. But then I feel like every time I've played it, I felt like I was getting better.
It's a high level Pong.
Yes, or Othello.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
What was their motto? Like a minute to learn, a lifetime to master.
Yeah.
Like catch the frisbee, throw it back, easy. But then it's like, oh shit, you do this like fireball move, or like, how do you make it go all the way around? How do you spin it?
It's wacky air hockey. I mean, it's what it is. It's great, but it's totally what that thing is.
And that's an awesome game, and I love it.
Yeah.
And that is why this announcement is like, oh, that's awesome. But wait.
Yep.
Like, are you actually like, if you're gonna do this, do it. Because if you do it and don't do it,
You have to go all the way.
you've ruined the whole thing. And now you've made it so now the thing is fucked up.
Yeah.
Now the thing is tarnished. And so they did an interview. One of the guys from .mu was on like Sony's stage, and one of Sony's guys interviewed him.
Okay.
And they talked like they were like, yeah, we have people from the Windjammers France scene.
Okay.
Where there is a French scene for Windjammers.
There
has been
is.
for years.
There
So
is.
like Windjammers France is coming in and playing that game.
Okay,
and,
good.
And knocking it around.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That gives me confidence that like the local multiplayer will probably be exactly what you want it to be. But again,
Right.
like they're you know he got on that couch and talked about esports for a little bit, and like that's cool. But your game has to be your net code has to fucking be good. Otherwise, your ranked league, gold, silver, bronze, whatever stuff is a waste of everyone's time.
Absolutely.
I saw some places reporting and saying that like, Sony bringing Neo Geo Classic Windjammers, modernizing it. There are so many other Neo Geo games that are sure classic, like Samurai Showdown, like even like Neo
Metal
Turf
Slug,
Masters. Right? Yeah. I don't think I ever saw a Windjammers cabinet in the wild, and to be honest, the only way like I stumbled across Windjammers years and years and years ago in like an emulated thing, and like this game is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I had never seen it before you guys started playing it here.
Yeah.
Like it is, I saw plenty. I grew up around plenty of Neo Geo cabinets that were like 5-play or like
It's
4-play.
it's a cult hit, and it's one of those things that like if you know, then you know.
And once you know, you
and
can't
once you know,
unknow.
you can't unknow it.
Yeah.
And once you know, you want to tell other people about it.
It was the game like anytime like MAME would be up or running and be like, okay, this you got to try this one out.
Like if you've got someone with you, you're like, all right, well, no, we're gonna do this. Let's do this.
And like it'd be the thing I spent the most time in a MAME setting. That's like aside from 2 seconds of loading something up and checking it out. But yeah, I think were the cabinets more popular in like Europe or something? Because like I never saw.
I never saw one in the wild.
Never saw one in the States growing up.
I saw them here and there, but like not in a way that was played. Like I didn't like I had played Windjammers, but at the same time, emulation I think brought that to more people than the actual MVS carts ever did.
Yeah, it was weird. And I didn't have any friends. I mean, I had one friend who had the home. The Neo Geo.
Yeah, I mean,
system.
Windjammer carts have been expensive for a bit. This may actually help kind of cut it
I
down
don't
a
know,
little
or
bit.
make them more expensive if it sucks, right?
Yeah,
Be
like Steve Lynn brought us the MVS cart and an Omega, and that's how this whole thing happened.
Right.
Is us playing that.
that's a fun game.
All things lead back to Steve Lynn.
That's
Definitely,
kind
yeah.
of
No, that's
Frequently that is the case.
Shadow Broker.
That dude, that dude exerts
it's definitely like Batman.
some influence.
Yeah,
Swoops in. He's like, hey, check this out.
I set things in motion 18 years ago.
Right. He's playing the long game. That's pretty much. I mean, there's like I said, there's a bunch of other DLC announcements and dates and stuff out there from PSX. If you want to go look it up, I will say I forgot to mention Yakuza 6 is coming over here.
Yeah. It is, and also
that's till like 2018 though.
And that HD update of Yakuza 1 is finally coming over here as English language.
Is that what Yakuza Kiwami is?
Yes, it is the first game HDified. I think it was originally for PS3. They're transferring it here to PS4, and it's in English. Which the 1 and 2 updates for Japan never were here in English before.
Okay, right. That's cool. Danganronpa V3 also coming out over here. Like
and the Vita.
People were way into those games, so that's cool. The
Ni no
last
Kuni 2?
People wear into those games.
Yeah, they
That's
showed a
cool.
trailer for that. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of trailers
Yeah, I know.
and stuff out there. I think I
I thought
read-
that Ni no Kuni 2 trailer looked really good.
Yeah.
I think I read that there were something like 40 games mentioned during this keynote.
Oh,
so
you know
there's
what?
A lot
Actually,
of stuff.
the other little standout thing that I hope is cool is that their baseball game this year is going to have a retro mode.
Oh, good.
I don't know if I
Ken
liked how that
Griffey.
looked.
But that's the thing
Yeah.
though, is the way it looked is so they've had Griffey on their cover,
Yeah.
like this year and last year.
Is this the show?
Yeah, and that looked like Griffey for the SNES.
Oh,
Yes.
really?
Yes.
Like the perspective and all that stuff kind
Oh.
of looked like Griffey for the SNES.
Dan, you would be.
I need to look that up.
yeah,
Yeah.
So, and that's like on the short list of baseball games that I would like to play more of.
The
like-
first Griffey
Yeah.
on Super, not Winning Run.
No, fuck
okay,
Winning Run.
first one presents Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
All right.
So I don't know. Like they brought back RBI baseball, and that thing has been a disappointment ever since. So maybe this will suck too. But I'll check it out. That got me interested in their baseball game in a way I never have been before. So we'll see.
The last piece of news I'm going to mention is there's a fucking Hitman Christmas mission coming for free next week.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Like an elusive target?
Oh my god, no! It's a free like map download. It's Paris, but redressed like super Christmasified.
Awesome.
Do you have
that's
to take
cool.
out Santa?
With like Santa. No, there's a Santa Claus like disguise.
Okay. I was gonna be like, that might be a little dark.
Are you going to have to go down a chimney as 47?
I don't think there's a chimney on that.
Is
map.
there a
They
van-
could put
is
it
there
in
a
a chimney.
It's a
van-
giant chateau. There's totally a chimney.
Is there a vampire
fair.
Santa costume?
I don't know. It's called Holiday Hoarders. It benefits, I forget which organization, but it's a cancer research organization. So it's a free download, but they're soliciting donations to that
How do you donate?
Okay.
to that charity.
They have a website that's
They
like
have a charity.
/Hitman.
I think it's on hitman.com. They have
weird.
details about how all that stuff works, but that thing looks really good.
Yeah.
Right
You should
on.
go
What
watch
is
that video.
Is that Paris map?
It's Paris, but it looks like heavily modified.
so
Awesome.
is the show going on? Is the
I couldn't really tell.
okay?
I bet they're going to totally change it. Like
I
that,
bet it's like some kind of holiday gala or something.
That'd be
there's
interesting.
that one movie once set on Sapienza.
Yeah.
It didn't even
Yeah.
resemble Sapienza.
Yeah, when they've redressed the existing maps previously, it was like a serious overhaul.
I wonder if that gets fun for them at
I'm
some
sure it
point,
does.
where like, okay, we've got the engine, we've got the set pieces.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if it always is just as like this is fucking hard every time, or if at some point it's like I'm having fun now, moving these pieces around and making a new thing.
I mean, they've gotten so creative with all of it. I don't see how they couldn't be having fun.
Yeah, instead of
I
the catwalk,
could.
it's
I
a-
definitely,
stuff.
I definitely
Well,
could.
it's like, is the Nutcracker playing out on where the catwalk
Oh,
is,
God,
something
yeah.
like that?
Or Santa's
Oh my God, I
workshop
hope
or
so.
something.
Yeah.
The Helmut Cracker.
Oh, the helmet cracker. Yeah,
If there's a part where you actually have to dance ballet as Agent 47,
I could see that.
I'm in.
Helmut Kruger is Santa Claus in.
Yes, if Helmut Kruger is still Helmut Kruger in it and just kind of enjoying this holiday thing, that would be pretty good.
Yeah.
Or he's like the Scrooge.
Or he hates the holiday.
Or he's running his same pattern from that Paris map in this whole holiday thing. So he goes to try and walk the runway during his whole thing.
Instead of a cell phone, it's a candy cane.
Yes,
You
but he's
gotta-
still talking to people.
You got to murder him before he walks and fucks up the whole.
Yes.
If at some
Christmas.
point-
he's the Grinch.
I just
Yeah.
want at some point like Agent 47 to have to grab like a little fucking like orphan scamp running around and just grabs like, "You boy, what day is this?"
That's
you
upstairs in
should-
the auction.
You should go watch that trailer. It
Okay.
looks
Helmut
real
Kruger's heart
good.
grew 3 sizes that day.
All right, well,
It's Combat 7, MechWarrior 5.
Yes.
oh god,
Yeah,
right?
this
They
is-
did announce MechWarrior 5.
They
Yeah.
announced an Ace
Not at
Combat.
PSX, but yeah, they announced
Oh, yeah.
that a while ago. But they showed a trailer for Ace Combat 7 that
Yeah.
looked like
Probably has some VR in
pretty
it.
good
Yeah,
dog
yeah,
fighting.
yeah. They had said. I think they had said there was a new Ace Combat
There was some
coming.
strange. There was
did
some real.
show a trailer. But yeah, they announced the Piranha Games is doing MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, and there's some like alpha footage out there right now.
It's 2018 for PC.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I think it's running on Unreal 4. I never thought a proper single player MechWarrior game would be made ever again. So that's pretty awesome.
Who's Piranha Games?
I'm not
Okay.
entirely sure.
I wonder if that would be a good VR game.
Probably.
Like it's a
rigs.
cockpit.
Yeah,
based
anything in a
thing,
cockpit.
like simulator. Yeah.
All right. Well, shit. I solicited emails yesterday because we didn't have many, and now we have a zillion.
Oh boy.
And I pulled like 30 of them, but we don't really have time, so I'm going to read 3 emails, and then we're going to get out of here.
All right.
Bombcast@giantbomb.com. I'm just going to read the top 3 on this list. Alex from South Lake Tahoe.
SLT.
What game would benefit from smell-o-vision the most? Also, when do you think the first VR headset with nose support will be released?
Booger Man.
I was.
Oh,
damn
yeah.
it, I was gonna
Conquers
say
Bad
Booger
Fur
Man.
Day.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Flower.
Benefit is maybe the wrong.
It's not bad.
Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Oof. I would say maybe Overcooked.
Oh,
No,
yeah. They're making a nice turkey.
Not Abzu because you drown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's not so good. I don't know about like smell vision in VR. I feel like eye tracking is the next big thing, right?
The Witcher,
Maybe
had
they'll
like
get there.
like a tracking scent thing that could be interesting if they, they have to follow that red trail around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be kind of cool. Curtis from Richmond, Virginia.
Noses are too weird for that to ever happen.
Hmm.
I just don't think we'll see it.
Can we get a good old-fashioned Vinny house update? It's been far too long since the last check-in. I feel like he's had 6 more kids since then.
It's only been 5. The attic is currently drywalled.
Okay.
Drywall is up, and I am paused right now, taping and mudding up, spackling the drywall.
Or what are you finishing off the attic?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are you going to put up there?
People?
Kids.
Yeah.
Is that where they're going to live?
Yeah.
Just throw them up there and lock the trap door?
Keep them up there. So it's got a full staircase that goes up there.
Okay.
It's going to be my wife's office and a playroom next to it.
How high is the ceiling up there?
It's peaked, but it is 8 or 9 feet at the peak.
Oh, wow.
And then,
Okay.
Slopes on both sides?
Yeah, slopes on both sides. And then I think the walls are about 4-foot knee walls.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it comes down.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's pretty long. It's like the length of the house. So yeah, the walls are up, drywalled. And now I'm spending my days slapping mud on a wall,
Home ownership.
sanding.
I do that too, but it's not really in service of anything other than my own amusement.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Insulation sucks.
Sure does.
That's that part.
Don't touch it.
Fiberglass?
Yeah.
It's got that fiberglass.
I did some fiberglass, some Roxol, which is
Oh,
it's like a composite, like masonry and concrete and foam kind of thing.
I feel like I am going to need to do full insulation
Oh,
overhaul for like most of the
you can
house at
blow
some
it in
point.
if you already have walls. You don't want to
Yeah,
tear them
yeah.
out. Fucking that shit sucked.
How's the basement doing?
Basement's all right.
How's the router?
The router seems, I don't know, it seems okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the poop router seems okay.
Right.
That's all okay. The NAS I had set up went out for, I told you this, Brad. It went out at some point, but I think it was when it was really hot. It might have just been overheating. One of the chips in it might have just been overheating and couldn't cool off fast enough. And the computer was set to start back up again on power failure. So if it went down, it would try and reboot. And I think I might have gotten caught in a loop like while I was away, and really just kind of put that chip through its paces. Like, oh, you're too hot, shut down. Oh, let's try it again. Yeah. And so I sent the board back to Supermicro, and they wound up sending it back to me and was like, we didn't find anything wrong. And then I put it back in, and it booted up. And it got real hot in New York for that summer. Remember, it was like real hot and humid. So let's see what happens.
I hear bad things about summer in New York.
It's not fun.
It's hot.
Get a cooling solution.
Smells like
might need a
garbage.
cooling solution.
Yeah.
So like I might have to add another case fan. You know, it's a rack mounted thing,
Oh,
and it's
okay.
only like a 1 RU. So I might just have to put some exhaust fan out the back
Right,
or something.
yeah. Just bolt a heatsink to it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's got a heatsink that's not. It's only snap down. It's not doesn't have
yeah.
Just give it a mineral oil bath.
Yeah, that sounds good. Just
you
keep
go.
it in there.
Yeah.
Just
That'll be
ice
fine.
bath.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. At some point where I have to do the basement, I'm gonna have to put a sump pump in there and
Oh boy.
break some concrete. And,
Man, now you're really living.
yeah, it's really expensive. Anyway, that's the house update.
Cool. I'm sure Curtis thanks you. Adam from Anaheim with the last email. I recently got into a debate with one of my younger friends about games and consoles. According to him, the PS1 era is old as fuck, whereas I argued that was fairly recent and that the NES era was old.
Oh, this is going to be a thing.
He's in his 20s, I'm in my 30s. We came up with...
This all just makes sense.
Yes.
What is older?
Yeah,
answer to
you
my
literally
question.
just
Yes.
described time.
Yeah.
Anyway, the gist of the email is he wants to know what is our consensus on what era of games is old as fuck.
The PlayStation 1 and Saturn, that's the start of the modern era
Yes,
of video
that's
games.
pretty much how I look at it.
But that's still old as fuck by comparison.
No, God damn it, I'm not aging.
I think pre-NES.
That wasn't that long ago.
Like I don't know. When I see shit that's like running on like a
Oscilloscope.
oscilloscope, then I'm
yeah,
like,
sure.
that's
Yeah,
fucking
like-
old as.
Like vector games.
Vectrex
Vector
is
games feel
old
old
as
as fuck to
fuck.
me. Like the
Like,
Vectrex.
I can usually smell old consoles. they have a certain smell.
They have a musk to them.
Like if you open up an old arcade cabinet,
Yeah.
it's got a
Yeah.
burning dust.
But like
smell.
an NES would be just like plastic. And there's no gross smell
yeah,
with that.
NES isn't old.
Yeah.
Those things
no.
yellow though.
I think
They do
that's
yellow
true.
a lot.
They're old, but they're not old as fuck. I think
Also,
free
the-
NES.
Also,
Yeah.
the part where you have to hook up a fucking coax cable to that
Yeah.
thing is maybe, yeah.
I did that with PlayStation.
Anybody
Just
ever
saying.
figure out what the bottom secret compartment on an NES did?
They put that in there thinking that they were eventually going to release the disk drive here.
There's no port there, though, is there?
I think you could kind of punch out that port.
Oh, really?
And get to it. Or at some point when they did the case molding,
Oh,
they thought maybe they were going to bring it over, and then
Okay.
totally never did.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to sound like super old, but like, you know, an original Pong machine is pretty old.
That's pretty
Yes.
old.
Yeah.
Space War is old as fuck.
I mean, Space Wars, yeah.
Let's
is old as
say.
fuck. But I grew up with a Atari 26. Is that
Yeah.
the 2600?
Yeah.
Yep, same.
In the house, and that was my console growing up until we got. Actually, until I switched to a Commodore 64, and then went back to an NES years later.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we were.
That was the thing that, like,
Commodore
if
for a
you
while.
if you wanted to play video games through what they thought what you now think of as the crash, like you played computer games until the NES came out
Yeah,
because there were no console games.
it was man. I remember going into like fucking like Odd Lot or whatever it was, and just like bins of Atari games half crushed. Those
Yeah.
boxes just crushed open
yeah.
with stickers that were 99 cents. Just Lucy's, just Berserk in there, like a stack of Berserk.
Just get everything.
Basically, just take these.
Yeah.
Please get rid of these.
Please get them out of here.
Yeah, and which we did. Some of those double siders. I remember they
Zonox,
were.
you got that Chuck Norris game.
The double sider I remember having all the time was Pikes Peak
and
something.
so they would do different variants where like you might have Pikes Peak on one
Oh.
end, but the other game might be different depending on what it was. Yeah,
yeah,
weird.
I know it was a good time.
Games are old, so are we. Bombcast@giantbomb.com is the email address. It's going to do it for this long-ass podcast.
Jesus.
Oh boy.
We're going to get this thing shut down so we can
Do other things.
go back to
Yeah, go back to Game of the Year
more to Game of the Year
stuff
stuff.
I will say when I see my Xbox original one,
Yes.
I don't. When I see it in like my house, it doesn't like ring as very old to me.
That thing rings as super old to me because
It's
I've
big
got
and
it hooked
bulky.
up to a TV again,
No,
and going through the process of connecting that to a modern television sucks.
do you have the component cables?
Yeah, but so it's like, yeah, handling component cables feels like ancient fucking history to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Anything pre-HDMI at this point, I'm just like, man.
I think I feel that way about composite, but I don't necessarily have the
Yeah.
same.
My TV doesn't even have component inputs. It's got like a little breakout cable that plugs
really?
in that goes out
Yeah.
to the 3 that I can plug
Mine
stuff
still
into.
has those.
It was a great format. You don't have to worry about handshaking.
It's all right. Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Nice
and
and analog. Yeah,
yeah.
it just goes.
Just goes. It's either going.
Fuck that,
Oh,
man.
it's degrading.
SCART.
SCART's okay.
Let's get some B and C in there.
S video is all right.
That's all right.
All right, you get.
I've
some
bent
things in
I've bent
there.
too many pins over the years. S-video, like fucked up one too many cables to
That's
feel
true.
good about it.
SCART cable will eat you.
That's right.
Look at that thing.
Yeah,
Whoa.
it's scary.
It's rotten. Yeah. It's terrifying. All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Giant Bombcast. Thank you guys for being out here. It's been fun.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Fun to
thanks,
have you for
everybody.
a couple weeks.
Are you
great.
guys gonna take Dan with you when you go? Or
Nope.
Anything? No.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think they're
No, he
actively.
has to ship himself.
I think they're actively blocking my apartment from being rented out, so I can't come out there.
Oh.
Yeah. it was
Okay. I
Yep.
thought we were gonna like pack them up and you guys.
Yeah.
In a box.
I think we need to talk to
Yeah.
facilities to get him labeled and
Yeah,
shipped.
yeah.
It
think
should
so.
the
Remember,
Abu Dhabi
the label
office.
says yes.
Poke some holes in the top for some. Okay.
after.
All right.
Yeah.
Still got next week.
Throw some Doritos in there. He'll be fine for a few
Yeah.
days.
I'm sure.
Cool.
It's gonna take some awesome memories home with me, and this hand injury. And
Hey, take only memories. Leave only footprints.
okay, yeah, sure, I will.
All right, that's it. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Da-da.